Let's go! A. Halo? Siema? O! Chyba dobra, witam. Witamy oczywiście na Dzień Kobiet, wiem. Nie wiem, czy to coś zmieni, ale tak, witamy 8 marzec, Dzień Kobiet, no i witamy oczywiście na regionalsach Vancouver w Kanadzie. Tak, dla odmiany Kanada. Zapewne będą przypomnienia, co tam się działo w San Antonio, no nie muszę słuchać, kto wygrał wtedy. Ale dobra, w międzyczasie może... Jak będą jakieś tam informacje, no to będziemy po prostu robili te figurki. One są tutaj przygotowane, a... Więc co oznacza tutaj odkręcenie troszeczkę. No tak, obraca się kamera? Obraca się. Obraca się! No, będzie skręcona, ale gdzieś. No, fajna piosenka. Dobra, przykręcono. Kto będzie nas witał?
Welcome in, Pokemon fans, to our trading card game regional championship
Amerykański,
here
który
in
Pablo Meza.
Vancouver, Canada.
Ciekawe jestem, czy Pablo Meza komentuje, czy gra.
It's a little rainy, a little chilly outside, but the action is surely heating up here in the tournament hall. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here in the lounge to kick off the show by Ethan, Hegster, Heggy, and Juan.
Dobra, tym razem nie ma Pablo Mezy.
Bo
czasami trzeba pamiętać o tym, że Pablo Meza czasem gra. Nie zawsze on może komentować, ale tak, można być graczem, komentatorem. To jest
absolutely beautiful city. The minute we drove up,
tym razem no nie mamy.
You just feel it in the air, but the minute you get into the hall, you feel the
tutaj
energy,
niestety,
you feel the competition is going to be fierce.
Absolutely.
Tutaj
Yeah,
muszę się
certainly one of the
upewnić,
most
czy jest
beautiful
jakaś
stops on our regional
synchro, żeby
circuit.
tak
And speaking of
zobaczyć,
the regional circuit, let's take a look at the schedule through the rest of the year, see where we've been, see where we're headed as well. Just a few more tournaments until
no tak, tutaj mówią, że pozostało tylko 4 turnamenty do turnieje w Stanach do LCA. No, tylko trzeba przypomnieć oczywiście, że na jednym z turniejów amerykańskich, czyli w Atlancie, będzie nowy format i warto przypomnieć, że tutaj gramy jeszcze po staremu, czyli jeszcze mamy takie rzeczy jak Regio, bo istnieje, więc no, będziemy musieli jeszcze przeboleć.
Sitting atop this event for the first place winner and tons of other great prizes along the way as well.
Yeah, of course, and we can see here how many masters, seniors, and juniors will be invited to the World Championships.
Przechodzi oczywiście ten invite
125
właściwie na osoby, które
125 for EU as well, 100 for LA, 20 for OC, and a 10 for MEA and SA. But again, that makes these points so coveted. It's not like past years where we just have to reach a threshold. Now you have to maintain a top 125 standing out of our thousands and thousands of players.
To właśnie w Pokemonach te
it's
nie
going
są
to be a
takie
tight
wyższe
race down
stawki
to
nagrodowe
the
niż...
finish. It's really going to come down to that North American International Championships. And I want to ask you, Ethan, I mean, you're someone who has competed quite a bit yourself this season. You've played in quite a few major events. I know you've been competing locally as well.
Już jest automatycznie.
What does it kind of feel like this grind right now, fighting for that top 125 spot?
To już zobaczymy w sumie akurat. No Azu to już nie tak, więc Azu to już nie musi Azu jest niesamowity o tyle, że on rzadko przychodzi, a i tak zgarnia dobre wyniki, a jeszcze ostatnio wygrał.
Those of you who have been following this season will remember there was a pretty big disparity the last few years. 200 points for the regional, but 500 points for the international, and that scaled pretty heavily too for how things kicked down.
Największego klasyka, czy chyba znacie, Shader to jest F-Shade, no to jest najbardziej znany, popularny dosyć Shader, jeśli chodzi o War. Od Cytadele?
Give yourself a spot in there. And you can only get so many from locals, and you can only max out your regionals. So even if you could go to every regional, for example, you need those good finishes in order to get that spot.
Yeah, gotta lock up at least one top 16-ish finish probably in order to be fighting for a chance. And of course those internationals play a big factor as well, because they do still have higher payouts for, you know, some of those lower thresholds like the top 64s and so on and so forth. So we are coming off of the European International Championships, but it wasn't too long ago that we were down in Texas for the San Antonio Regional Championships. Let's take a look back and see what happened on that weekend in Texas.
Wygoda mi się kończy, bo ona też pod wpływem naparuje trochę.
It was a rare, chilly weekend in San Antonio,
tutaj mamy
Texas,
przypomnienie, co się działo w San Antonio. No tutaj jest przypomnienie...
There were 7 unique decks standing above the rest
Tak, to było fajne akurat, te finały były zajebiste. No i tu jest bitwa między Henry Chowem a właśnie Aleksem Szymańskim, czy tam powinno się mówić Szymański. Tak za bardzo spolszczam.
And the 2023 EUIC champion Alex was aiming to claim his first ever regional title. These players traded
Szymański ma
blows in
czasem
the
jakieś
finals,
śmieszne
with Henry winning
pomysły.
game 1 and Alex winning game 2. In game 3, Henry's setup was
No, to jest przypomnienie dla tych, co
and Alex
mogli
was
nie
able to take
oglądać, co
multiple
się tam
prize cards
wydarzyło
with his
oczywiście w
fan
San
Rotom's
Antonio.
assault landing attack. Henry thought he was out of the game, but after an Iono top deck, he was able to see his path.
Kurde,
his chance
Iono.
to claim
To jest jedna karta, która zadecydowała, że Henry Chow ponownie wygrał. To jest cudo.
Over the course of the next few turns,
No,
Henry
te
was able to
sezony
target
ostatnie
Alex's
Pokemonów,
support
TCG to
engine
przechodzą
with
jakoś
Screamtail's
ciekawie do
rolling attack.
historii.
This all led to Henry's improbable comeback and his second regional title of the season.
Tak, no ale też tym
Yet
samym
another
warto
intense
zaznaczyć,
finals
pan
match
Szymański
leads to
również
an
zdobywa
unforgettable Pokemon
bardzo
Regional
istotnego
Championships.
Enlighta.
Never miss a beat and head to pokemon.com/compete to
No
get
tak,
in on
i
the
można sobie to obejrzeć na oficjalnym kanale Pokémon, jeżeli ktoś jest ciekaw, co tam się wydarzyło. I tak, Szymański na pewno będzie na ulicach, więc tu już macie pewność.
Most Pokemon players only dream of, winning a regional championships, and now he joins a very slim
No,
list
raczej
of
już
players who have won
mieliśmy
multiple, and an
już
even smaller list of
w tych
players who have won
dzisiejszych
multiple
sezonach
in the
różne
same
ciekawe
season.
rzeczy.
Yeah,
Zeszłoroczne
and
NAC,
into the season,
rzut
not a lot of
kością,
players
który
who
zdecydował o
really had a
wygranej
finish at NAIC the
Hendrixa,
year prior,
albo
but
na
has
przykład
just come in
tutaj
and showed
jedna
everybody
karta
he is
decydująca,
truly
no a
one of
w
the best players in the world
UAC,
and
w
one
sumie
of
to
the
już nie
best
zmieni, bo
hardcore
tu
pilots
Vancouver
in the
raczej.
entire world. Absolute performance from him last time, two-time regional champ this season.
Let's recap that
To sobie
meta
oglądajmy.
from day 2 of the San Antonio
O,
Regional
dobra, muszę
Championships.
zaktualizować, bo to jest nieaktualne.
Check out for that event.
A, to jak wyglądały te analizyki, wtedy był Reggie Drago, bo to było jeszcze zanim wszedł Badew i wszystko zrujnował. Co ciekawe, Reggie Drago sam gra Badewa. No dobra, no niby tak, rozwali mi Reggie Drago, ale ja sobie mogę pierdolnąć Lensa.
This was the metagame for San Antonio. A lot of amazing decks. I believe this was also our Chalodon's kind of.
No, ale
better
Chalodon
showing,
to jest też takie
sort
spore
of, so seeing it here
zaskoczenie.
into the day 2 made a lot of sense. And of course, you know, Charizard, something we don't see too often in this format now too. So a lot of things really can shake up in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
Swoją drogą akurat ja gram jeszcze z tego San Antonio z Doblaxa.
The Merida Regional Championships happened.
Może i wredny.
And that leads us into our European International Championships, where we did see Ryuki Okada take down that event.
Tak, poprzednio jak wiecie, Ryuki Okada wykonał znowu najszybsze finały w historii Pokémon TCG. Jakie pokety, no szybciej kurwa przecież wygrał Kraven.
Just seeing Cloth being able to take that turn 1 knockout, even if it's your first turn, it does it pretty well, and I feel like Ryuki has definitely done it a couple of times in that tournament.
Let's take a look at the meta breakdown from day 2 of the European International Championships, and I'm sure that is something that is going to have a big impact on what players are playing for our tournament.
Tak, no i
And one of
tak.
the big stories
No i można też tu warto zauważenia, jakie ogromne różnice są oczywiście pomiędzy tymi dekami. No tak jak mówiłem wcześniej, w San Antonio jeszcze przed pryzmatikami dominował oczywiście Reggie Patafian. Niestety Reggie Patafian z powodów
specifically with prismatic evolutions, and that's what makes Pokemon TCG so interesting. It's like chess, but the pieces are always changing. Look at the fall off from Regidrago. Went from a 21% favorite all the way to essentially the best of the rest, and it's all because of
Zmieniło
one
się tutaj.
small little bug.
Więc można zauważyć tutaj bardzo ogromne różnice
top tier archetypes and completely shaping up how things play out for the meta.
And I think one of the biggest surprises at UIC was definitely that Golden Go EX, a deck that I think most people had completely written off, but one of the top groups from the North American region decided to bring that deck to UIC, and that led to it having a really strong showing in day 2 of the event.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we saw earlier San Antonio, Henry Chow winning it with Gardevoir EX. Henry Chow is known as the Gardevoir player, but he rocks into EUIC with Golden Go. You just have to know something is up with that deck. There is some secret sauce with the big cheese man.
So we're at a regional championships here now. We will be adding one more person's name to the list of winners so far this season, and let's take a look at who has won these
tu
events
mamy
so
oczywiście
far.
wygranych tego sezonu. Henry Chow po raz drugi, jak pokazuje, to taka pierwsza wygrana.
Yeah, and don't forget, of course, every regional champion does get an automatic invitation to the World Championships, which was relevant last year, but even more so this year, because it essentially means that now what the top 125 essentially could become, in this case, the top,
Tak, no i tutaj no tego Henry Chow z drugą wygraną. No, a czy pierwsze miejsce? No chyba, że się zdobyło tego invite'a, no to on już automatycznie przechodzi akurat na miejsce drugie, czyli a Szymański nie miał voyage invite'a, więc on zdobył. Zinvitowany jest Szymański, no to trzeba zrobić.
Prestige that
No
comes
też
with
trzeba, pamiętać, że to trzeba
and
robić
these are not
tak,
our
żeby
only
właśnie
champions
te
this year. It's of
invite'y...
course a global game. We've got champions from all over. Let's take a look at the European regional
No tutaj
champions so
jeszcze
far this year.
Czempiony,
And that's
no
a familiar
tutaj
face
są
we just talked
różni
about.
akurat
Yuki
regionalsy,
Okada
no bo
winning
tutaj
that very first regional
mieliśmy
championship of the
najpierw
season.
Okadę, potem mamy naszego Coxa, żeby mnie nie zdemonetyzowali, bo wiecie, Cox, hehe. Cotti, mamy oczywiście i dwóch Finów na dodatek. Warto zaznaczyć, że oczywiście w poprzednich regionach Birmingham Polak otarł się oczywiście o finale, tylko niestety właśnie z tym Finem przegrał. Nie pomyślałby, że można wcisnąć do Charizarda.
Really had great success so far this season over in the European region.
Yeah, don't sleep on Europe whatsoever. You know, maybe not as large in terms of
No
tournament
nie wiem, czy
size
dobrym
or,
pomysłem będą te
players
oczy,
coming
bo
out to these
oczy
events,
to
but they
są
are
najpierliwsze
super strong, no matter
rzeczy,
if it's
tak
an
swoją
international
drogą.
championship in Europe itself, or
Są
you know, if they come over to
najbardziej
North America, these players are
pierliwe
fighting for
rzeczy,
those
czyli
championship
właśnie
points. They're
oka.
fighting for that money, and they are not going to be easy
Ach,
opponents to
chyba
take
będziemy
down.
brasem to robili,
Well,
bo...
let's talk about the tournament
prawie
this
w ogóle
weekend, and I
nie
think
widzę.
it's probably no surprise, and I think what most people would expect, Dragapult TX going to be an extremely popular choice for the event this weekend. It's going to be one of the top decks. It was the most popular deck at EUIC. It ends up doing extremely well in the tournament. There's multiple different ways to play the deck as well, as we saw from each of the 3 top lists being different builds of the deck. Wancho, what do you make of Dragapult right now?
No, yeah, Dragapult just seems like a deck that
Tak,
can almost
Dragapult,
do it
no
all.
tak jak mówię, no jedna karta, czyli Pader, namieszał tej mecie bardzo dosadnie, co na przykład w UAC mocno było widać.
So powerful, and especially with the unfair stamp, it seems really unfair. You knocked out Badoo and suddenly I only have 2 cards in hand. I barely got to play any cards. But you know what, I really do want to hear
jeśli
from
chodzi
Ethan
też
here, our
o
resident
regionalsy w
Dragapult
Birmingham,
expert.
jedną z ciekawych rzeczy jest to, że Aleksander Rutkowicz, czyli właśnie Polak, o którym wspomniałem, nosił koszulkę z klubu 2020.
Big shout out to her for her incredible performance last weekend. But yeah, that was kind of the sentiment going into the format, right? You look at all the decks that exist in the metagame, and Dragapult is kind of the deck that can handle everything that comes at its way. You know, there's lots of really powerful decks. There's, you know, the Snorlax that can trap. You know, you have Lugia, which can, you know, blow things up. You've got the Gardevoir that seems to draw a bunch of cards and refine. But Dragapult kind of just covers all of its bases. It has the built-in draw engine. It has the access to the Sparkling Crystal to allow you to attack really easily. And that was just sort of the idea coming in. You can handle anything. And that's, I think, a lot of the sentiment for good players coming into the room. It's a similar feeling to Regidrago in a sense, right? That was what gravitated a lot of players to play this deck. It had a lot of control, it was a good deck, and there was some agency behind it, right? You know, you could
Istotną też
outplay your
rzeczą
opponents.
przy malowaniu figurek jest to, żeby one porządnie, jeżeli...
Dragapult's probably the best abuser
No
of first class
tutaj jest pytanie, jaką listą grać najlepiej, which list way to play?
It does feel like the Dusknoir build is the most popular, but we saw a few interesting innovations from other players at EUIC. Of course, Gabriel Fernandez ends up winning in the seniors division with his build that had a Monkey Dory, a Darkness Energy, a Blood Moon Ursaluna EX as well. His brother Vinny, of course, getting top 8 in the Masters division with that same 60. And then there's also some Charizard builds running around as well. Ancho, which one do you like most?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I did like Jesper's Dragazard build. I feel like just being able to have that big Charizard EX, maybe for the later game. Maybe you didn't get to finish things off with your 260. How about we start hitting for 300 damage? But not gonna lie, I do love the unfair stamp. Like seeing Tord play it and seeing a lot of the players play it, it just feels really bad. Again, you didn't get to play any of your cards yet. You dealt with Badu. Your opponent goes Arvin, unfair stamp. My deck is, I haven't been able to thin my deck, and I only have 2 cards to get me out of this position, and I'm facing a Dragapult EX. That's tough.
We'll see which version of the deck ends up succeeding the most this weekend. And speaking of what we think we're going to see succeed this weekend, let's look at our caster predictions for this event. What do each of us believe to be the card to find the most success? And Monkey Dory seems like it was a pretty popular choice amongst the 5 of us this weekend.
Okej, tutaj widzę, że tu mamy predykcję. Lugia jest predykcją. Ciekawe, Konfi, ciekawe. Monkey Dory jest zakładany 3 razy i tutaj widzimy, że Problemeza albo gra, albo po prostu odpuścił zakomentowanie. No i Snorlax i Dragapult widzę i Badu! O ja, chyba ja się nie dziwię. No Snorlax ostatnio ma zajebisty. Akurat.
Becomes a liability if you're planning to put extra damage on your opponent's Pokemon with a deck like Dragapult or a lot of the decks that just leave damage on your opponent's side.
I think it really just shows the testament to how powerful Dragapult is, right? Being able, just that 60 damage, you just need to move that out. Maybe throw a wrench at their plans. And I think Monkey Dory just does just that. But hey, you
no, ale widzę, że 3 razy 3 komentatorów dało Monkey Dory.
I assumed you would be picking Lugia as one of your caster predictions. Very on brand for you, my friend. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking along the lines of this is the last tournament before rotation, a point we haven't really quite talked about too much yet. It's one last ride for some of these players with some of their favorite decks from the last couple of years, and I think without a doubt, over the last couple of seasons, Lost Zone Toolbox decks and Lugia V-Star have been some of the most dominant decks throughout whichever format they were a part of.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about back to the history of Vancouver, this is sort of a port for Lugia V-Star if you think about it. Lugia loves to land here. Let's not forget, Ian Robb won the regional championships with a very different version of Lugia V-Star, one of, the most powerful decks of all time with the Rainbow Energy, the Aurora Energy, all of those special pieces.
Że ja mam zablokowane, może
I think, as many
póki ja nie zrobię
Pokemon TCG, when you respect the deck as little as possible, that is when a deck comes up. Is that sort of the sentiment that you have here, Chip, for the pick of just going with Lugia?
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems pretty decently positioned in the meta right now, especially if Golden Go picks up in popularity. You get the 2-2 Chinchino in there. I think that's a pretty good matchup for Lugia V-Star. But we want you guys to stay up to date with everything that's happening, not just for this tournament, but for all of our events moving forward through the rest of the season and beyond as well. Be sure to check out Pokemon.com/broadcasts, stay up to date, and make sure you are totally caught up on when the next tournament is going to be broadcast, who's going to be casting it, and where and what time you need to be tuning in. Gentlemen, it's been a great start off to our morning here. I think we're getting ready to get into our next Swiss round. Let's throw it over to the casters and get into Swiss round 3.
Przechodzimy do testerów.
Thank you, Chip, Wancho, and Ethan. Jeremy Jallin here with Kyle Sablehouse. We are Safe Ballin', and we are at Vancouver for the regional championships, and we are about to get started for this tournament, but let's go ahead and take a look at the video to see how the tournament's going to shape up.
Siema, jak tam meta dzisiaj, już wiadomo? No jeszcze nie. Były predykcje, chociażby na 3 komentatorów dawał Monkey Dory. Nie dziwię się czemu, bo ta małpa na mieszuje potrafi. Na przykład przy Goldengo on jest dobry. Czyli pozornie wydaje się bezużyteczny, ale z drugiej strony ma to sens, bo przynajmniej właśnie odejmujesz przynajmniej jedną energię, którą możesz wziąć z discarda.
On day 2, the pressure intensifies rise as the remaining trainers face off in more Swiss rounds to determine who
fajny, on
advances
jeszcze
to
się...
the top cut. After all Swiss rounds are completed,
lubię.
the top 8 competitors plus all competitors
Znaczy,
with
tak
the
jak mówię,
same
jeszcze
number
nie
of
wiadomo
match
jak się
points as
prezentuje
8th
meta,
place
zaraz
will
chyba
advance
będą
into an
oczywiście
asymmetrical
pierwsze.
top cut single
Że będziemy
elimination
też oglądać, też
bracket.
w międzyczasie i
Win
tak te
and you
figury
move on,
winny być, no.
lose and your journey ends. Only one
No,
trainer will
to
rise
jeszcze
above the
trzeba
rank to
do
claim
tego
the
dobrać.
title of regional
No, na przykład
champion.
zakryć.
Who will etch their name into the
Plany.
history books this weekend? And who will punch their ticket to Worlds 2025 in Anaheim? Don't miss a minute of the action. Stay tuned all weekend long to watch the battles unfold live. To stay up to date on future Play Pokemon events, visit
Fajnie, co malujesz? A,
Pokemon.com/play.
figurki, ja już pokazuję, co to są Legionarsy z Kill Teama,
Alright, Kyle, we
które
have
jeszcze
our
zostały,
round
ale
three
chyba mamy
already
już
up and
pierwszy...
running.
Ty, zaraz,
Cody
bez
Graham
radu.
with Lugia
Matt
Beast starting
Wood,
against
widzę,
Matthew
będziemy...
Wood with
Czyli
Golden
mamy
Go
Cody Grahama i Mata Matthew Wooda, który, no oczywiście z PTS-a, no tego człowieka możecie kojarzyć, Matthew Wooda z YouTube'a. Może nie taki nowy ten kill, swoją drogą. No i oczywiście Matthew gra Goldengo, a Cody Graham... A kurwa, chwileczkę, bo tutaj się zacięło. Lugio! Dawno nie było w sumie Lugi, tak swoją drogą. Stęskniliście się za Lugią na streamach. No, to są ostatnie momenty, w których możecie jeszcze ją zobaczyć. No, czasami oczywiście Matthew Wood pokazuje na swoim kanale YouTube, oczywiście bardziej takie mniej oczywiste deki, takie bardziej rogue'owate. Ale no tutaj raczej idziemy w standardowy build Goldego. Lubię spadać do rotacji. No, tak samo jak Palkia. No ale wiesz, to będzie ostatni moment, w którym zobaczysz w ogóle Lugię na streamie. Cieszmy się. No ale z Lugią bywa różnie. Znaczy Goldengo ma 50-50. No tutaj raczej w tym matchupie Reggie Gigas, czyli druga ważna karta w Prismatic Evolution, z którą jeszcze nie dogram. In the chat for Lugia. Ta, wszystko co ma F, dosłownie F leci. Ja kibicuję Goldengo. No Goldengo, znaczy Palkia, no wcześniej była ta wersja z Palkią. O, Energy Search Pro tutaj i może to i lepiej, bo dwie energie różne akurat. Chociaż pytanie, no Lugia trochę wymaga. Tu mamy oczywiście, no co ciekawe, też bardzo ważny dla po stronie Cody'ego oczywiście Iron Hands, który pozwoliłby przynajmniej zrobić Ampium match na Gimigulach, a tutaj... No i oczywiście mamy jeszcze Minchino, który jest też dość istotny w tym matchupie, no... I jeszcze z Cinchino! Co się tu stało? Ja... Ciekawe, czy on gra drugie 2-2 Minchino Cinchino, no bo na przykład Rahul gra zawsze jednego 1-1. Ewentualnie gra tego Raiku. Więc no, zaczyna się nieciekawie, powiem. Ja też uda, bo oglądam ten pomysł z tym, ten deck na klafer był śmieszny. No, czyli on gra 1-1, no 2-2 widzę, dobra, czyli jest Minchino jedno, to czyli co oznacza, że z czego co widzę, to akurat Matthew Wood gra, widzę, klewki, które może tak nie za bardzo się przydadzą, no bo klefeczki blokują jednak basiki jednak. No ale w łapie też ma grę ninja. O! Czy on gra tą wersją Goldengo, którą ja gram czasem? Goldengo Bolt! Tak. Właśnie widziałem Dripiego. Tak, to jest Goldengo Bolt! Tak. To może być przyszła Palkia w Goldengo, jakby ktoś wiedział. Ma sens. Dragapult też pozwala nam łatwiej zrozumieć Goldengo, tak! Goldengo, tak! W Japonii już to grają. Czy ja gram 2-2-2? Ale tak jak mówię, no to może być taki przyszły sojusznik i ja. No i mamy oczywiście deseczkę. A, widzę, że Matt gra jeszcze te gimigule z 50. To są te, które mają to Call for Family, ale tak, tutaj jest trochę tego utrudnienia. Ma trochę sens te klewki. Sojusz eksperymentów. Aha, no widzę research. Klewki pozwalają oczywiście na blokowanie wszystkim basicom abilitek. Ale widzę, że Cody Graham gra bardzo ciekawą rzecz, mianowicie Cornerstone Ogerpon, który no nie jest zazwyczaj w lugi grany. Aczkolwiek tak jak wspomniałem wcześniej, no Matthew gra oczywiście tego Dragapulta, który może być kontrą. A że... Właśnie, wziął sobie Cornerstone'a, a gdzie Lugia? A, jest Lugia, okej. Czyli Ultra Ball po Lugie, no ma to sens. No ale tak jak mówię, no to jest trochę ciekawe, bo zazwyczaj jest grany w lugi Whispering Ogerpon. No i zapewne też możliwość ataku powinna być. Z tego powodu, że Lugia gra Legacy energię, która pozwala nam zastąpić dowolną energię, plus jeszcze umniżyć. Znaczy widzę, że tutaj jak na razie idziemy kontrolnie, no to też oznaczam 10! No niestety jak na razie jest problem po stronie Wooda. W sumie ten Kona z tą Ogerpą to dobry metal core, dużo atakerów ma abilitkę. No ale no z drugiej strony, no ma sens, bo też zastępowanie na przykład w przypadku... O, wchodzi Jacek Placek po Lugie Wistar oraz Chinchino. A oczywiście niestety klewki nie blokują w ogóle, no niestety... No niestety akurat klewki nie blokują Lugi, więc tutaj można sobie użyć jak gdyby nic, no Cornerstone'a już tak, tylko szkoda, tylko... No, czyli wchodzą już Arkerusy. No jakby był ten... Iron Torch, to byłoby ciężej. Znaczy przy Goldengo to ma sens, no ale skończy się to na etapie, w którym to potem wchodzi Dragapult, który akurat abilitki nie ma, warto zaznaczyć. Goldengo abilitkę ma, ale Dragapult już abilitki nie ma. No dobra, no i mamy oczywiście Chinchino. I to jeszcze no, przynajmniej z 2 energii. No tutaj mamy oczywiście giftę, która jest trochę głównym draw engine'em oczywiście w Lugi. No bo wszystko się oczywiście opiera o tę giftkę. Na zasadzie no, trzeba to znokautować, ale że... Czyli można zrobić różne rzeczy, tak, double turbo. No, Chinchino może no, być dobry, no, czy chłop gra faktycznie 2-2, czy 2-2 linię ewolucyjną, no bo były też lugie, które grały po prostu 1-1 i wystarczy, że się jedno no, to i tak wystarczy, tak. No tutaj widzę, że są te gimigule mniejsze, te z... No ale chyba zażał. Mamy Pokestopa, mamy Puffina i mamy jeszcze naszego złotego cięcia. No zresztą po rotacji Goldengo będzie naprawdę świetne. No aczkolwiek chyba widzę, że już wchodzi setuping no Drippy Dragapult, więc let's go. No warto zaznaczyć, że w tym buildzie się nie gra Candy. Znaczy można grać Candy, ale z drugiej strony Dracloak też dużo daje. No wiecie, takie dodatkowe draw engine. Goldengo to jest w ogóle specjalność kopania się. Zresztą warto zaznaczyć, że ten build może być o tyle spoko, bo na przykład jak mamy jeszcze na przykład tego Mytolika, to możemy tym Goldengo lecieć. No to raz i 2. No, mamy... No i widzę metalową energię, która jest dosyć istotna. No ale chyba raczej do Chinchino nie potrzebujemy raczej więcej niż 2 energii, więc... No. No i mamy oczywiście Cypher Maniac Code Breaking. No, oczywiście standardowo. Monkey Dory. Aha, widzę, że mi się już... A, Pixeloza, nie! Pixeloza musiała mi się zrobić! A dziś grają 7 rund? No możliwe, że tak, do chyba do 7, ale no 7 runda to pewnie będzie już dawno po północy by była. Bo tu mówimy o drugiej stronie, mówimy o Kanadzie, tutaj dla odmiany. Ale styl mówi o tym samym czasówce. Aha, dobra, laga dostał Twitch. Sen jest dla słabych. Chyba... Dobra, chwileczkę, bo dostało wylewu, bo widzę Pokestop. Ty, cwane. A, właśnie widzę, co zrobił. On chyba gra w 2 drippy? Czy mi się wydaje, że drugi? No 2, wystarczy. No i oczywiście draw. No, jeszcze była wariant z Togakisem, który brał dodatkowego prize'a. A zobaczymy, będzie oglądać. No i wchodzi oczywiście Cornerstone Ogerpon. No tak, jest Legacy, no bo jak inny spec w Lugi może być. Chociaż nie wiem, czy ten... No, czasami jeszcze z Lugiem śmieszne rzeczy są takie, że czasami grany jest jeszcze... Ja nawet nie żartuję, wciskają nawet Drapiona w V. Wy pękniecie ze śmiechu. Tak, jest rok 2025 i dalej gramy Drapion V. Mew VMAX istnieje! O Boże. Jak ja... Nie no, z tym Drapionem to była beka zawsze. O, bo Sordar na drip. Ja jednego dripiego.
How do you even compete against this Pokemon? You could try to target down
no
nie!
But
if the bench stays true at just these 4 Pokemon, he can continue to just bring up the
nie!
and take knockouts left and right, and not have to worry about the prizes being removed. 4 prizes in 5.
Luxray w Miraidonie. Może zobaczymy, lol! Nie, na szczęście jeszcze takich numerów jak Luxray nie było. Można by było, ale... To co? Chyba, że tak kontrolnie. Chociaż Mew VMAX kiedyś grał też czasem Luxraya. Tylko, że jeszcze to tutaj miało to sens, bo jest double turbo. No nie... Drippy doleciał, nie... No właśnie, tu się pojawia ten cały problematyczny Mezagoza. Co, Hec czy Tails? Bo tutaj zasłaniam. A, chyba Tails był, dobra. Ale za to jest inna fajna rzecz. Pan szympans, okej. No, szympans już jest tu. Chociaż tak wygląda śmiesznie trochę z tym użyciem abilitki, no bo to trochę wygląda tak.
And that is it. Honestly, I don't think there's a way for Matthew to really kind of combat this
Ale widać, że...
with the
Znaczy, sam fakt, że ktoś wcisnął sobie... Bo wiecie, zazwyczaj gra się Whispering Ogerpona, ale kto pomyślał, że można wcisnąć Cornerstone Ogerpon? No, to jest trochę ciężki wybór, więc...
I'm guessing there is one Iono, which is a big difference from the popular list from EUIC, where you had no hand disruption at all in Golden Go. So having the ability to maybe Iono Cody to 1 or 2 late game and then try to get that Dreepy set up.
No to jest ten cały trochę... Czy jest Bosik, tak? Chyba Bosik będzie lubię, czy nie? Counter Catcher w Archopsa. Okej, ma to trochę sens. No, Counter Catcher, ja nie będę palić. No, no szkoda Counter Catcherów, tak? Widzę, że Matt bierze oczywiście z dołu. No i też Iono.
It's gonna put both players
Że
down
zobacz,
to
już tak
4.
zdetronizował tego,
It's not a lot
kurde...
of cards, but Cody has
Znaczy,
everything
ja się
he
spodziewałem
needs
bardziej
in play.
Whisperinga, ale...
Matthew, each turn is gonna
Kolejny
have to
boss
try to find
order.
bosses orders and a bunch of energy.
This is always such an interesting place for
Aha,
a
znowu
player like
stream
Cody in this
dostał
position
wylewu.
of,
Ej,
"I've already done
ej,
everything
panie
I need to do.
streamie.
The only
Nie
thing
wylewaj
left
mi
is
się.
Don't screw up, don't
Okej,
overbench in
znowu
spots
wylew.
like this. Don't give my opponent
Okej,
an
mamy
out to
Lumineona.
maybe sneak out a
Tak,
victory
tak.
and not have to deal with this
Kusząca
cornerstone
opcja,
mask.
bardzo fajny
He's doing
pomysł,
what he needs to right now,
najzajebistszy.
just
No to
search
mamy
through the text,
oczywiście
burn
kolejnego
some cards
basica.
and fill up your hand for if you ever need to
Właśnie,
make
no
a push
tutaj
with a
może
card
być
like a
potem
boss's
problem.
orders at some point.
Yeah, I think literally
to jest takie
the only time
ciężkie
a Pokemon's
pomiędzy
gonna get
bossy-
benched is on the last turn of the game. and it's
Order.
gonna be Lumineon 4 bosses orders.
Yes, yep. That's all we're looking for at this
Znaczy,
point.
czy tak
Hold on to
niby
that.
Disrupt
If your
Masters,
opponent
chociaż z
hand
drugiej
gets,
strony trzeba pamiętać, że
a
sam
little too
Goldie
big and you think that
jest
they're holding
oczywiście
on to
samym
anything
silnikiem.
like the IO,
Nawet jeżeli nie robimy
you
dla
know that at this
ataku,
point, what
to
Matthew
możemy
has,
zawsze
you've
dla
sold Dreepy,
paru
for
dodatków.
goodness sake. You're thinking of everything, but you already have
Ciekawe
everything
gra,
on
bo...
board too.
Można grać... Czy ja wolałabym sobie popaść tak...
Looking through the list, even
Goldego-
something like, yeah, there is the one
No.
technical machine evolution, so maybe that can come into
A,
play.
raczej nie wiem,
in
czy on
game
gra
2 or
jednego?
something, just really get that cloak down,
Tak
then you
swoją
drag
drogą?
pull, keep it safe
Że
from
gra
everything,
jedną
but
parę, no
Rodriguez-
to trochę słabo, bo...
I mean, there's nothing that says you
Dwie są
can't
trochę
include that
pewniejsze,
in
ale rozumiem,
right
trochę to
now.
też zależy, bo chcemy
If you
być
wanna
bardziej
sneak that into
Goldingo.
your Iono turn
A,
and try
tak.
to evolve and have that
Logia jest
turn
już
quicker.
tak napakowana, no to ciekawe, no
Look
dobra,
at this.
no
They're
zaraz.
just trying to find the
Nasz
right
deck
amount
zostaje
of energy to
odchudzony.
place down. Has clearly enough energy to attack with Lugia, but now the ability to even retreat this Pokemon if it were to get stuck in the active spot.
I think the
Czy
time's
wiem,
gonna
że
be
były
an
jeszcze
active spot before it gets
Flasher
knocked out.
Mine.
I tend to think that too, as we
A,
see.
dobra,
but of course,
no
when
to
you see
jeszcze
one Archeop's
myślimy.
already knocked out, you start to assume the other one's going at this point too. Might as well thin that
Dobra,
energy.
i koń
Our
bonus.
technical machine play that we were talking about can't
Dobra,
really work when Matthew draws
koń
the
bonus.
cloak, I guess. If you combine it with the
Cyphermaniak,
Iono,
no
it
tutaj
will,
się
but
pojawia ciężki wybór.
even just struggling to get the amount of energies here, you
Mamy
have
bossa,
superior energy
mamy-
retrieval,
A,
but if you need to try to dig for more with a Cypher Maniac, you can't really bring up the Pokemon because you're already used to it. Your supporter
Tails,
cannot boss his
sad.
orders.
No tu się pojawia trochę ciężki wybór.
Yeah, there's not
No i ma
much
kolejny koń
to work on
bonus.
here.
Yes.
Trying to find
I
an
dwa,
answer.
Arweny
Double
dwa,
Arven,
yeah.
triple Arven in hand. Maybe not
Yeah, not gonna help.
gonna help you at this spot.
Ale mam... O, Pokesto, dobra, let's go. Pokesto, Dragapult,
This is just over.
That's
Puffin.
not great.
With that Dragapult EX going in the
Chociaż ma tu-
discard, there's just one Night Stretcher left to try to bring back, what, both the Dreepy and the Dragapult EX? There's no way to get around this cornerstone.
Yeah, that's not how that card works. Well, you have the switch. You can preserve the hit points on this Golden Go, move into another one. And
I guess you have Monkey Dory. Just a bunch
Żeby
of
się będzie
Adrenagrains. Hope to
szampański.
dodge the boss's orders every turn.
Ale wiesz, no, kto by się spodziewał, że
But
kuźwa
you know
będzie
what?
Lugia z Cornerstone'em, no bo to raczej nikt nie pomyślał w sumie.
There's 35
o tym.
minutes left in this match, and it's pretty much already over, but you have to think that
Gimigu,
Matthew's gonna
dobra,
keep trying to play this out. But to what?
Yeah, that's well, what do you have to gain from this point? You know that you're already at a difficult spot. This is nearly insurmountable when you're up against the pressure of the cornerstone. It's not that it's that difficult to handle, but you just know you can't knock out that Pokemon. And look at this, the pressure from Cody now of bringing up the Lugia.
Yeah, with Jet Energy, you have to bring it up, so attaching it there, but you can retreat it with the Devil
No,
Turbo
ale kto by
Energy,
się spodziewał
and then have
takich
it still have 4
numerów,
energy like
kuźwa,
you were
no.
saying.
Just wants to have as many energy out of the deck at this
No
point.
tak wiecie,
And
każdy
it is
trochę
well
przyzwyczajony
timed.
był na przykład do...
That's a window.
Dobra, boss.
How do you feel about that, Jeremy?
It's a window, maybe a door. It's not closing yet.
I think Matthew's thinking I've got a chance here. This
Yeah.
Now, of course, for Cody, he's got a lot of information. He sees that he could take a knockout maybe on a Pokemon like the Golden go down to 2 prize cards remaining, and maybe win the race. But if you slow down at any point, then Matthew could come right back into this thing.
Yeah, this is going to allow Pheasantipity to be live for Matthew. That's 3 cards, 2 cards from the coin bonus, and then the other one that's 6 cards. Has the second superior energy retrieval in hand now. Just boss's orders.
No kurde, wszystko by się udało, gdyby nie.
Honestly, we could see Countercatcher Iono, I think, is what Matthew's going to try to play for this turn.
Yeah, has the boss's orders already, but if you can incorporate the Iono,
To jest szympans, tylko właśnie cały trochę problem się już zaczyna. Dużo kart, a nie ma za bardzo co zrobić. No, tutaj się pojawia, no, musi być superior. No, jestem ciekaw, czy taki build gra też bierze pod uwagę, no, Crispina. No, jest takie ważne.
The Iono will not work in that instance. Oh, it's the boss, but I mean, if your opponent doesn't have the answer,
no to jest czasem takie, no, minion.
Wants to take the prize card.
Well, there is that boss's orders brings up that Luminion V. This will be 2 prize cards for Matthew, who's going to be able to tie things up, but Cody needs just a simple boss's orders next turn to take this game 1.
Yep, playing to his outs, has the Iono, but had to use the boss's orders in that instance. If you could have held on to a counter catcher, had that opportunity, maybe we could have seen a huge turnaround here as we saw the Luminion played, but instead, that knockout, I think it just leads right into game at this point, as Cody should have lost.
No, 200, tak.
I don't see it though.
Yeah, I don't see it either. There's no way to get a Luminion either. Squawkabilly's not going to do it.
Hang on a second. What happened here?
We still have a game, folks.
I was convinced he had a second one of it, but yeah, the Luminion was just for the one. It's not there. It's Iono time. We're going to low hand
Właśnie, no ten whispering było tyle lepszym opcją, że on pozwalał jednak wtasować tą legacy energię, a tutaj raczej no nie użyjemy za very much za bardzo. Takie...
I think Matthew drew into his own Iono.
Oh boy. There's a boss.
Boss order, ale spokojnie, tutaj właśnie tak, coin bonus. Coin bonus!
Additional draws from the Pokestop to eventually find some fodder for the superior energy
Nest
retrieval.
ball,
Any item card helps out there. It's an
nest
additional
ball.
resource. There might be enough here just now. Superior energy retrieval, you can find.
You need 6 energy?
Yeah, you find 4 here. You probably throw an additional one away. Oh yeah, there's plenty.
Zaraz, czyżby Matt dał radę? Superior, dobra. I jeszcze pewnie będzie jakiś stretcher. Kolejny stretcher. Ja! Pierwszą rundę wygrywa Matthew Woods. Znalazł wszystkie energie. Woods! To Iono go uratowało. Ale w ogóle to jest takie dobre. W teorii fajne, ale w praktyce dużo lepiej by się sprawdził whispering. No, wsadzimy sobie tą legacy kurde do tego cornerstone'a i potem nagle Iron nie działa, no. To mógł być jakiś very much. No widać, że Matt wiedział. Znaczy Matthew ma, tak jak sobie wcześniej odpowiedzieć na jego cornerstone, jest to oczywiście Draga Ult, czyli jedyny Pokémon bez abilitki, dlatego trochę to zajmuje. Że w teorii fajne do czasu, kiedy, no, chciałoby się zaatakować potem jakimś innym Pokémonem, ale faktycznie widać, że bardzo ładnie, że on gra 3 bossy. 2 bossy zatem, no, czyli jest... Czyli widać tutaj dobrze przemyślany ten price trending, czyli po prostu idziemy bardziej, skupiamy się w graniu wokół cornerstone'a, czyli... Ale kurde, to Iono niby disruptą, okazuje się, że nie disruptą. A no, z drugiej strony jak już lecą te Iono, no to... Znaczy, też Goldego może polecieć w drugi, na przykład robiąc Evolution. To jest istotne, no więc jest też wariant na drugie. I tak, jak idziemy drudzy, no to... O, zrobię se Evo. No.
Well, it was surprise.
O, widzę, że kurde zaczynamy z Regigigasa. Tylko szkoda tylko, że nie mamy żadnego Tera Pokemona. Może, no chyba, że tylko Dragapult. A, nie wiem, Dragapult jest Tera. No ale sam fakt. No, oczywiście wraca Cornerstone. Ja, dwie lugie!
This is an opportunity to see that, but once more, these prize cards slowing Cody down. We've seen Iron Hands against Golden Go. He's such a pivotal card, early knockouts left and right, but that's not going to be the case. It's Cornerstone time once more.
No znowu mamy
Has the
Cornerstone.
Legacy energy in hand. We could just see some manual attachments to the Cornerstone. Forgo, Lugia, and
I
Archeops.
znowu Hens Prizak. Tak, Hens też, ale tutaj jest jeszcze gorzej, wyobraź sobie. No to mamy dwie Lugie, Wi. Gorzej się nie dało, tak? Z drugiej strony Matt ma bardzo fajną rękę, bo tu mamy Pafina, mamy kolejnego Gimigula. Specjalnie chyba tylko linię 1-1-1, no bo też ja zauważyłam, że też nawet się... No tutaj akurat no nieco lepsza po stronie Matta, no tu mamy dwie energie, tam jedno Goldego.
Buddy popping for Matthew is gonna find that Dreepy now and the Gimmighoul trying to get it
Tak,
down
znowu
as
Hens
fast as
Prize, ale
possible before the
Cornerstone już
Cornerstone
nie.
gets
No
charged
ale
up.
za to
And then
lubię
Marvin,
w
this
ogóle
is a
są
really
bolesne.
good turn one from Matthew.
Dawno nie grałem Lugią, ale... Oho. Mamy oczywiście Puffin i chyba on idzie po Evolution, żeby właśnie przygotować nasze gagatki od razu. Ja mówię, Kultengo jest przyszłością. To był... Okej, Hetz! Tak, jeśli... Tak, Hetz, on może wybrać dowolnego Pokemona. Czy on... Candy, czy... A nie, bo... A, Dragapult, już wiem o co chodzi. On wyewoluuje Evo, on czy ma energię? A, ma, widzę, że ma na ręku energię. Czyli przy Kuldengo to się gra 3, dwie psychiczne, dwie ogniste i reszta pojedynczo. No i tutaj oczywiście Evolution w Dripiego i w Goldengo, czyli Dracloak oraz oczywiście nasz Goldengo. No to będzie się zaczęła męczarnia. Tails! O Boże! No i oczywiście bardzo bolesny research. Czy mamy jakąś lubię? Jezus. A no tutaj przekładanie takie. No i tak, Fresh oczywiście Research, 2 Researchy, no przynajmniej jeden Archops, ale no to raczej za mało, no bo potem będzie...
Cody is debating an Ultra Ball in the hand. Discard Mezagoza, but has to get rid of a gift energy.
No dobra, mamy tutaj chyba jeszcze 20... A, dużo czasu widzę. No ale dało się jednak jeszcze gorzej.
I'm wincing over here, as he is, yeah. I can see it. It is unfortunate to see.
Dobrze.
For Cody, just the pressure that Technical Machine Evolution placed on the board, you have to still go for Lugia. You have to go for your typical strategy.
Ale tak jakby, no to Goldengo też nawet spoko były jakieś drugie. No, Evolution ile się nie sprajzowało i ole. Znaczy to tak widać, że awaryjnie to się gra te 50. Można nie grać, no tylko przy Dragapulcie to faktycznie może być różnie, no bo... Aha, chodzi oczywiście nasz... No skoro gra Dragapulta, no to... Okej. No widzę, że po stronie Mata ponownie Hetz. Ach, jak to... Tak to jest, jak Mezagoza ma oczywiście graczy Lugi.
Just adding the additional free Pokemon of Mezagoza to the Golden Ghost, the Cypher Maniacs code breaking, the Dracloak doing a little recon.
Czekaj, czy gra Crispina, no bo to jest też bardzo istotna rzecz. Tak. Czyli na pewno pewnie najpierw użyję Recon Directive, no ale najpierw koniec. Bonus. Skill rzucania. Ta. Albo magiczna kosteczka. Greninja czy Pokesto?
Okay, has the Earthen Vessel, that's pretty good.
Znaczy chyba chcę gra Crispina, bo jeżeli gra Dragapulta, to musi grać Crispina. Czy tak mi się wydaje, no bo to jest tak. O, czyli idziemy tak na luziku, no ponieważ oczywiście ten Dreklock był oczywiście z Evo, no to jest kontra na oczywiście naszego pulta, czyli właśnie Iron Hand, nasz Reggie Gigasik, no i wchodzi Dragapult, Kozarab God, no. A jest tu Dragapult. No, mamy inne wyjście. No, czasami też... A! Dobra. Ma sens. Mamy potencjalne 10 do pozbycia się właściwie naszego Cornerstone'a. Ma to sens, tak? No nie oszukujmy się, no jest to sensowne zagranie. No oczywiście tam jeszcze ten atak klewki powoduje odrzucenie itemu. Kto wie, może to będzie przyszłość. No i Mezagoza? Biedni gracze Lugi. Znaczy mamy 2 bossy i co teraz? No zostaje, no co? Coś bossujemy? No dobra, mamy gift, który może nam dać potencjalną... No, Dragapult. Znaczy jeszcze nie nokautuje, bo on daje 140, to wiecie, no nie jest to raczej... Tym razem oczywiście po stronie Mata Taila. Tails oczywiście, no i oczywiście stawiamy ognistą. A potem już tylko z górki na pazurki, jak to się... Tak, no gra się trochę więcej tych energii też, warto zaznaczyć. Znaczy wiecie, najpierw pozbądźmy się najgorsze. No oczywiście, ponieważ on ma lekas i energię, to będzie warte jak za no-boxowego.
Yeah, also knocking it out doesn't bypass that legacy energy either. Maybe there was a route where you don't joust 200 and then boss around.
No, tutaj widzę jest używany Cypher Maniac, czyli oczywiście manipulator, oczywiście kart. Bierzemy 2 w dowolnym, no w jakiej chcemy kolejności, resztę tasujemy i te 2 na górę lecą. Tak, bierzemy co się chce. Możemy nawet brać jaką kombinację chcemy. No to widzę, że to jest takie na później swego rodzaju. A pytanie, czy jest... Znaczy najpierw i tak... Dobra, widzę, że tak. No czyli tutaj split 3-3 chodzi. Tak. No. Dobra, jest Luminion, ale no nie wiem, czy to wystarczy. Ale wiecie, no Dragapult spełnił swoją funkcję tutaj w tym przypadku, więc o to chodziło. Jest Archops, no nareszcie.
Hopefully your opponent has to include a card like Luminion into the mix at some point, give you those 2 free prize cards, but the legacy energy is pulling its weight at this point. This one prize taken here, and this is an opportunity for Cody to actually get in the lead.
W końcu po długiej męczarni, w końcu mamy oczywiście Lugię Vista. No, w końcu. Męczarni mamy.
Plan out these future knockouts. You got double bosses orders in hand, so as long as you have the resources available, a good Cinccino can kind of clean things up.
Yeah, really nice to see the Minccino played on this turn. If you can include the single prize Pokemon over and over again, you know that your opponent's going to be at risk of starting to lose that prize exchange. We see the knockout ready for the Regigigas. Just one more energy attachment necessary, but well, with the Minccino there, you can follow that up with a second single prizer.
And now we're running low on gift energies as well. I think The one hitting the board on that Minccino
No i
is
na
the
co ten
last
corner?
gift energy for Cody.
Widać, że ten Goldengo akurat się na takie
Yeah, I feel like
cuda
the
na
missed
kiju
energy,
przygotował.
you consider that in some points, but once the Dragapult's removed, you're not really concerned about the
No
additional
mamy oczywiście
damage that can be
19 minut
placed.
do
So,
końca.
it
No,
gets risky to have those
Tails.
additional energies when you know that you'll have
No
RPX in
nie.
future turns.
And
Oh.
then there is that Jewel Breaker. So good against those Terra Pokemon, taking that knockout.
Okay.
And Cody is back in the lead. Matthew's going to have to try to figure things out. Already has Boss's orders in hand. Cypher Maniac's code breaking, Energy Search Pro. This is going to be a pretty good turn.
You don't need much at this point. we see now it's the Golden Go with the counter catcher that are also going to be targeted, and that means you get to hold on to Boss's orders for later turns. It's going to be so pivotal
No, Bossów
when your
szkoda,
opponent
no
potentially tries to
wykorzystam.
limit your hand size with that Iono.
No tak, bo teraz tutaj ten red... No tutaj znowu tak, Dragapult i tak już spełnił swoją
Now, are we
funkcję,
hunting down that
więc
Minccino?
jak...
I don't like him. What do you think? It's the only Pokemon that can currently knock out a Golden Go at this stage. As you
A że
don't have to
najpierw
worry
koń
about
bonus.
the Regigigas. This is not a Terra Pokemon on the other side of the board, and you can't really reach for big knockouts outside of
No,
that. It's
zaczyna myśleć.
there's nothing else.
Mezagoza, no
It's
tym
also
razem
rough.
też
Matthew
tak
was
nie
the side
fajna.
of that Energy Search Pro.
Ech, Mezagoza. O,
Bonus beforehand.
Counter
Drew
Catcher,
Mary.
ma to
Always
sens, no
feel
bo
bad.
pozbywamy się większego tutaj jednak zagrożenia dla mnie, no bo chyba raczej większym zagrożeniem jest ten mały szynszyl akurat niż jeżeli...
Losing that energy is just unfortunate.
No i tutaj zmieńmy, do tego Pokestopa mam dość kulu.
There is that Energy
No
Search
jest
Pro,
Energy Search
the
Pro.
weirdest ace back to really ever come out and do well. It's not really what you think.
wystarczy,
Golden
tylko
Go
tyle.
just playing every single type of energy, even really wants fairy energy back too. Like
Right? Just any excuse to show off your collection would be valued here. It's such a fun card, and the fact that you get to include all these silly energies
No,
of
to
Days
the
of Old is great.
cute szynsyl
that'll
jest
have
cute.
I saw that and I
No,
wasn't gonna bring it
słodki.
up, but you know what?
No i mamy
We're gonna
Gimigula.
have to talk to Mr. Wood about that later on.
Listen, you need 3 for the deck. That's a lot harder
Dwa.
than like 1 of each.
No
Got
i
them in my
dźwięk
binder, just
padł.
ask.
There is
No i
that
tutaj wyjmujemy
Wicked
Stretchera.
Rain. Taking the knockout on Minccino does trigger that gift energy, so
No dobra,
Woody's
mamy
gonna draw
Lugię,
on the seven
ale...
cards. Oh, look,
No, w końcu mamy
two
Lugię.
Minccino and
No.
not much else.
A
Wow.
już nie.
Brutal. Yeah, there's just not much that can be done at this point. You can attack into Golden Go and try
wszystko
to
mi
work
zaraz
on a two-hit
padnie.
knockout, but you know your
To
opponent
się
has the
pojawia trochę
ability
taki
to
problem.
one-shot
No bo
anything
co
in play
jeżeli
right now with just
przeciwnik nam tu za
the
tym? Dobra,
use of
Mezagoza.
severe energy retrieval. And this is just getting
Które to już pod
ridiculous.
rząd
Is that
taki
five?
nieudany, a
Tails of
Mezagoza.
at least 4 at this point.
Ech, lubimy ten stadion.
The Mezagoza
To
has
jest ten
found
type
maybe like 3 to
hate
4 Golden
and
Go from
relation,
Matthew
love
throughout
and
these
hate
2
relationship, to jest
games, and
takie...
just nothing
To jest
for
właśnie ten
Cody.
take,
call that a
taki sam
Meza
take,
no
co
sub.
właśnie... Tak naprawdę...
One.
Okay.
Z Pokestopem w
Prime
sumie, no...
Turbo here is
Kochać
gonna
i nie...
charge up
Broń...
potentially that
O,
Lugia V-Star
busieczna.
to get another
No,
attacker going.
to właśnie to busieczne. No jak się przeciwnikowi uda,
But
to
again,
może
we're
wybrać...
kind of running a
co
little
się
low
chce.
on those beneficial energies. You got a few double turbo left. Legacy energy's gone. Gift energies are pretty much gone.
Starting to look at janky win conditions at this point. Is it saw block time? Can you maybe? Well, there's no other special energy attacks you can use. The
No, no będziemy
legacy energy
2-2
on,
pewnie,
so
tak?
Can you just put your opponent on a bad hand and hopefully they won't draw with all of these coin bonuses?
bronią
Come
się.
on.
No way to search for that second Minccino either. Yeah, just a quadruple turbo energy on that Lugia V-Star. What really can Cody do? Is Sob gonna be the answer? Like maybe Matthew plays down a Radiant Greninja
Padła.
and you're not really gonna have... Yeah, you have 1 water energy in the list that's not gonna be attacking.
Right. I mean, you can try to just lock a Pokemon up, use one of your double turbos, so you're not dealing damage, and it is just the one switch that's
Przed
in
wsklejeniem,
deck,
no
so
nie.
you potentially have that card in the last as one of the last
Okej, no
prizes,
jest
and
Lumineon,
you
to
just
Iono.
actually get stuck in the active spot.
No,
And
no,
you're asking a lot at that point,
to
but
jest właśnie taki ciężki
trying to
wybór.
take a typical route in this game doesn't seem reasonable. You're going to lose the prize exchange unless Pokemon like.
A,
this
czy po
get to the
4
bench
lecimy, no
for
dobra.
no reason.
Yeah.
Niby tak, ale bądźmy sobie
Iono
szczerzy,
puts both
tak.
players to 4 cards, but it's never good to Iono a golden go and not really do anything else. They're just
Chociaż no
gonna
nie,
draw
czy takie...
at least 4 cards the next turn, and it snowballs from there. Finally, a heads
Oh, yeah.
up Goza.
Was that?
Oh no, capturing
it was
Roma.
yeah.
Oh no, that's even worse.
No, Roma
Get
była.
one of those
No to teraz w
precious
końcu padła
evolution
Mezagoza.
Pokemon to help in this spot.
No, a tak, dobra,
When
Roma
you argue with
poluminiona,
yourself
no i
over
teraz w
which one's
końcu
better,
Mezagoza,
Arceus
yeah.
or useless Lugia V-Star. There you go. Discard that one and find the Machino. Maybe this Pokemon can stick around. You have Iono'd your opponent. We don't see the boss just yet in the hand. One more chance to sneak in the single prizer and try to
No, deck
bring
oczywiście
this
cieniutki.
back to even.
Yeah, thankfully, Reggie
Właśnie tym razem, po której się tam rzucie, w końcu się Mezagoza udała.
It's never the best, but
Dobra,
you gotta
jeteczki.
do. Primal Turbo actually attaching those 2 jet energies to Minchino. I guess if Boss Builders does come down, it's game over anyway.
We lose if this Pokemon's knocked out anyways. The map seems like it's Regigigas plus Lugia, or Regigigas
Stop.
plus Archeops for one of your knockouts. Well, it's gotta be Lugia for
Okay.
a knockout on the Golden Go, and then finally that Chinchino against the final Golden Go to win the game. You're asking for your opponent not to have Boss over the next 2 turns. We'll see. And that is, once more, the most successful Mezagoza for an opponent we've seen in quite some time.
Alright, we are seeing that Radiant Greninja getting grabbed out of the deck.
No dobra, czyli jeszcze będzie głębokie.
Probably not going to bench it.
Kopu,
I don't
kop,
think you
kop,
need to.
kop, kop,
You're already
kop.
drawing 4 cards.
Jeszcze
Playing right into the saw block.
Yeah. Honestly, we might be down the double turbo energies to even Sob now.
Well, yeah, you might just deal 20 too much and knock it out.
First coin bonus for 2. Finds
Oh,
Superior Energy
super.
Retrieval.
That's 1 card.
1 card. Yep.
Tu. O,
There you
pisu.
go.
Oh my gosh.
No tak,
Okay, is that 3 in hands now? That's,
Yeah.
that's getting
Okay.
to the embarrassment of Rich's point.
O, piesek już poszedł.
Has that Monkey Dory in hand?
No,
Would,
no słyszę.
would that help
No,
out the
to
map?
jest
Alright, so
niewiele
Lugia's
czasu,
doing
11.
180. Wow, yeah, so Monkey Dory can heal this Golden Go EX and put it out of range of Lugia V-Star.
Yeah,
Dobra.
with the double colorless
So-
already played on the Lugia, it's no, there's 2 of them. It's you're definitely not going to have the potential to knock out this Pokemon anymore. Monkey Dory is the play. We see the Dark Energy in the discard pile. Superior can bring that right
Dobra.
back.
Oh,
This
this
Pokemon is
rough.
safe.
Dobrze.
With that Superior Energy Retrieval, Dark Energy
Okej,
on that
wchodzi
Monkey Dory,
oczywiście
Adrenaline Brain is
Monkey
now
Dory,
available for
Monkey Dory,
Matthew. That's going to put this active Golden Go to 50 damage.
No, no, no.
And that Lugia V-Star 180 caps. You're going to be forced
No,
to
niestety
attack
widzę, że
with
tutaj
that
się pojawiła
Chinchino.
brudna małpa. Małpa,
The
która
other
powoduje,
options
że
in other
wylecza
deck lists,
i
maybe
ci
it'd
biorę
be Blood Moon Ursaluna
i daję
time,
ci
something like that.
30.
It is not featured in this list. There's
Czyli wiecie,
no
takie
additional
korzyści.
attacker to surprise
Same
your opponent with,
korzyści.
and
On
that's
mam
bad news.
115.
Well, I would be surprised if like Squawkabilly attacked.
Motivate the troops.
Małpa będzie
We
psocić.
could see
Oj, jak bardzo małpy potrafią psocić ostatnio.
And there is the knockout. Just 2 energy needed with that.
Tak, 2
on
wystarczą,
that
no.
Regigigas already.
That's
Or
not
no,
gonna be the
not
knockout.
knockout.
Yeah, this is a save for Monkey Dory knockout.
O!
Which, just preserves
Dobre
the,
będzie.
the potential
Ciekawe
of your opponent being
zagranie,
stuck on a
czyli-
bad hand. You don't activate that gift
Atakujemy
energy
za
and
100. Mezagoza
maybe your
oczywiście
opponent
znowu
has to slow
zrobiła
down. And it is a
psiksa.
one-card hand. It's a really cheeky play from Matthew, but he found a great opportunity to knock this Pokemon out on the following turn. I mean, this,
No, ja
you're
bym
playing with your
powiedział.
food at this point, but it
To
is
jest
a great
sprytne.
call.
I
Tak,
think Cody had
no
some
wszystko by
future
się
sight
udało,
here,
gdyby nie
trying
ścipska
not to play
małpa.
that Mezagoza down because he just knew that it was going to be tails the entire game.
Just don't stop making me roll the dice. It's not working.
No, w sumie ma to
I have to keep
sens.
rolling it.
30 Monkey Dory.
But this is
Isabella
brutal.
Bell.
The Monkey Dory can clean up this Regigigas next turn, knock that Pokemon out. Boss's orders can bring up that Minchino. Have a two prize knockout on both those, well, single prize on both those Pokemon. Clear off 2 major threats.
Yeah, and play around that gift energy as well.
No, małpa by psyciła już.
Primal Turbo for
No, czasami
nothing.
ludzie też potrafią
You always
się,
love to
no
see
nie
him
raz
playing against
jakieś.
Lugia. We know that Cody has the Cinchinos
No, to zaś
in
tak...
hand. Or no, not
No, gracze
anymore.
tak przewracają trochę z przyzwyczajenia.
It's just the one card, and it's not great. I mean, what's there to think about at this point? You've seen your opponent play down so many great cards onto the board, not as many into the discard pile. You can't work on anything other than saw block, avoiding switch. It's tough.
Yeah, Matthew's used one superior energy for this game so far.
Brilliant, yeah. And so many energies already in the discard pile for Cody.
All right, the one card in hand is a boss's orders.
Says, well, I guess I need to remove the Monkey Dory to make sure that the double prize doesn't happen.
Retreat all your energy, take the knockout with Lugia. Oh, this is rough.
It doesn't feel good. You just said I don't have many energies when you looked through with the Archeops, passed that over. Now with the retreat, no hand, knockout Monkey Dory. It's what you got to do to stay in the game.
Yeah, no gift energy at all anymore. You had to retreat it off that Regigigas. This is a dire situation for Cody to try to stay in this match. Found the Lugia V off the prizes. Nice.
Just what we needed. Mesa Goza, if this, okay, good. Like, we can't take another one.
Wait, you don't want Matthew to find Fez? Oh, too late. We have an S-ball.
Yep, he knows what's coming next. There's plenty of resources to be drawn. You might not even need it at this point. If you have access to the Night Stretcher Superior still gets you the combo you're looking for. Plenty of cards to be drawn. You can save the bench space.
And you're still kind of Iono-proof as well with 3 Golden Go in play.
Honestly, you don't even need to remove the Minccino at this point. You could just knock out the Regigigas, knock out the Lugia, go down to 1 prize, and easily find an answer to a 2-energy knockout on a Cinccino next turn. But has the option to get the Night Stretcher right there, so it looks like can take a ton of prize cards here.
And we see Matthew eyeing down a boss's orders for next turn as well. This is just how you want to write things up, and it is all thanks to that Dragapult EX. Being able to get it down, turn 2, attack with it turn 3. That cornerstone was just nothing for Cody this game.
Yeah, it was really beautiful to see. Just understood that you need to get this Pokemon down aggressively, had the Technical Machine evolution, and before it could even be challenged, was there. Did not see a lot going Cody's way in that beginning, missing that Lugia, but has put up quite a fight to stay in this game here. But this might be the final straw, as Matthew has a few more resources to find.
Superior energy retrieval, only getting 3 energies, but you get the one that you need. That darkness energy in combination with the Night Stretcher that was found off the Cypher Maniacs. Code breaking allows you to grab that Monkey Dory and Adrenabrain, and honestly, any deck that can really set up and utilize Monkey Dory is a deck that I like.
Yes, so many decks we've seen start to incorporate Monkey Dory. It helps preserve some hit points. It helps get the math to a perfect spot. Dark Energy doesn't need to be a card featured in the deck list, but when you do have a deck that features a rainbow of Pokemon, it's a great inclusion. We see Cody say, hey, you want to knock out one of these, put the damage on an Archeops? What do you want? Oh, man, you found it.
And there is the 5 energy to be able to take the knockout on the Lugia V-Star. It is Minccino against the world for Cody here.
If it's gonna get any worse, the find off of the prize cards is Gold Tango with a metal energy of all cards. That's the exact answer you need. But is that the first Misagoza? Just in time, boys.
Yeah, no Luminion to search for. That means no Iono this turn.
You know what time it is.
I think we drew the Cinccino for turn.
Where's the saw block? Come on.
What are you gonna sob the Golden Go in the active?
Yeah. Maybe you get scared.
Already used the boss's orders last turn. The hand is Cinccino Lugia V.
Claustrophobic Golden Go in the active spot. Has no idea what's coming next. 2 cards in hand. Can you find Luminion? Can you find boss's orders? Is there any way to keep a Pokemon stuck in the active?
If so, Matthew still has access to switch.
Yeah, but that's not as cool. we're looking for crazy strats.
Well, there is the Primal Turbo, gets the last energy from the deck, I believe, Jet Energy. That means this Chinchino is going to be dealing 280 damage, more than enough to take the knockout. You know what, maybe there's no superior energy retrieval in Matthew's hand.
He drew Golden Go medal off the prize cards. We
Dobra,
are
już
done
jestem,
here.
no i
Go ahead,
właściwie
flex
nie ma
on
już...
him. He's got
No
plenty
i
of
widać,
energies
że
to boot, and that is a
miał
big
wszystko, tak.
win here to start things off on our stream
Tak,
here in
czyli
Vancouver
Madwood wygrywa
for the
2-0.
Canadian.
Rundy
Listen, it has
trzeciej nie
been
ma.
raining pretty much every day since I've been here. It only makes sense that we're going to start it off with a Golden Go win.
That's right. Got to make it rain on stream. Had a plethora of energies to rain upon his opponents. Takes the Lugia down, and what a great showing. Such a great deck to show off what Matthew Wood is all about. It's finding the perfect mix between meme and great strategy, and just showing off what he's capable of.
And from Canada as well, looking to take a little hometown regional victory for this weekend. Let's go ahead and take a look at these two games and how things shaped up yet again. This game one was really everything for this match. Cody started just perfectly, having that turn 2 Summoning Star with Lugia, double chops, getting that Cornerstone Mask Ogrepon charged up, had everything going for him. Matthew was just taking prizes, but that Luminion V just benched a little too early, and Matthew saw that window open to try and take this game down, had everything from that late game Iono, just insane draws from Matthew there.
Yeah, it worked out so well. Continued to play to this small out where your opponent opens up that opportunity for you. And then this was just wild. The opening of this game too for Matthew, the technical machine into the Drek Cloak before you could get targeted by the Cornerstone Mask Ogrepon was everything necessary. Yes, knockouts were happening. Cody did have the Regigigas to take a huge knockout on a Dragon Ball, but the damage was already done. Legacy down, Cornerstone down, and Matthew showing off a lot of finesse here with the inclusion of that Monkey Dory. Spaced out the knockout on the Regigigas, left his opponent on a low hand size, didn't play into that gift energy, and this was everything that you love to see as a Golden Go player. Big knockouts when your opponent has zero answer.
Listen, there's a reason that rainbows appear after it rains, you know? Just Matthew showing what he has for this game. It is just really great to see, and yeah, that Chinchino could not do much anything staring down all those energies.
Właśnie się zwaliła kamera.
Rainbow before, during, and after. It was all over the place, but that's exactly what you want to see as a Golden Go player. It worked out so well there. It's always great to see Matthew on stream showing off what he's capable of. We've seen him so many times as a content creator, exploring the much less traveled road. the wildest decks. He does all the hard work for you so that you know what's bad, and then sometimes he even finds a way to include just a little bit of wonkiness and still make it good.
Yeah, going up to 3-0 now to start things off for the weekend. Golden Go's looking pretty good into a lot of the decks in the meta. We know it did very well in EUIC, and now with this Dragapult really kind of countering the counters that people might do with Golden Go, even the one Iono in the list, just having some sort of hand disruption when people are not expecting it.
Yeah, we saw that was one of the big issues in the top 4 game in the UIC. Just no hand disruption. Klopp was able to just do what it needed to take a big knockout. Matthew came prepared, had a lot of answers. We're gonna hear from him now, see how he's feeling after a big round 3 win.
Thanks, Kyle and Jeremy. That's right, I'm here with our winner from this last Swiss round, Matthew Wood, Little Dark Fury in the building. How are you feeling, my man?
I'm feeling good. Playing a really cool Goldengo deck that me and my group of friends built probably like 3 days before the tournament. And in testing, it was really cool. As you can see, we have Dragapult and Klefki, so we really like added a lot of spice to the deck, but it makes the deck a lot better at beating some of its more tricky matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're someone who's known for bringing your own spice, your own flavor to whatever deck you decide to play. So I fully expected when I saw you were playing Golden Go, there's got to be something interesting in here.
Yeah.
Sure enough, Dragapult pack in the deck list. Now, talk to us about this last round.
Yeah.
Your opponent was playing Lugia, a matchup I'm sure you tested, a matchup I'm sure you were familiar or at least had a game plan in. But they played a Cornerstone Mask Ogre Pawnee X. How did you have to pivot in that game?
So I wasn't expecting the Cornerstone. When he mulliganed, I saw it was Lugia, and I'm like, okay, this is like a decent matchup. I mean, if they play double Cinchino, it's like kind of scary, but game 1 he benched the Ogre Pawn, and I didn't go for the Dreepy.
Bank. 8 złotych 3 grosze. Z okazji Dnia Kobiet kolejna cegiełka do Steam Decka.
I was like, okay, I can never use Dragapult because I had one nice structure left, so I had to get the Dreepy back. But I had a game plan where if he overbenches too many 2-prizers, I had countercatcher boss for game, and I played into it where he played down the fish to go boss, and then he had a Lugia and a fish on his bench. So then I went, okay, cool. I got lucky off Iono. Iono made a boss superior, which was like kind of a sack. But like you kind of need that. That's Goldengo. Like you need to be able to do that. Otherwise, I don't think I was gonna win that game because I had Fez on bench.
Yeah, definitely. And we saw a really cool play in game number 2. Obviously, your opponent had a very slow start, but you utilized the Monkey Dory to really strong effect in game number 2. Talk to us about that and just the Monkey Dory in this deck in general.
Okay, yeah. Game 2 is sick. I used like every single like broken card of the deck. It's kind of funny. Yeah, the Monkey Dory is really good for the Dragapult matchup because you can heal. Because usually Dragapult goes like 200 active, 60 on a bench, Goldengo, and then they counter catch your Iono, take a 4-prize turn. But Monkey Dory, not only do you get to heal your Goldengo, usually I like healing the active. You put there down the Dragapult, and then you need 1 less energy to knock it out. And then Monkey Dory, if they're not respecting it, always stays on the board and has the option to Adrenabrain. Also, if they try to Budu lock you out of the game, you can use the Dory to sometimes kill the Budu. And then that game, I didn't know, I didn't realize he had no cards in hand, so I asked him before I did the attack, because I was like, wait, where does his hand go? And then I'm like, oh, he's got no cards. There's no gift energy on the Lugia. But I was trying to get boss that turn to kill the rat. But I was like, oh, he's got no cards. I'm just going to hit for 100, set up Monkey Dory. My misplay, though, that game, I needed to put Pokestop down earlier. I held off on it. I didn't want him to randomly just play it in mill Archeops and find Ultra Ball. I actually almost lost that game due to the Mezagoza still being in play to get a Cinchino. So I was like, ooh, I might have thrown there. But it worked out in the end. The Goza was not going well for him and for me. It was like, it's Mezagoza flips. And then, yeah. The Monkey Dory's play is cool, and at the end there, my play was to just get it back because he went after with boss. And I was like, okay, I need to make sure I have enough energy to KO the Lugia, and then also, you know, be able to use the Monkey Dory to knock out the Pokemon. And it worked out pretty well. It was kind of sick.
Yeah. Well, before we get out of here, is there anyone you want to shout out or say thank you to? Sounds like you had a good testing group to work on this deck with.
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to my friend Sashi, my friend Mario, my friend Angelo, my friend Justin. We're all on the same list. The deck's pretty sick. Shout out to Yella Van Kelpen for like always helping me like with the Goldengo sauce. And yeah, that's about it. And shout out TSS.
And shout out TSS. There you go. Well, congratulations on the win, Matt, and we'll be rooting for you moving forward. Get you to your next round, and let's get back to the desk.
Always great to hear from Matthew Wood, especially after a win like that. Golden Go on top for round 3 here.
Poor Cinchino, man. You can't call him a rat on stream. What are we doing here?
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown for the metagame that we have here for day 1 in Vancouver. See what decks are the most popular.
Yeah, there's so much
Dobra, no i przechodzimy. No i jak możecie zobaczyć,
looks pretty viable. You want to copy what our champion was on and use the cloth.
To właśnie możecie zauważyć wiele rzeczy. Goldengo zajmuje 3. miejsce, no bo ponad 9,5. No również tak trochę ciut mniej Lugi też jest. Archaludon jest oczywiście 100 DT równe, czyli 7,6, no i 7% klofy, ale jak możecie zauważyć, budowowy Dragapult, który stanowi no 19,3%. No i drugie miejsce zaskoczenie Gardevoir, jak widać nieśmiertelna, no bo 10%. No i właśnie Goldengo stanowi 3. Wtedy to jest cudo.
but do players just want to get one last ride out of refinement, at least here in North America?
One last ride of refinement, Lugia V-Star, Dialga V-Star.
And that leads into some of our other choices we see here, as Lugia V-Star has a lot of players that were just wanted to see if they could pull the chops one more time, and it's going well for some, not so great for others.
No to można wybrać też tak
Cody
samo.
taking that loss here on stream, but it's one of the decks you need to look out for, as when the cards start falling in the right order, you're in trouble.
And speaking of prepping for future tournaments,
bo
we
to jest
have a
tego
QR code
naszego
for some hotels
tego.
at NAIC coming up here in New Orleans. Be sure to beat the crowd and reserve your hotel before it gets all booked up.
Yeah, one of the most exciting tournaments of the year. We always have such a great time. I'm glad that we settled on a location, at least for what it seems like for this international event. It's been such a pleasure going to New Orleans, and we'd love to see you there and hopefully get to compete with, what, 3,000 other players most likely.
Oh,
it's going to be a huge event. So we're hoping to see you
Dobra,
there.
Be sure to book your stuff now, because there's going to be too many people, honestly. The streets of New Orleans are gonna run Pikachu.
Yeah, I'm not sharing my hotel room with you guys, okay? I'm sick of you asking. It's not happening.
Well, that did it for round 3 here at Vancouver Regionals. And we have a lot of more Pokemon action to go, so don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
No jest, dobra, jest jeszcze chwilę zaklejenia. Uwaga, tu mamy śmierć. No, tu mamy przyspieszoną, widzę. No dobra, tu mamy... Są przyspieszone. Myśmy w czasie zdawali kleić postać, co oznacza, że zaraz a jak się podklei, to też przygotuję tackę. Że ja zanim użyję wynalazłem, to no inwestycja to też nie wiem, czy zakup też był terminowy, czy latać do sklepu po kropelkę.
Pokemon fans, trainers, and communities from around the world, are you ready to see who will be the next Pokemon World Champion?
Ten layer jest dosyć mocny, jak na razie. O, widzę, że już nawet przedstawiono infografikę, jak wygląda w Anaheim, i wygląda ona bardzo ładnie, taka urocza. Kurde, to ten throat scroll.
Hi everyone, I'm here with Chip Ritchie, one of the TCG casters, to talk a little bit about what's going on at the Vancouver Regional Championships. Now, Chip, when it comes to TCG formats, you guys have rotations, and I've been told that Vancouver is going to be the last event in this particular rotation. So, what does that usually mean when you get to the end of the format and you've got to the final event?
Yeah, so for a lot of players, it's going to be one last chance to play their favorite deck from the last few years. And some of the big ones that are going to be leaving us with rotation are the Lost Zone Toolbox decks that have been very popular the last couple of seasons, and then Lugia V-Star. Those are kind of the two big standouts. More recently, Regidrago V-Star within the last 6 months has become a dominant deck in the meta. It's not quite as popular in the current format, but I do still expect some players to bust it out for one last ride.
We are just a couple of weeks off of the Europe International Championships, so do you expect to kind of see very similar decks and usage to what you saw over there as well for Vancouver?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Dragapult dominated the European International Championships. It was the most popular deck in day one, translated into the most popular deck in day two. It was the most represented deck in top 8 of the event as well, so I totally expect to see tons of Dragapult this weekend. Not a deck that we're losing to rotation, something we'll be seeing plenty of moving forward, but it will be losing a lot of very valuable tools to rotation. Forest, Sealstone, Rotom V have been very popular inclusions in that deck.
So what do you get as new inclusions once the format rotates?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a brand new expansion that's going to be coming out very soon, Journey Together, and that's going to shake things up massively. We'll have rotation, we'll have a bunch of new cards to work with. The owners' Pokemon are returning to the game for the first time since the Diamond and Pearl era, so it's very exciting to see what's going to happen. Looking at some of the results from Japan, it seems like Inzork is pretty decent, combined with the Inns Darmanitan as well, so excited to see that in action in the coming months.
Oh my gosh, I remember when we got the announcements for this at the World Championships, and everyone was so excited, myself included, to see all of the owners coming back. So what's your favorite card you're looking forward to?
I think the Iono's cards seem really, really cool. They haven't seen a ton of success in Japan, but I really do enjoy those Energy Flood type of decks, which is what the Iono's Bellibolt EX is able to do. It just gets a ton of energy cards into play. The Iono's Voltorb does more damage for each energy card that you have in play, so I'm excited to get my hands on that once the set officially releases.
I don't know if this is in the same vein, but I like Boltund EX and this energy generation.
You know what? You might like the Iono's deck. You should check it out once the set comes out.
Sounds like it's going to have to be a deck that I pick up and try, but thank you so much, Chip, and we're going to go back to our Pokemon action here at the Vancouver Regional Championships.
It is getting into things. We've just begun our first day of the Pokemon Regional Championships in Vancouver. One of the most pretty locations, and the battles are even more stunning. Welcome back into the TCG side of things. My name is Ethan Heggie. I'm joined alongside Juancho Saldana, and we keep hyping it up, but this is truly one of these special events and so much history behind the Regional Championships here in Vancouver.
Yeah, I'm so excited again. Vancouver, absolutely beautiful. I couldn't think of a better partner than you, Ethan, that we're gonna knock it out of the park, especially because this is the last time we're gonna see a lot of these cards. And you know, personally, you know, Lugia V-Star, I've been its #1 fan. We did just lose on stream, but that's okay. I mean, Matthew Wood plays it absolutely phenomenally. So, you know, I'm just excited to see all these Pokemon, and yeah, again, maybe just one last time.
Fly high, as some people say. You know, Lugia has had probably one of the most dominating runs in the Sword and Shield era. You know, Mew VMAX probably up there as well. But I mean, Lugia V-Star, what a dominant deck it has been so far. Throughout its history, it continues to evolve and, you know, really test the tail of a legendary Pokemon truly like Lugia.
No, that's for sure, that's for sure. But again, just because these older cards are great, but again, the newer cards, these Dragapult EXs, these EX Pokemon, we've really got to see some shine already. Even though it isn't a Dragapult deck, we got to see the Goldengo in Matthew Woods really put in the work against especially the Cornerstone Ogerpon. You know, it can't get hit by abilities. At least he has Dragapult. And again, that's just how good that card is. It gets slotted into a deck that has no right to play it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the history of Dragapult as a Pokemon in the TCG, right? You had, of course, the Dragapult VMAX. That was a card that was super dominant when it came out. Saw a lot of play, you know, during that sort of online era of the Pokemon TCG. I don't know what it is about Dragapult, but he loves just being a little sneaky, right? Putting those damage counters on the bench Pokemon. And, you know, whether it's dealing 130 or 200 to the active spot, the fact that the format really lacks that protection for those bench damage counters, you know, the best option we had was, you know, the caster pick that we had of that Monkey Dory. We'll see how much that card really shines this weekend, and if it really is what these decks need to combat the power of Dragapult EX.
Yeah, that's for sure. And even then, you call it protection, but at the end of the day, that 6 damage counters will still hit the board. You're gonna have, that's more of like an after effect. You're avenging your Pokemon, but again, I want to see more of it, and it's the most played deck in the field at the moment, especially since, you know, after EUIC, after seeing Natalie's such dominating performance. It's truly one of those decks that can get us to stand up and shout, amazing plays. Take a 5-prize turn, why not? Yeah, again, fingers crossed we see something. A little bit spoiler, maybe we're not going to see it in the next round. I know we were talking, we're hyping it a lot, but I'm going to tease the folks at home a little bit. We've got some new cards. I feel like it may be the stream debut for some of these cards. Okay. So it should be very, very interesting, Ethan.
Well, whether we're seeing it this round or not, Dragapult EX, one of the most dominant decks currently in the standard format, and one of the best users of that new Badoo card. Speaking of the Lich, let's take a look at the list that Natalie Millar played to get second place at the Europe International Championships. Let's not forget, walked home with $15,000, of course, everything that comes with the glory. And you really kind of see the breakdown of how things work out with this deck. You've got the core we talk about, that Dragapult EX in the top left corner, and this has sort of been, you know, the status quo. If we look at what EX Pokemon, especially those stage 2s, have seen play, it really revolves around having a built-in support engine. Dracloak is great at supporting your deck.
Yeah, looking at the list, I mean, to me, even this is Natalie/Ethan's Dragon.
Okay,
You know, I know you guys have worked hard together, so I'm gonna give you some credit. But again, looking at that heavy Dusknoir line, it just really shows how powerful this effect is. If you combine that with the Bantam Die, being able to put 60 damage counters anywhere, suddenly if you pop a Dusclops or a Dusknoir, the numbers change, right? You're suddenly doing maybe 110 anywhere, up to 190 anywhere. Yes, you're giving up a prize card, but you're exchanging a dominant board state, and I think that's absolutely phenomenal. You guys actually chose to play the Sparkling Crystal as opposed to a lot of the, you know, the unfair stamp I've been seeing a lot, and you know, a lower line of Badoo.
Yeah, you know, Badoo is great to have multiple copies, but the space in the deck is pretty tight. Rotom is sort of a card that takes up that slot of Badoo, and it provides a lot of protection going first, right? This deck really wants to go second because in the Pokemon TCG right now, you get to do everything you want going second.
Yes.
Some decks still want to go first, right? And then there are those advantages we can maybe talk about later, but Rotom just allows you, when going first, to end your turn with a boost, and while you may be a little bit behind, right, your opponent uses Badoo against you, they start to power up their attackers, play their supporters, those extra 3 cards really can provide a lot of value. And in terms of the Crystal you talked about, it's also, again, just letting you streamline attacks. There's no way to accelerate energy in this deck, right? Sometimes we see the Crispin supporter card. So without that, it's kind of a necessity to play Sparkling Crystal, and what it also does is kind of save you that spot, because Crispin's really not a great supporter outside of bailing you out of attacking opportunities.
No, I have to agree there. I mean, Crispin is such a situational card. Yes, you have the Luminion V to find it, but then you also have to make sure that you have both a Grass and the Psychic in the deck. Whereas your Sparkling Crystal, just like you said, we already played for Arvin. It's really easy to grab, and yeah, it really shows that sometimes you just have to do things consistently. But yeah, I also agree with the whole very low Badoo line. Badoo, again, has been the star of the format. Everyone has to agree with that. But there are times where, yes, you're Itchy Pollen. You're using Itchy Pollen, but you do miss being able to draw 3 with the Rotom and just being able to set up, ensuring that you have a great board state. I feel like if you give it time, if you give it time, Dragapult always somehow lands on top, right? The more time there is, the more damage counters there are on the board, more opportunities there are for you to get Dusknoir. And yeah, I think it's been great.
Yeah, options is really the main thing that any deck wants to do in the Pokemon TCG, right? Having those options as a Dragapult player, that's where things really shine. Let's take a look at the pairings for this round. Some notable matches, of course, we're getting into essentially the halfway point of day number 1 here. Of course, 8 Swiss rounds today. So these players are going to be looking to get themselves to at least 16 match points to secure their spots. You see here lots of notable players. Ross Coughlin, 2-time Worlds finalist. Ryan Antonucci, a player who has, you know, won regional championships in the last 2 years, did play the Gardevoir deck. Cody Robinson, an up-and-coming younger player. But this is going to be our feature match here, Wancho. Andrew Kennett, regional champion here in the modern era, 2 times up against Scotty Chesser. This is going to be a great match for us.
Oh no, I am so excited. You have no idea, Ethan. I mean, I already spoiled it a little bit earlier. Just seeing new cards, it just sparks so much life into me. We get to see, especially when it's piloted by a great player, right? Someone like Andrew Kennett being able to pilot something, I can't spoil it just yet, but being able to pilot like this new archetype, and you just know, like right after this, a lot of players are going to be looking through the website and just trying to find a deck list and just try it out on Pokemon Live. And again, I was looking through his history throughout the tournament. It's been 3 rounds. He's been able to take down some very notable decks like Regidrago. I mean, Regidrago, it's still pretty good, and Snorlax Control. I counted him out. I was watching him. I counted him out of Snorlax control, but he found a way. And that's just how these top players really perform.
Let's see if he can put that showcase on in our next feature match. The stage is ready. Let's throw things down, get into our 4th Swiss round here of the Vancouver Regional Championships. And, you know, I'm not making this name up. Andrew Kennett stated himself. This deck is cuteness overload.
tak,
We've
mamy
got
bardzo
the
ciekawy
Flareon
meczop, bo
EX,
mamy
a bunch of the
oczywiście
Evolution
Flareon
EXs from the most recent expansion, Prismatic Evolution.
Tak,
And it's
na
paired with the
pewno nie
best
będzie
support
nudno,
Pokemon
muszę
for these Terra
przyznać.
types. It's that Noctowl with Jewel Seeker.
Yeah, but he's going to be up against Scotty Chesser playing that
Tak,
Cloth
no i
Terrapagos.
się
I'm going to call it more a Terrapagos deck with the poison
jedna z
package.
nielicznych
This is the deck that just won EUIC. So can the cuteness overload, you know, win against something that is proven to be one of the best decks, at least at this moment? If anyone can do it, it's Andrew Kennett. Again, cuteness over. I love that you found out the name. I was gonna name it myself, and it wasn't anything close to that.
You know, I hate to, you know, be mean to some Pokemon, but if we had to take 2 decks with Pokemon that, you know, are categorized as cute versus, you know, maybe some not as cute Pokemon. Maybe some people think Oranguru is, you know, he's a cool little guy, but, you know, these are a battle of 2 very different types of Pokemon. These are Pokemon, you know, if you're walking in the street and Cloth comes up to you, I think you're gonna be a little bit scared, especially if you know it's one of the big ones, right, from the video game in Scarlet Violet. That scared me a little bit when I was playing through the video
Ethan,
game.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this Quaff slander. Quaff is adorable. It's no Eevees, but it'll do.
I know Boo is rolling wherever she is watching right now for this Cloth slander. I'd like to apologize in advance. I'd also like to apologize for Scotty for these prize cards. Look at that walkability and the prizes that A-Spec Precious Raleigh cannot stress that enough. This is the backbone for Cloth setup in this matchup.
Po obu stronach jest oczywiście Press, no i co ciekawe, no niestety Scotty sprajzował Precious Rowley, który jest bardzo istotny przy rozstawie. No, ale będzie trochę ciężko już setup.
Plus your late game draw with the Bezendipity, that could be something. And of course, without your A-Spec, how can you put things together if you can't find the Pokemon? At the end of the day, the best.
O, minęła już papieska, tak swoją drogą.
Yes, there are cards like Hisuian Heavy Ball that Scott is playing 2 of, which is pretty normal. So there are ways to find it, but it's a lot tougher.
Czy udało mi się?
We're giving up on that.
Tak, udało
You've
się.
always got to check with these players who is going first, and I think Andrew's going to be happy that he ended up deciding to go first. Of course, didn't have a Pokemon that would be knocked out necessarily. Of course, as we jump into things, it is that
Mew i wchodzi oczywiście
and we'll start things off with a
Buddy
Terra
Buddy.
This is a card that, you know, doesn't see so much play right now, but you know, as these Terra Pokemon, these terrestrial Pokemon become more and more at the forefront of the metagame, there's no better card to search these Pokemon out than a card designed to help support a deck like this.
Yeah, such a flexible card. You know, being able to find a Terra Pokemon, that means you can find, yes, the evolution, the evolutions, like Flareons and whatnot, but there are also Terra basics, just like the Eevee and the Pikachu EX.
A tak, to jest jeszcze Eevee EX, która ma abilitkę Regio DN.
He's like, let's go Eevee, let's go Pikachu.
Że też ewoluować. No i nie zapominajmy o słodkim pulpecie Pikachu.
Starting off with that ball should be good. If I had to guess, maybe something like the Eevee, having a Terra Pokemon in play as well activates your capability to use something like those knockdowns later in the round, after the first turn at the very least. But I'm sure Andrew's looking for, you know, Terra Orb can't find the Fan Rotom. Fan Rotom is such a great way to set up the board. I mean, it's been used in the past to find those Noctowls, the Hoot Hoots, but you know, in this deck, it even finds Eevees. So very good synergy there, as we do see the Eevee EX hit the board.
Yeah, the hand is really not looking too strong here for Andrew. I mean, he's got the Eevee down. Of course, it can evolve next turn into something like the Flareon EX to help accelerate some energy into play. But for now, you know, you really, as you said, want to get that Fan Rotom down. Of course, get those Pokemon into play, the basic 70 HP Pokemon, something like the Hoot Hoot for the Noctowl in the following turn. For now, though, we're just going to see the Earthen Vessel carry that Area 0, and you know, that's a card that, of course, both players are going to want to have in play, but maybe Andrew understands that seeing Budu potentially saying, you know, if we both want to play Area 0 on these early turns, I don't need to have all these copies in my deck because there's not going to be a stadium going on in this matchup.
No, I have to agree. I mean, if anything, I believe Scotty's deck would prefer the Area 0 more than
Że jakby porównać tego Konona, to raczej byłoby coś na tak w zasadzie tego mema z panem i nie mamocnym.
So many cards, whereas yeah, Andrew just needs ideally a Flareon and something to charge into. But as we are just going to pass now to Scotty, opens up with the Ultra Ball.
Yeah, and after this first search, Scotty's going to get some bad news here, right? As we mentioned, a lot of those important Pokemon are in the prize cards. They can be searched out thanks to the Hisuian Heavy Ball that is in the deck. You gotta find that piece, right? If you're not playing a card like Carbon to search it out of the deck, things are going to be a little bit tough. We do see a research hit the discard pile with the Ultra Ball, so, you know, Scotty's at least got some backup draw, maybe another copy of that Professor's research. But you see him sort of nodding his head, Juancho here, thinking to himself, all right, well, I can't dig really deep through my deck through Squawkabilly. I can't, you know, use Oranguru to search out the Forest Seal Stone and then the Precious Trolley. And I can't even put poison damage with the Petron. What would you do in this spot if you have all these options locked away? Do you maybe plan ahead, or do you try and put together an emergency plan for this turn?
Yeah, at the end of the day, if we can't put in this big turn, I mean, ideally, even attacking with
pojawia
doesn't
trochę,
seem too great
no,
because
double
of the
turbo, szkoda.
UEX does have resistance to fighting, so it's gonna be a
No, ma
little
to
bit tougher
sens,
than
no
that.
szkoda nam
Not
tu
to
double
mention, again,
turbo,
not
możemy
having
grać
access
tylko
to all
4,
these
więc
tools.
raczej
But at the end of the
że
day,
chce
Scotty can
spalić
always fall back
bardzo
into
istotne
a
double
great
turbo.
attack, a great
Ale
plan,
wyjdę
which is
teraz.
why not just Itchy Pollen? It's already in the active. Yes, we can do 10 damage, maybe weaken up the
No
mute.
tak, to oczywiście nie zapominajmy o
You
najwredniejszej.
know, just buy some time. Trapper goes to
Gramy
take that
drugiego
knockout the next turn.
researcha.
We already know
No,
Andrew
mamy...
had a fairly slower start. How about we slow him down
nie
even more?
najgorsze.
So, yes, sometimes we need the big combo, sometimes we just Itchy Pollen.
Wiadomo, nie zaatakujemy
We'll see if there's, you know, of course,
Papagosem,
the
ale
main staple
zawsze
point
można
for this deck,
przyrządzić
that
bench.
poison package, the Brute Bonnet with the booster energy
No i
capsule
zapewne
can use, of
wystawi
course, that toxic
Lumineona,
power
bo
ability
widzę,
to
że ma
go ahead and put those
Soulstone.
poison onto the
No,
active
Lumineon
Pokemon.
też
And of course,
tak.
that does, of course, limit damage here.
O,
We're not
dobra,
really going to
Itchy
see a
Pollen,
lot of
dobra.
that, though. It's just going to be, as you mentioned, Itchy Pollen. Not a lot
Itchy
out here.
Pollen.
But then the question falls back on Andrew. Without that
Wredniej się nie
Rotom, and
dało,
without
co
having
nie?
access to item cards now, you see him sort of giving a
Chociaż z
smile,
drugiej strony,
saying,
jak się okazuje,
yeah, I understand you
nikt nie ma
didn't do
itemów
much, and, you know, I've got the option to potentially attack here, but I'm going to have to just play the Siono, and without access to Ultra Ball, hope that I can just draw into something like the Flareon to start attacking and taking prize cards.
Yep. Just big Iono here. The nice thing is, in that hand, there's actually no items. Looking at the hand now, those 6 cards drawn. We do see the tool. Can we attack with this Eevee? Actually, we have the Sparkling Crystal in hand. Eevee does have a 3 energy attack with the Sparkling Crystal. We can remove one of those energy, and he has the right energies. That's a Fire, that's a Psychic. But you're just knocking out a Badoo, though.
And it's so risky because if you just go in and take this knockout, there's so many ways that Scotty can just respond and knock out this Eevee. You lose your ace back, you lose all your energies. So, Andrew, I think taking the smarter approach, understands the risk and reward, is essentially going to just let Scotty have another turn, promoting this fan Rotom. And now on Scotty, with access to Nest Ball, can start to, you know, get this package online. Like we said, lots of pieces in the prizes, but getting that Oranguru to find Forest Seal Stone opens the door for so many options.
100%. Oranguru absolutely powerful back order, able to find 2 tools, and again, Scott plays so many, just like the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, the Binding Mochis, the Forest Seal Stones. We already have the DTE on the Terapagos EX. I'm sure something he's trying to put together is possibly a knockout on the only threat on Andrew's side of the board, which is, of course, that EVEX. Only has 200 HP, it gives up 2 prizes, there's 2 energies attached. But can we put things together? Again, Terapagos requires more bench, it requires the stadium. We do find the Brute Bonnet. I think, you know, Terapagos does a base 130 plus the poison if he can get there with the Binding Mochi. We can get more of the combo pieces. I think we can actually take the knockout even without the stadium, as long as we have poison.
Yeah, it was going to be really close in this spot. I think that's kind of what, you know, Scotty was thinking about. Did have the boss's orders in hand, so, you know, maybe you go into the Oranguru, it finds you the Mochi, then you Forest Seal Stone for the card, but it was a lot of resources and looks like a little bit short. Instead, we are just going to see the switch into the Oranguru to find those tool cards, and it's pretty much a pristine package to have, since that Oranguru really at the beginning of the format didn't see play for this ability, because having that 2 retreat cost was just a little bit annoying in terms of being able to constantly bring it up and out of the active spot.
Yes, just Oranguru, I'm sure, riding on this lot, just getting fast, to be able to retreat back into the bench. And switch card was used there. That means Scotty is still free to retreat this turn, has access now to Forest Seal Stone. That means he has access to anything in the deck. But if I had to guess, we might just be Itchy Pollening again. Oh no, we are going to use the Seal Stone. Let's see what Scotty is going to grab. Eyeing up the boss's orders, but again, remember, we have already used the supporter. This time looks like it is going to be the Sneasler to buff up some poison damage. Again, he turns the 10 tick into a 3 tick. It ups the clock. So if we do the math here with the Badoo, that means this turn, potentially we can do 40 damage. Maybe hope that Road gets knocked out going back to our turn. Oh, but with the Binding Mochi, little nice combo there. We poisoned the Badoo, and now we're doing, what, 40 damage plus the poison. That's going to be a knockout on the Fan Rotom with item lock.
You think this guy isn't scary until, you know, you get a poison package, and now you're item locking and hitting for 70. What is this, Seismitoad EX? We're back in the past right here, Wancho. Scotty putting these pieces together, a big investment, but he's going to take the first knockout. And, you know, now I think Andrew understands, gotta find some pieces here. Gonna play another Iono. Look at 6 cards, but yet again, he is unable to play item cards from his hand, and that's sort of the backbone of Pokemon Search in the format. Let's see here, just a lot of energy cards. Does find Noctowl and Flareon. Those are 2 big pieces. However, the big question is, you get through this Badoo, but then you're potentially facing a big onslaught of damage on the following turn, now that Scotty has this full poison package set up and the energy already on that Terrapagos on the bench.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is we did find the Flareon. That's step 1. Unfortunately, Flareon's attack, again, it powers up Pokemon in the bench. We don't have a secondary attacker here. That means even if we not attack here, do what, 260 damage to this Badoo, and we're leaving our lone Flareon, our lone attacker in the active, all the energies. Yes, we're potentially breaking item lock, but we're kind of hoping here that Scotty doesn't have the return KO, but looking at the board, that might be tough. Again, because there is no Area 0 under depths, that's still a key card to still find here. But yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, this is the first Burning Charge. I believe
no i mamy Burning Charge za 130.
First here, Andrew wouldn't be, you know, somebody to surprise me to have his fair share of first. Taking the knockout here with Burning Charge, and like you said, you know, the Noctowl was in the hand, but it was really items being shut off. There was no trainer cards Noctowl could have even grabbed to help set things up, and okay, Mew EX potentially getting in the fray. We're gonna see the grass energy be put onto that Mew EX, seeing if there's anything even like energy switch to move stuff around, but you know, hey, you can use, of course, that Mew EX to copy some attacks down the line. It is a potential option, you know, for Andrew going into the latter turns of the game. And here we go. This is a big opportunity for Scotty. There's only 1 attacking threat on the board. With that Oranguru in the active spot, there's already a guaranteed plus 40 that can be dealt out from this Terrapagos thanks to that Binding Mochi this turn.
Yes, but we're going to need a little bit more than the plus 40, that's for sure. We're thinning out the deck right now with the back order getting 2 more items. Again, we're going to need the Area 0 under depths, and I believe at least there's 4 Pokemon on the field, so 4 more to at least reach the 290.
Yeah, so you have to think there's the 30 from the poison and then 40 from the Binding Mochi. So it's 70 on top of whatever the Terrapagos is already hitting for. So Flareon has 270, so if you have 7 bench Pokemon in play, then that's going to be enough here. So you don't need to have the full 8, but if you have 7, that's going to be enough in this spot. As it stands, and here we go, finding that Stadium card out with the Course Tenacity, but now the question is, how many bench Pokemon are there in play? The Lumineon will hit the board. Now a supporter has already been played, so it will find just a supporter for next turn. And that does make me wonder if, you know, Scotty's committing to this resource this turn. Is it going to be a, you know, hit for enough and hope it's knocked out the following turn from poison? Or does he just really want to boost the damage by a little bit? It's always a liability, though, to use a powerful card like Lumineon if you're not grabbing a supporter to be played this turn, which could possibly get disrupted.
Yeah, things are desperate here when you're playing the Lumineon just to boost up damage, just to take up a bench space. Makes me think, is there anything better anything better we can bench? Again, without the A-spec things, it's a lot harder to find these Pokemon, especially when you're down like a couple of Ultra Ball and the Nest Ball. I do see another Brute Bonnet. I believe we're just missing 1 more Pokemon to take the knockout. Do we have a Stretcher here potentially to take the Badoo back?
Yeah, if there's a Stretcher in the hand, then that would be 7 bench Pokemon needed to get the knockout here. So let's see, does Scotty have the Night Stretcher in hand? It's just contemplating, it looks like, what resources are needed. There's the Binding Mochi, so right away, plus 40 damage. And there's the Night Stretcher, a big find. That's his 2nd copy. Remember, 1 got discarded on turn 1 thanks to that professor's research. So now we have the 210, the 210 damage minus the 20 from the double turbo energy here, right? So this is actually going to be potentially just short of the knockout as we're looking through the math here. So both Pokemon are getting poisoned. It's 30 times 7 at this point, so 210 minus the double turbo. You see there's a lot of math going into play. So as it stands here, it won't be a knockout, but if this Flareon stays in the active spot, it will be knocked out going into the following turn, it looks like.
Yes, of course, unless there's something like a switch. Yeah, looking at the math, just 10 short. Maybe one more attack with the Badoo potentially, or we can hope the Badoo cleans it up. But yes, Terrapagos EX, big damage here, lacking one Pokemon, 260 damage total, including the poison on that Flareon EX. We're now back to Andrew. Has now access to all the items he wants. Does draw into an Eevee, so we can potentially charge into something new here. Does have, I believe that's a Trumpet too. So if we can put things together, we could. Oh, I have to double check. That's the Eevee that can evolve.
No i tak, ja tego w końcu mogę użyć
spot, but it has the same ability as the EX. So the EX can evolve from anywhere. That Eevee with the boosted evolution has to be in the active spot. But big thing here for Andrew, right? You have this Pokemon fully powered up. I do wonder if he's could potentially considering grabbing something like the Switch, which seems a little bit insignificant, right? You know, this Pokemon's already in the active spot where you want it, but by getting rid of the poison, it means your opponent's going to have to attack into you to take the knockout, rather than just giving them 2 free prize cards if you leave this Pokemon as it is with the poison on it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's, you know, as Andrew, with the Hoot in the bench and having access to Noctowl, I'm 100% sure he can put something together here. At least the Switch to be able to not give up a prize going back to Scotty's turn. I'm trying to think if there's even a route where we can use like a Class Trumpet on a fresh Eevee, for example, attach a fire, put it into the active, and evolve into a fresh new Flareon EX or new evolution. Could be maybe try and stop Scotty from taking an easy prize, like taking a knockout here with Badoo. Seems a little bit annoying. If we could prevent that in some shape or form, things could definitely
tak, ponieważ jest oczywiście kolejny Eevee.
Again, Noctowl is now being used. What 2 items?
Yeah, this is a big opportunity. I mean, when you're finally given a turn to
jest Arena
play these
Zero,
item
więc
cards,
żeby
you've got to
wykorzystać
take
w pełni
advantage of it. You don't
potencjału
know, at
oczywiście
the next
ławeczki.
potential turn, you could be shut off from items again. So you see Andrew just prioritizing using the Noctowl's Jewel Seeker to grab a bunch of these item cards. Immediately put the Switch on top of the deck. It will be the first choice.
Zresztą warto zaznaczyć, że Andrew też pewnie gra taki stadion.
Potentially saying, yeah, I understand this Flareon's probably going to go down, and you have a very easy way to do it with the Badoo on the opposite side. But I'm going to make sure even if you do that, I'm still going to have a route to just take 2 more knockouts.
No, kurde,
I
jest
like the option here, Andrew choosing, oh no, changes his mind, choosing the bench a second Eevee onto the bench. He was debating on benching the Fan Rotom. Fan Rotom does have a pretty easy attack just for 1 energy, and there is a Stadium Plate does do 70 damage, possibly preparing for the easy knockout into the Badoo. Looking what else Andrew can do. There's a switch. Luckily, Mew EX does have free retreat and is just going to be a pivot just to heal up the poison so we don't get knocked out on this going back to Scotty's turn. The nice thing that could have happened too is maybe Mew EX could have done some use the Terrapagos attack, right? The bench is big on both of these players. Both these players do play these Terra Pokemon, so both have access to the Area 0 Underdepths. But no, it's just going to be the
Burning Charge. Oh, yeah, no, not the Burning Charge. Of course, that special Terrastal attack here, of course. We've got the Flareon coming in, hitting hard, 280 damage to the active, thanks to that Carnelian attack. And now Andrew Kennett at 3 prize cards, taking the prize lead after a slow start. And now it's Scotty on the back, but to try and find a way to, of course, have a dealing opportunity to take out this Flareon, but also not get ran over by the next Pokemon that's inevitably going to be powered up in this spot.
Yes, again, the nice thing is there is a response, and even the best response in the field at the moment. But of course, these top players have to be planning ahead. Plan on, like, what's the attacker after the Badoo? Badoo is not going to be able to survive. That's for sure, especially there is energy on
że będzie recenzja architektów, a może jakaś tier lista. No muszę zobaczyć jak tam architekci. No aczkolwiek to tutaj jest spoiler akurat. Ale są w drodze, tak?
So, yeah, things are stabilizing here. Still anyone's game. I'm curious to see what Andrew is going to be able to put things together, especially since he wasn't able to really use the optimal burning charge into like an Eevee, right? There is that 1 lightning energy onto the Eevee on the bench, but what evolution can help us?
10 item lock.
You know, there are always potentials for things to come out. There is no Jolteon EX in the deck. And now it's back on Andrew. He is yet again put in a spot where item lock is underway. first, though, does have to get rid of a benched Pokemon. An interesting choice is actually going to get rid of the Hoot instead of the Noctowl that was in play. You know, you want to keep those Hoots around so that Noctowl can have value later on. And this was a really interesting choice from Andrew on the previous turn. Had the Terra Orb in hand and chose to not play it, maybe out of fear of something like Iono disrupting the hand.
No architekci w
And
drodze
that is a
są
really awkward spot, right? If he had that Terra Orb,
niemieckiej
he would be able to guaranteed grab something like the,
Okay.
you know, be able to grab something like the Sylveon EX. Instead, we're seeing the Eevee come into the active spot. We're going to see Reckless Charge come in. Hello, Eevee. I didn't know you could fight like that. Taking the knockout, going down to 2 prize cards. And now it's back on Scotty here. Has already burned both those Night Stretcher, right? So running low on those resources. Only has 1 more of those available. But I have to wonder here, is this just a temporary solution to a permanent problem? The infestation of Budu around on the board here for Scotty now has access to that Pheasantipity thanks to drawing it off the prize cards.
Yes, Pheasantipity is absolutely powerful, able to refill the hand, at least 3 more cards, and look at that grip. There's, if Scotty can do whatever he wants at this point. Maybe doesn't have the Night Stretcher. I think maybe, yeah, the Budu would have been more optimal attacker, that's for sure. But we always have that Cloth. And Cloth, now that I think about it, could have also knocked out something like the Eevee earlier. Could have been cool, but again, this fighting type Cloth, unfortunately, that Eevee only has 50 HP. It's about to get hit with, what, 340 damage?
Ooh, and you see sort of a mistake there. It's actually, I don't think going to matter in this case, since the Cloth is going to knock
Chyba,
this
że to
out.
tak miało
But I really would
być.
like to see Scotty, you know, use the Budu this turn, because I think he's just played
Nie
into
wiem, widzę,
Andrew's
że to nie
trap.
mistake, bo
A
to...
potential option here to close things out. This is the supporter card that makes everything work for this deck. It's that Briar supporter card. Now that Scotty is at just 2 prize cards remaining, right? Now that he has just those left, as long as Andrew can take a knockout on this Cloth with using a Briar and something like the
Właśnie, ten Spirit to ma
Flareon,
tu dużo
things
sensu
could be
w tym deku, no
potentially
bo
difficult.
zablokowalibyśmy tego
However,
Oroguru i
looking
tego
at this list,
Lumineona, no
I'm
bo
not
blokuje
sure there's
basiki.
any way to put extra energy onto a Pokemon like the Flareon, while additionally using that Briar, he may have to tunnel himself into playing a Crispin this turn, and this could potentially spell disaster just because there wasn't a single more energy on board for something like that Eevee the previous turn.
I see an out here where he
widzę, że już
evolves
jest
into the Flareon
zagrywany
EX
Terra Orb,
on this
który
bench
wyszukuje
Eevee and
oczywiście.
benches a new Eevee, right? And then uses the Glass Trumpet onto
To
the
jest
new Eevee.
Flareon,
Luckily,
no
with the boosted evolution ability, will be able to evolve that turn. Unfortunately, there is only a singular Eevee on the board at the moment. I'm trying to think if what else was in the hand here. Does have access to at least 1 Hoot. They'll get him two cards. There is a Nest Ball.
Does have the Night Stretcher in the hand, and this is another opportunity here where if Andrew decided to, off of the discard from that Area 0, get rid of the Noctowl instead of the Hoot, he could have used the Night Stretcher here to bring back that and then grab both the Last Trumpet and another Eevee potentially to make everything happen. Now that it's not here though, I'm not sure he necessarily has the resources and may have to rely off of a backup plan, assuming there was another Eevee EX or a Terra Pokemon like the Pikachu. He could have made that happen. I think the pieces were there, Wancho.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. Again, just if he chose to discard the Noctowl, he'd have access to so much. He'd have access to his entire deck at this point. 2 cards, two training cards in the deck, but I'm looking at the hand. There's no way to get a Noctowl at this point. He would have had it too. There is the Briar, there's the Flareon, there's the Nest Ball to potentially find another Eevee. Could have gone and just won this turn. Is able to find the Spiritomb. Will shut off stuff like the Oranguru at the very least, but at this point, it's done its job. There's an energy attachment to the Eevee. I'm trying to find it out here, but...
No to
and if
myślę,
you're entering the spot,
że...
what do you leave up in the active spot this turn? You leave a 2-prizer up, you know, that's a free knockout here for Scotty. If you go ahead and, you know, leave a 1-prizer, you know, it's still 1 boss's orders, right? If this boss targets the Eevee, you're not winning the game. But, you know, how does Andrew win the game on the following turn? And this is just going to be the situation here. It looks like Noctowl comes into the active spot, you know, kind of just, you know, a last-ditch effort, a prayer here from Andrew to hope.
Poświęcić Noctowla, żeby zdobyć go ze Stretchera.
Right there, the boss onto the Mew EX, and with the Terrapagos and a
To jest
will
dupa.
be able to close
No,
game
zabrakło
up. It was a little
przeciwnikowi,
messy,
więc
but he got
pierwszą
there.
rundę
Scott
wygrywa
Jesser
Scotty.
winning game 1 in
No
not
niestety,
dominating fashion, but
kuźwa,
in a
wiele
fashion you
rzeczy
know that kind of had
zabrakło,
us all on the edge of our
kurde.
seat, really back and forth in that first
Czemu nie wziął
That's for sure,
Feza,
Scott.
żeby
Again,
był
Scotty
lepszy
showing
dom?
why, you know, his deck just won EUIC. This Cloth deck won EUIC.
Trzeba
And
wyjął.
it really does
Ten, ale
have
no,
the power, right? It
wydaje
has
się,
the
że wyjął
capability,
dawno.
yes, it has the capability to potentially get a turn 1 knockout on a 70 HP Pokemon. Pokemon, but it does have the longevity as well. You know, good late game as well, just as long as he has the Pokemon again. As long as he has the Terrapagos, as long as he gets the Cloth. As we are going to watch this replay, but the real star, it has to be this Badoo.
I think we're going to be saying that a lot this weekend, Juancho. This card is just incredible, and it's no wonder it's seeing inclusion in so many decks, especially with that poison package you saw was able to, you know, take a knockout on that 70 HP Pokemon, also leaving Andrew under item lock, and because of that missing Fan Rotom early, without item cards, really lacked the consistency. You saw eventually was able to claw back in the game, take the prize lead, did eventually, you know, get responded back to, knock this Badoo out, of course, with a reckless charge on the EV. But if he just had that one extra couple of pieces, right? Really just needed the Glass Trumpet and another Terra Pokemon in play. If both of those Pokemon were potentially available, then Andrew could win this game. And it's just, you see in the Pokemon TCG, small decisions like that. One small decision of what Pokemon to discard off that Area 0, it kind of, you know, seemed a little bit inconsequential in the moment, potentially came back to bite Andrew and steal that game away from him.
Yes, definitely the difference between winning and losing a game, that's for sure. As, again, this is, you know, it's a new archetype. I don't blame Andrew. I'm sure, I don't know how much he's tested this EV deck, but it's still, you know, it's a new archetype.
No zabrakło
the
tutaj
kinks
wiele
to work
rzeczy,
out,
no,
that's for sure.
kiedy
As, again, we're still
mógł to
shuffling
zagrać
up here
inaczej,
into
tak?
game 2. I'm very, very curious to see, you know, I want to see more from the evolution deck, from the, what was it, the cuteness overload deck. Again, it has so many very cool things to do, again, especially with the Pikachu EX as well, able to hit, what, 300, upwards of 300 damage. And the Flareon, we got to see the 280 damage attack. Again, these cute Pokemon really do pack a punch, but at the end of the day, is anything really cuter than Badoo, technically?
You know, I kind of reflected on what I said earlier. I guess cuteness is in the eye of the beholder, right? So, you know, people like Pokemon for different reasons. Quick point to note, right? The Pikachu actually can't attack. There's no metal energy in this. So that is the one piece missing, but it's just great because of that ability, right? Of course, the Resolute Heart just prevents it from being knocked out. Could be a good Pokemon to have up in some matchups. Not this one. There it is, though, right away. Juancho, such an important piece to have down turn 1. It essentially shuts off the huge consistency Oranguru and Luminion provide. It's that Spiritomb.
Yes, this Spiritomb again means no Pokemon V, well, basic Pokemon V have any ability, and we got to see how strong the Oranguru really was the last turn. As Andrew Kenny, again, getting the ideal start here, actually got to start the Fan Rotom, so with the, again, with the Fan Call ability, able to find some colorless Pokemon with 100 HP or less. That includes Hoot Hoots, Noctowns, and Eevees. That is great to see. What isn't great to see, however, is seeing that EVEX. This is a 2-prize Pokemon, and it's staring down a Cloth.
Yeah, you know, these early turns are really important for this deck, specifically to not have to rely off Crispin to attack, right? You know, use that Burning Charge and get these energy into play, and, you know, Crispin can be a backbone later on to make sure you can string those attacks together, but having to rely off that early on before you know, have drawn through your deck, have found your resources, could be a lot. And I think that's the question here, Juancho. Do you commit your energy for turn to retreat into, I guess, the Fan Rotom, just kind of accepting that if your opponent has all the pieces, right, Badoo, Mochi, the whole poison package, you're going to be, of course, letting your opponent get a prize, but also putting yourself under item block? Or do you just kind of hope your opponent doesn't have everything? I mean, you got to think about it here. It is a little bit difficult to have the entire combo while also having the Spiritomb. However, there is option number 3, and that's just to go ahead and ignore all of that by evolving on turn 1, thanks to that EVEX.
Yes, again, EVEX. Thanks to that Terra Orb, able to find the Flareon EX here, and just like that, yeah, we're no longer afraid of the Cloth. It's going to take a little bit more to take a knockout on something like the Flareon EX. But again, here it is, the Rainbow DNA ability, able to, yeah, just able to evolve into the Flareon EX. But can it do it this turn? Yeah, I thought it had the same ability, but no, it looks like it...
Oh, it can't. Wow, yes. Okay, so that is the difference then between those Pokemon. I kind of just, you know, got so used to energy evolution on the basic Eevee. My mistake there, so it actually can't evolve, and this is a bit of a risk here from Andrew, is potentially giving up 2 prize cards fairly easily here to Scotty, as long as he has just the double turbo energy, and that booster energy capsule. EVEX will be going down. So start things off with the heavy ball, and does find the Latias EX. That's an important piece we saw in that first game to allow these hefty Pokemon to move in and out of the active spot.
Yes, luckily it's Latias EX, not Latias V, so the ability is still live here. But again, I don't envy Andrew's spot, right? He had to think there, did he want to give up 2 prizes, or does he want to play under item lock? So yes, he is going to give up 2 prizes here, but at least he'll have access to play the game, maybe turn it around a little bit later. And of course, there's still that option of like not finding the combo pieces, but just hard finding the double turbo energy already before the supporter. All we're lacking now is just the Brute Bonnet and the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. And we are going to see a knockout on the Eevee. There's a Booster Capsule. Do we see the Brute Bonnet?
I'm not sure it's in the hand. Had to resort to playing, you know, not the best supporter on turn 1, Iono. You know, something like even Arvin to just guaranteed grab that precious trolley could have been the difference maker, and instead is gonna just have to retreat into his
Aczkolwiek z drugiej strony za to Andrew ma zajebistą rękę, no bo 2 sowy, no. Tak, no ponieważ no, zresztą jest tak ten Eevee, więc... No, tak jak wspomniałem wcześniej, warto zaznaczyć, że ten Spirit Tomb no jest tutaj przeszkadzajką dla Scottiego, więc no... No sam fakt, że głównie fałki są basiki, no to tak, ani wyszukać supportera, rzeczy.
Such a great card. Like no downside at all, just able to find a Terra Pokemon.
Okej, no to widzę, że no to chyba z 4-3 gra. No mamy już Crispin.
We're doing that with what, the Flareon attack plus the Crispin?
Tak,
luckily,
no.
I believe the Flareon attack does do, what, 130 damage, so it is going to be enough to take a knockout on the Senior
Czyli też podejrzewam, że przeciwnik też również gra te...
Something I'd love to see that I'm not sure it will be used in this specific matchup is maybe Sylveon EX. That's something, again, he has access to something like Angelite, which removes 2 Pokemon in play, maybe could remove like 2 cool Pokemon, but right now, just Flareon EX is the perfect attacker. Doesn't even have to utilize something like his A-Spec. Again, first attack does only require 2 energy, attaches the Psychic to the bench there, and yeah, just a knockout.
No i knockout.
Yeah, taking a knockout, and as you mentioned, accelerating those energy cards into play. Will be able to strike first this time.
No, w sumie mógłby atakować
Pikachu, item lock will still be annoying for Andrew down the line, but now that these Pokemon are in play, that 10 damage, even if it's boosted up, not going to be, you know, super annoying in terms of having him, you know, be disrupted from his route to victory. Here we go, though. This is big for Scotty. Does finally find Badoo. It could, of course, go into the active spot and potentially attack this turn. Another question here, though, is do we potentially see, you know, a crazy combination of cards, right? Don't ever count this deck out. There's the poison package plus the Brute Bonnet, right? Of course, that unhinged scissors does do the 200 damage after the double turbo energy, plus the 30 from poison and the 40 from Mochi is actually perfect math to knock out this Flareon. So we'll see if all the pieces are here, but with that Hisuian Sneasler now being in the discard pile, it's going to require a Night Stretcher as well.
Yeah, we're going to need a little bit more, but with that Pheasantipity, able to draw 3 more cards. There's a Badoo again. It was interesting opting not to mention Badoo earlier. At the end of the day, it is something we Scotty could always retreat to. I think it's just a great attacker in general, but maybe really prioritizing having the bench space as Nestball is going to be played. I had to guess maybe like something like the Terrapagos, just again to really have access to all the Area 0 underdepths potentially. Again, Terrapagos is another Pokemon that can potentially take a knockout on the Flareon EX as well, but I believe it does still require the use of Hisuian Sneasler, and without Stretcher in hand, we're not taking a knockout this turn, I believe.
Yeah, and the big thing you're really seeing missing from this setup is the consistency of all of these tool cards. The Brute Bonnet comes down, but with that Oranguru V's back order ability being shut off thanks to Fettered and Misfortune on the Spiritomb, you kind of see this deck start to slowly fall apart, right? It's just missing, you know, one of those last couple of pieces it can usually just freely get.
Ona nie może użyć, może jako zapchać dziura, a bez supportera to sobie nie wyszuka.
Down the stairs as he tries to find some way to advance into the next round at an undefeated record.
Yeah, and again, I'm looking at Scotty's list. He plays a 2 Arvin, which is, to me, I feel like it's a little bit low. And especially without having access to Oranguru, that's another way, another like good supporter to bind those key tool cards, as it is just going to be the Itchy Pollen for 10 damage there. Yeah, we saw that 10 damage could be important later down the line, so still opens the opportunity to potentially get knocked out with Terrapagos lacking 1 bench.
Oh, knockout.
Yeah, and you see Andrew just had 4 item cards, nothing else to play. Is just going to say, I'll take the free prize, I guess. You know, 10 damage, not really too bothersome to me. Let's go to 4 prizes, put ourselves potentially 2 knockouts away from closing the game out, as things will be back on Scotty. Of course, flip the script yet again. Access for another turn. You see the Pheasantipity, as per usual, putting in work, as the big find is that Area 0 under depths and deciding to get rid of both Luminion V. You know, while the Pokemon are fragile and can be a liability, you may need to build that bench up to be max in order to take this knockout. And you see 2 Pokemon being found, but if those Luminions even just hit the bench to boost the damage, we wouldn't really potentially be worried about missing the knockout. The other question here, though, Wancho, is there even an Ancient Booster capsule? I don't think there is. So without that, this Terrapagos is going to be way short of knocking out this Flareon. And in response, it's being threatened by Cornelia, just knocking it out entirely.
Yes, this is going to be a vanilla, a unified beatdown, just 220 damage, no mochis, no extra poison damage. Right now, actually, there's only 7 Pokemon on the bench. It does have Pokemon to try and boost it up, but is there even a point if we're two-shotting? Might as well maybe keep the bench base open for something a little bit more useful, as instead it is going to be unified beatdown for what, 190 damage.
Orogoro to co nie użyje.
But again, Carnelian.
No, te czerwone paski to mi raczej...
I get if you're Scotty, right? You kind of had a game where you started slow, you were able to kind of claw your way back in, but you know, with only 16 minutes left on the clock, this is potentially a spot where you know your opponent's pretty much guaranteed going to take a knockout here with Carnelian, and then they've got a complete Pokemon on the bench just ready to go ahead and attack again. I would even consider, you know, picking my cards up, going to the 3rd game. You're going to have the option to go first, and there is a very realistic possibility you can just win the game on that first turn and just close things out, right? You know, if this game goes a little bit longer, you have the advantage of, you know, picking to go first or second. You could have a game that's completely in your control, go to a tie because you just didn't give yourself those extra, you know, 5-10 minutes to finish things out.
No, I have to agree with you there, Ethan. Again, just eyeing Andrew's board, seeing so much energy already flooded. Didn't even deal with the Flareon EX in the active while he's going to go down to 2 prizes already. I have to agree, but you know, maybe Scotty is maybe banking on that. I can win the game in what, 5 seconds potentially? let's
All I need is 1, right? All I need is 1 turn. I'm sure you know that has been the case. Of course, that's how the Europe International Finals were finished. 1 turn, Natalie didn't even get to do anything. See, Andrew, of course, used the Earthen Vessel. That was grabbed thanks to that Jewel Seeker ability. And now the last question is, you know, Flareon is in, you know, very realistic danger of being knocked out next turn. What is the other Pokemon you want to use to attack here? Is it the Sylveon? You know, it's a good wall at reducing some damage, but it doesn't really have the packing power to take a knockout on one of these benched feed Pokemon. They have to do some sort of reliance on even a Night Stretcher to bring this Flareon back in the future.
That's for sure. I mean, right now, the energy is a little bit wrong on that 2nd Eevee. Does have the Psychic Energy as opposed to something like the Fire, but you know, a simple energy attachment can't fix that. Or even the A-Spec tool, as it is going to be the Carnelian for the knockout. Andrew's going to go down to 2. I'm trying to think of ways Scotty can come back from this. There are options, potentially maybe a Iono to a low hand size in combination with something like
Dobra, nareszcie po długiej kopaninie mamy oczywiście Ancient Booster Capsule i mamy aż 4 Switch karty na jednej ręce.
Flareon EX and a 2nd Eevee with a ton of energy.
No, ale widać, że jak już wchodzi ten spiryt, to trochę ciężko z itemami.
So it will only give 1 prize potentially, and since Scotty is nowhere near like 2 prizes, Briar will not win Andrew the game, but it is just a simple boss orders
czyli
for
wtedy
games.
Fezan nie działa, dobra.
Could close things out.
Yeah, an interesting choice here. The math actually lined up really well for Scotty this turn. Budu with the Sneasler in play and with the Binding Mochi would actually knock the Flareon out this turn. And you know, that may potentially have to be a risk that Scotty takes in this spot. Instead, it's going to have to just leave the Pecharunt EX up in the active spot. You are taking the knockout going back into your turn, right? You're not going to activate a card like Pheasantipity since it was knocked out during that Pokemon checkup. And we will first, of course, see the bench get discarded down. Now this time, Andrew's going to get rid of those Noctowl. I think he understands, you know, Night Stretcher is a card he wants to have access to. And with all these cards in hand, you know, I think he's just a piece or two away.
Czy mamy i tak
from being
Ultra
able to
Balla?
close
Możemy
this game
zdyskardować
out.
ten stanem,
The
bo w
Ultra
sumie
Ball
jest nam
has
niepotrzebny.
another Ultra Ball in the hand, and that
Ultra
Flareon
Ball
is
na
in the
pewno
prize
nam
card, that
leci.
second copy, so if he does want to use the Flareon EX to attack this turn, we'll have to rely on one of those Night Stretcher if he still has those available.
Yeah, it's a little bit tough here. Of course, I'm sure Andrew wants to use this Ultra Ball to find some Flareon, but because it is prize, might have to go
chyba będzie wchodził ten
for the
Sylveon,
Sylveon EX,
o którym
or
tutaj
even something like a
komentatorzy
Pikachu,
wspominają.
just so he has access to the Jewel Seekers
No,
on
czy nie
the
Feza? No, chyba
knocked
Sylveon?
out, and then find Night Stretcher plus Boss's Orders.
Czy
Right?
Noctowl? No,
Still
zaraz
needs to
będzie
find a
ciekawe.
fire energy as well to be able to use something like the Carnelian.
Nie,
There's a
no
couple of
wchodzi
things
Sylveon,
still
no to
missing in this hand.
ktoś nie wie z Sylveon,
It does have
no,
the
to tam
Sylveon
widać,
EX.
że
Sylveon
tak Andrew
EX
ma taki
doesn't
aspekt
do that much.
kontrolny.
I believe it's
No
160
drugi atak
and
Sylveona
protects
właśnie
itself,
polega
like
na tym,
reduces
że
damage.
możemy
That's
po
not going to
prostu
take a prize card here.
strząsnąć tak z
Well, it takes
nosa
one. You want to
wrednie
take two,
dosłownie.
as it is going to be the Sylveon evolving the bench Eevee. So there we go. So we have that step. However,
I think he's close actually here, Wancho, right? Importantly, puts the Sylveon EX into play, so now something like the Glass Trumpet is online, right? You can go ahead and accelerate the energy into play, right? It needs a fire, lightning, and a water energy in order to attack, and I think Andrew here might have the final pieces he needs. Noctowl can grab the boss's orders and the Night Stretcher, and because there is a switch in the hand, can manual retreat the unneeded psychic energy off the active spot, and then use the Glass Trumpet plus switch to get all those pieces. Let's see if Andrew can play this out. I think he's got what he needs to close things out here.
yeah, I believe he could just straight use the Glass Trumpet just to grab the fire energy as well.
So it has to be attached to bench Pokemon.
Oh,
with
just
the
the
Glass
bench
Trumpet.
Pokemon.
Yeah, so you can only Glass Trumpet onto those bench Pokemon, so Andrew's just going to go ahead and play everything out here. That Jewel Seeker grabs the boss's orders to bring up one of these, of course, vulnerable and expensive two-prize Pokemon. And here we go, going through the motions here. So we'll retreat into the Fan Rotom. Now that this Eevee's on the bench and that there's a Terra Pokemon in play, Glass Trumpet can accelerate the energy onto this Eevee. It was a little bit complicated, but Andrew still found everything he needs. The boss's orders, the Night Stretcher to bring it back, and the switch means we're gonna see Flareon EX come into play, hit for 280, and close out game number 2.
No to mamy 1-1, dobra. No, już wiem, on ze Stretcherem po prostu chciał wyjąć po prostu tego, Flareona, no. No, Sylveon to jest też taka bardzo. Ale widać, że już gracz Klosa miał ciężko, no bo jak już wchodzi Spirit Stone, to wszystko się blikuje. No, akurat Spirit Stone dalej będzie co ciekawe grane, ale po rotacji już nie będzie taki znajomo, co?
I think after, you know, Andrew goes down to maybe 4 or 2 prize cards here, just pick your cards up, go to the next game. It's kind of hard to, you know, give yourself a little bit of doubt in your mind, right? Could I close this game out? Could I have not? But you're in a spot now where, you know, you've only got 5 minutes left. Andrew, however, without being under serious item lock early and without being under serious prize deficit early, just ran through this game. Flareon powered up all the Pokemon, got things set up, and it was just the EV show, the cuteness overload that was able to allow Andrew to get through what he needed to power up this EV into Flareon and take that last knock.
I agree. I feel like, you know, the Cloth deck isn't known as this comeback deck. It's a deck that really pushes its advantage. It's able to take knockouts very early, but that even pushes item lock as well and just continuously take prizes. But when you're behind, it's a little bit tough there. But again, into game 3, I'm very curious to see if okay, that's a new EX. So there's no possibility of just a dunk potentially, but
Yeah, big start there. Does, of course, start the new EX, as you mentioned, 180 HP. The maximum that, you know, Scotty can do to an active is 80, thanks to, of course, the Hisuian Sneasler, the Poison, and then the Toxic Subjugation. Or, excuse me, that's on the Petron EX, right? So, you know, the ability on the Petron to put 5 more damage counters on the active. It looks like Scotty has pretty reasonable prizes this time around, so we'll see immediately Forest Stillstone. We haven't even seen the back order get used, and Squawkabilly will just allow continuous dig through the deck, as Scotty will look to get pretty set up here as we wind down with 10 minutes left in the round.
Yes, Ultra Ball, again, playing Nest Ball, playing the Ultra Ball, getting those key Pokemon out into play, having a back order already in the active. As a Claw player, this is everything you want, except for the fact that your opponent has 180 HP, but your setup is going to be phenomenal.
No kurde, tym razem Andrew nie miał niestety Spiritomba, no szkoda, przydałby się w tym meczapie naprawdę.
Is free to use this back order and is going to be able
tak
to use it right now.
Temu
Tying up the binding Mochi.
Że,
I have to guess it has to be the ancient booster capsule to be able to attach to the already benched
Brute Bonnet, so things are looking good. Hasn't even used the Squawk ability yet.
Now this is, you know, the dream of any cloth player, as you mentioned. Just see so many cards, fill your entire bench up potentially. You know, Force Seal Stone hasn't been used yet, so with the Terrapagos in play, if we see either the Trolley or the Area Zero get drawn, Scotty could, if he wants to, just fill the bench up to 8 this turn. We'll use Squawk and Seize, draws through 6 cards, you know, does have access to some interesting supporters down the line, and we'll get, you know, a clear look at what those 6 prize cards are thanks to Hisu and Heavy Ball. But, I mean, you've checked pretty much all your boxes you need turn 1. As soon as the dunk potential, right, or, excuse me, the ability to win the game on the first turn is no longer available, you kind of know where your potential is capped out on that first turn. And now it becomes, of course, thinking towards what Pokemon is my opponent going to want to leave in the active spot, and how am I going to respond with my variety of attacking choices I have access to.
Exactly, and with that Hisu and Heavy Ball able to find the Cloth, again, we got to see that Cloth could potentially make a big play, taking a knockout, something like the EVEX potentially. You know, just having that option is great. There are a ton of options in the hand. There's even the Petron already that does more damage with the poison. The only thing missing, I think, is the Badoo.
Ciekawe, co planowałeś na Eurowizję. O, zawsze coś fajnego jest. Dzisiaj jest coś naprawdę... O, w tym roku jest coś fajnego. Erika Wickeman.
Yeah, so it'll just be a pass over of the turn. There was no way to move this Oranguru out of the active spot. Right, no Latias EX. We did see, of course, the switch card hit the discard pile thanks to that
no, Windows Mentos, znaczy kontrowersyjny take co do tego wku.
The Terra Orb is really the big question here. We see a card we haven't seen get played down before. Of course, the Black Belt training could boost the damage up to plus 40, and that's a good piece for Scotty to, you know, maybe know. Of course, there is no
liczyła na powrót zwycięzcy z 2015 roku, tak jak mieliśmy potężny comeback Yusi Steczkowskiej, która swoją drogą zaliczyła największy przebiła rekord, jeśli chodzi o comebacki, bo wraca nam dokładnie po 30 lat. Chyba teraz już wiem, czemu jury nie chciał wtedy ją wysłać. No jakieś tam pierwsze rozgrzewkowe koncerty chyba już wyciekły na Norwegii i Irlandii. A tak, no już wiemy o... No zresztą chyba widzę, że Kai jest już potwierdzony na oficjalny kanał Eurowizji.
Yeah, this is an interesting spot here. I think Andrew's kind of just thinking through what potential options are available at this spot. Now, of course, the EVEX, as we, you know, incorrectly mentioned, it can't evolve on the first turn, but the EV can potentially evolve the regular one if it's in the active spot. You know, there is a world potentially here if the perfect pieces are found, right? You find the glass trumpet. You don't even necessarily need a glass trumpet, actually. If you can just pinch the EV, put the sparkling crystal onto it, and move it into the active spot with an attachment, look, that gets you the pieces you need to take that knockout on the first turn, assuming you have the Flareon, but instead Andrew looks like going to just take a little bit more of a passive route, waiting to use that fan call ability, and first playing the Iono to draw 6 cards, Yusi Steczkowski, and then make that powerful decision after he sees what his opponent's going to find.
Team Bow. Nie no, obaj byli dobrzy. No Josta trochę szkoda. Biorąc pod uwagę, że był dosyć odważny jednak. To jest takie set.
Yeah, I don't mind that play at all. Just going for the Iono, maybe hoping to draw, as it is going to be one apiece, right? One Hoot, one Knocked Out, and one Eevee.
I think understanding, right, if you just leave this one EVX into play, there's always the potential your opponent pops off, they find the Claw, DT, bosses order, knock out your only attacker, and
Chorwacja w zeszłym roku też miała powód do dumy, no bo osiągnęli najlepszy wynik od dawien dawna. Więc poprzeczkę i tak już mają wyżoną.
Looks like it is going to be on the EVEX. That is a little bit harder to knock out. I was thinking maybe attach it to the basic non-EX EV so that if it take a knockout, if Scotty takes a knockout, he's only taking one prize, but you did lose your energy. But this is for Scotty. If he does find something like the Claw plus the boss, that's 2 prizes plus the energy. That could be very, very big here. Again, does have access to something like the Seal Stone as well. So
nie wiemy jeszcze nic o Gruzji.
Things are definitely possible. We have the
does have the Dominion in hand as well to maybe find something like the boss orders. But more importantly, doesn't have the stadium.
So our damage is still a little bit capped.
Yeah, with this attachment to the Terrapagos, of course, this cloth option is now shut off. That is not a potential. But with this Luminion now being able to find any trainer card potentially out of the deck thanks to Arven, you could just draw more cards with research, and with the Forest Seal Stone still being available, this is really interesting here. We're actually going to see Boss's orders potentially be grabbed. Now, as things stand, you could, like you said, target down the Eevee that doesn't have the energy card attached to it. You could even go after the Cinnamon Engine with the Noctowl. With this boss being grabbed, and of course, the options available on the table. If you're in his shoes right now, Wancho, what are you going to do with this position?
Well, the nice thing is there is 10 damage on that Mew because of that poison. And if we can find a way to move the Terrapagos to be active and poison it, he's actually doing 170 damage. That is enough to knock out the Mew EX. And I believe, yeah, that should be enough to knock out the Mew EX, even without the 10 damage actually. But there is no way to switch at the moment. There is still the Seal Stone.
I think there is a switch card actually, and so that may be a potential option here for Scotty. Let's take a look and see. Is there a switch card? Yeah, there is a switch card. So it does have the switch card. We'll go ahead and move into the Terrapagos, and here's where all the math comes in. So, of course, that 20 damage reduction from the double turbo energy means it's doing 130, but then the math works out perfectly. 10 from poison and the 40 from the binding Mochi poison means that it will be exactly enough, and importantly, will be knocked out going back into Andrew's turn, so a card like Pheasantipede is not going to be able to use that flip the script ability.
Yes, again, just taking in a knockout there. I believe because there was that 10 damage, Andrew does have the capability to use the Pheasantipede. It was
correct,
exactly
yeah.
170, but more importantly, taking the first 2 knockouts, that's what Cloth wants to do. So technically, Scotty is en route to potentially maybe try and go the 2-2-2 route. Yes, it's a little bit tougher to get those big EX or the Flareon to 270 HP, for example, but Terrapagos does have the capability to do that. And more importantly, I don't think this Terrapagos is threatened at all, right? We know for a fact that Andrew has to use something like the first attack on the Flareon EX to maybe charge up some energy. I'm trying to think maybe some Glass Trumpet or some Crispin plays plus the Tool to try and hit the 280. There are options.
Yeah, it is actually pretty doable here, right? If you have the Crispin and the Sparkling Crystal, which you can guaranteed grab out of the deck with the Noctowl, then as long as you have Flareon EX, that gets you there, right? You get the attachment for turn with the energy you find off Crispin, the energy acceleration you get off Crispin, and then the Sparkling Crystal means no matter how you accelerate the 3 energy, as long as there's a combination of water and a fire, or water and a lightning, or however you do it, you would be able to knock this Terrapagos out, and I think that has to potentially be be your option, because I'm not sure dealing 130 and accelerating, well, that would have been good 10 years ago, Wancho. I don't know if that's up to par with today's standards in the TCG.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking it was tough, but things get a lot easier thanks to cards like that Noctowl. That's for sure. Looking at the hand, Pheasantipede was played already. Did draw into a Noctowl, or possibly already had that in hand. Trying to see if he has everything to possibly put this together. I believe the Flareon EX is in hand as well. Could even maybe try and go for Angelite. no, Angelite isn't going to help out here. But the first attack possibly
trochę nie rozumiem, tak patrzę pod skolową skórę tak samo.
Maybe try and tank some damage, but
yeah, it looks like we're just getting confirmation of what happened with the poison knockout here. So just to recap, that Mew EX did have 10 damage on it. The Unified Beatdown was dealing enough damage, and it looks like we are on the same page, right? So the script properly able to be used, a little confusing with that 10 damage, actually did matter. Yes. So that was an opportunity, right? If you're Scotty, you don't poison that Pokemon early on. You ignore the flip the script. That time has passed, though, and here we go. Noctowl Jewel Seeker, and you immediately see potentially those first couple of cards. And even
jeszcze to jest takie głupie, no bo chyba bardziej ważniejsze niż kolor skóry raczej powinno być, czy on dobrze zagra.
Crystal, I wonder here what Andrew is thinking about doing in order to keep himself in this game, especially after Scotty had an explosive start taking the first 2 prizes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the ideal target is for this count catch.
Dobra, jest terminacja tak
swoją drogą. Could be going for a stall type play for just going to be, no, maybe we are going for the Angelite. Maybe we are going to, again, the Angelite attack is can remove 2 Pokemon on the bench. So if we can force the Terrapagos on the bench, it does force a couple of cards from Scotty.
Yeah, it does remove those Pokemon, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to be what it takes. Now, of course, the Sparkling is in play this turn, so that could be Andrew's option here, right? Don't invest that powerful Sparkling Crystal and just use the Magical Charm to deal enough damage to knock out Squawkabilly. We'll see if that's what Andrew decides to go for. I have to imagine with him grabbing the counter catcher, it's going to be a little bit better of a play than looking to go for the Angelite, you're not taking prize cards, and your opponent can just kind of play nest ball and put all those Pokemon back into play. The big question, though, is that magical charm. It's really not great when you're just knocking the Pokemon out with the attack damage, as it's not like something with Goodra where you reduce damage done to yourself, you're reducing the attacks of the active Pokemon. So this Sylveon is still very much in range of just being knocked out by a full bench plus poison with the Sneasler. Unified beatdown from the
Znaczy, weź wtedy nie działa tak serio, bo to jest sprzątam ci z bencha Pokemony. To krzyczy tak, ja ci sprzątnę. Czyli tak, używa drugiego ataku.
It came down to having that psychic energy attached, right? If it was the fire energy, Andrew would have just had knockout on the Terrapagos. Might just have to be the Angelite.
Tak, on chyba chce sprzątać, widzę, tak. Ja, czyli używa Argelite'a?
I mean, you know, this is a powerful attack, right? We saw PGX back in the day on the Sylveon picking up Pokemon. You're not using the expensive resource like a V-Star power. And I mean, you get to put these Pokemon back into the deck, but, you know, Scotty has still his V-Star power, he's still got Lumineon in play, he's still got, you know, a decent amount of cards in hand. Usually this would be the attack you'd like to pair with something like an Iono to disrupt. You're leaving Scotty with so many pieces in hand. I have to wonder, you know, this is disruptive. It is definitely annoying for Scotty, right, to, you know, get these Pokemon back into play, attack those energy cards again. But with that being said, you know, Andrew didn't take any prize cards this turn. He's still at a deficit, and he's still going to need to find pieces to win this game.
Yes, very, very unfortunate that indeed. But yeah, more importantly though, the things attached to those Pokemon that were removed might be key here. Again, it is hard to find those special energies like the double turbo or removing the Oranguru with the Forest Seal Stone does remove access to your V-Star power at the moment, yes. As Iono is the only thing played, drawing 4 cards. 4 cards is not that much. And I'm not looking at anything here.
Yeah, and at this point, let's of course note time has been called at this point. Scotty is turn number 1, and that maybe was Andrew's understanding from this spot, if we look at his perspective. If there was no time going into this game, I think that we could probably agree knocking out this Pokemon, taking prize prizes away. But Andrew understands there's no way for him to win this game if he were just to take 2 attacks with him being turn 0. He made a disruptive play. It ends up paying off here. Scotty's not able to take 2 prize cards this turn, thus meaning it's going to be a tie between both these players.
Dobra, biorą remis.
Makes sense. You know what? I'm glad we got to see the Angelite play. It came in clutch in that very, very specific scenario. Yes, it may not have been the most ideal attack to win the game, but it was the most ideal attack definitely to take that tie as, you know, take the tie. Still very, very much in it. They're both at 3-0-1, so a great record.
Still a great record, and you know that game really showcased, you know, the good and bad of some decks that are, you know, not the top tier decks, but have a lot of strong potential. Let's look back at that set, see what went down between these competitors. You really have to, I think, link back to this first game from Andrew. You know, he is playing a little bit of a weirder deck, but, you know, and this is, you know, giving critique to a player who is excellent in the Pokemon TCG, a 2-time regional champion. But you can see in these games, even as a regional champion, even as someone who is extremely a veteran in the game, has played a while, sometimes you can just overlook these small micro decisions, and I again have to look back to this big decision, right, where the Noctowl was not discarded with the Area 0, and then eventually MewEX still in play, knocked out by that boss's orders after Andrew missed those final pieces.
No, that's for sure. As again, I have to give it up to Scotty as well, being able to, you know, that round, that game 1, so many key cards were prized. So he definitely had to play through. He knew his deck like probably like the back of his hand at this point, and was able to find a way to really sneak out that win. As again, just really taking advantage of how much push, how much pressure the Terrapagos deck really does give.
And so many options, right? This deck used to be cloth. Now, as you said, it's like a Terrapagos toolbox style attack at this point. You know, being able to use the Binding Mochi as kind of unintended, you assume. I don't know if the game designers were thinking to themselves, oh yeah, this is going to be a perfect card with the Budu to come out, but that's where players innovate sometimes, right? Budu hitting for 70 damage, it may or may not have been tested, but this is reality now, so we got to wake up and smell the roses, smell the buds maybe potentially. I think it's almost a flower, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
smell
going
the
to
roses then.
eventually.
It is Roserade, right? I mean, you evolve into Roserade, so maybe it's not too far off. Smell the roses. I'm going with that. I'm sticking with it.
I'm sure it smells nice, but yeah, again, the Budu, and I love how our players really try and innovate, boosting this damage, just because it's such a powerful attack. Despite only doing 10 damage, the item block attack being so massive, and the fact that it's free. It doesn't require too much investment, leaves your deck really open to having those techs, right? I've even seen people play that, I don't know what it's Skeletor to try and boost up the Badoo damage, right? There are so many ways, and again, our players are absolutely amazing to be able to find those ways. But I still want to talk about cuteness overload deck, really. If we're really talking about innovation, right? Again, the Flareon EX, the Angelite on the Sylveon EX are so cool. Would have loved to see maybe more of those evolutions. I don't know, just not too many of them are really good, but they have some cool attacks. Like the Umbreon discards a card from hand, for example. And can you imagine rocking up a regional with the most expensive deck that you can play in the standard format?
The Moonbreon is gone. What do they call it? The Sumbreon now? It's called the Sumbreon. Moon, sun, day, night. Whether you're playing Badoo or not playing Badoo, these players all have one goal in their mind. They want to become a regional champion and gain all the glory that comes with a regional champion. They're competing for lots of prizes, which we'll go ahead and take a look at here. This weekend, of course, in Vancouver is like all others for the regional championships. Players are battling it out for those $10,000. Of course, becoming a regional champion, you have the regional championship points that come with everything here. There's a lot to compete for if you are trying to become a regional champion. Yeah, I mean, just the World's invite by itself, I feel like that's such a big deal, especially of how hard it is to really, qualify this year, being only top 125. Might as well just win a regional and guarantee my spot at the World Championships. I'm sure a lot of people are playing for that. But you know what, $10,000, that's nice and dandy as well. You know, the history of the Pokemon TCG, it's been really great to see that more and more prize money is going to the players. It was $5,000 a while for the Pokemon TCG Regional Championships and the Masters Division. It went up 2x in the last couple of years, $10,000 now. And don't forget those booster packs. I know lots of people are loving the most recent expansions. They're not giving out Prismatic Evolutions, unfortunately, this weekend. There's no booster box for that set. But hey, Surging Sparks, still a great set with plenty of chase cards and competitive cards at that. I was about to say, if that's 108 Prismatic Evolution, I'd be tough to choose whether I want $10,000 or 108 Prismatic. Are you leaving the caster desk to get those 108 packs, Muncher? Talk to me here. No, again, I need to build that Flareon deck. I need the Cuteness Overload deck at this point. And those are cards found in, again, Prismatic Evolution, or maybe even just Badoos. The Master Ball Badoo. I personally didn't get any of the Master Ball Badoos, but, you know, some people, you know, like their bling. They like to roll up with some of the special arts. That was really cool to see in the Prismatic Evolution set. A lot of the competitively viable EX Pokemon, the Blood Moon, Goldango, Dragapult, they all got really cool special art rares. You know, this is a competitive TCG stream, but I know you like your collecting, Wancho. Do you have a favorite art from that set? Do you have a card that you really like to see? Is it too cliche to say the Sunbreon? I really do like Umbreon. Okay, and I know I'm probably never gonna be able to own the cards. It's more of a admire from afar. Sure. Yeah, you know, those special illustrations are really cool. And what's even cooler is when the illustrators come out to the events. At EUIC, they had a panel where they brought some of the illustrators, including the person who drew the Moonbreon. You know, I was a little bit busy playing in the tournament that weekend, but, you know, for competitors, spectators alike, those experiences are what making these regional championships and international championships so fun, because there's just more and more to do. If you're watching this event, you're seeing the stuff that's going on. Wow, I want to go to these. You should go to Pokemon.com/play, see the events that are happening near you, and come out to one of these events. It's a great time. You're going to have a blast. Yeah, and sometimes you don't even have to go that far, right? Yes, these regionals, the ICs are a lot of fun. They're end game. But at the end of the day, sometimes you want to go out of work and just go straight into a Pokemon League, for example. We have a ton of Pokemon Leagues, you know, all across the world. I think the best, again, just like here in the Vancouver area, definitely check out, you know, these games here, like Everything Games, Drop Return, Van City CG, and Bastion Games. We have the addresses here as well. So if you're in the Vancouver area, definitely check these places out. I know my favorite thing to do whenever I travel around for these regional championships is seeing the local scene, right? See, maybe picking up a couple of cards that I'm looking for, and, you know, just saying hi to all the local players. Right on. Yeah, and you know, all these places just have so much history, right, behind what these venues essentially provided for places. I know Sierra talked specifically about Bastion Games as the place where she started to play the Pokemon TCG out in this area. You know, that's kind of incredible to see through time and time again. These are where players essentially start their Pokemon journeys. This is where they get information on how to play the game, where to collect cards, how to grow, and everybody starts there. And if you're looking to start your Pokemon journey, go ahead and scan that QR code to find these events and Pokemon leagues near you. It's worth going on this journey. We've come a long way playing the Pokemon TCG. We want to see your stories. Go ahead and scan that code. Get started with the Pokemon TCG. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure. Honestly, the best friends I've ever made were really playing at the local league, and in fact, like a junior I used to play with was just so great. I ended up being my son after that junior, just because I was just like, he had such a good personality. And I wish if I had a kid in the future, he grew up to be just like him. And I found him at the local league. You know, it could be life-changing, right?
You find great places or people where you don't expect them. You know, my story is I had some great role models, some great judges who still judge today, were the people who taught me how to play the Pokemon TCG, were the people who supported me at the local levels growing up. So, you know, whether it's in different ways, Pokemon League is where these players start and where you're going to learn all these things about the Pokemon TCG.
No, that's for sure. I mean, I love Sierra's story as well. I'm sure if you tune into the VG stream, she'll share it there, but we're going to steal it here. Like, she used to cast the pre-releases that you used to have. And, you know, that is, and now she's here in the big stage, like casting VG for Pokemon. You know, it's humble beginnings, right?
Humble beginnings for all, and I'm sure players are looking to, you know, find a next chapter, conclusion to their story on their road to becoming a regional champion. We're over halfway through. We've still got plenty of Swiss action remaining. The Pokemon TCG stream is going to continue after this short break.
There are tons of vendors at every single Pokemon regional championships, and I'm always curious, what are the best-selling cards? What are the players picking up? And also, what are some of the high-ticket items that collectors are looking out for? Let's go down the line and ask each of our vendors what they've gotten rid of so far this weekend.
Hi, my name is Ian Ram. I'm here with Magic Stronghold Games, and the card we've sold the most of would be Goldango EX. That card's really nice, looks really great. And the most interesting item we probably sold would be the Detective Pikachu coins.
So my name is Caitlin. I represent K-Fape Cards. We're from Utah. The most cards that are the most of one item that we've sold is probably Badoo. A lot of Badoo, and a lot of Crispin. My favorite that I've sold is just any of the old, like really old EXs and like level Xs. I love it when we sell all of those, and people really like to see them. So. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Noah of Mr. Magic, and I would say the card that we have sold the most of this weekend would be the Pheasantipity EX. One of the most cool things that we brought with us that we've sold is probably the exclusive from Pokemon Center Thailand, and it would be a Dragonite holding a berry basket. Very neat item.
Hey, how are you? I am Bobby. We're here at the side deck. It's a very fantastic weekend here in Vancouver. We've had a very well success this weekend. Our most popular card by far selling has been Arcaladon. Very crazy card. I'm really excited to see how it does post-rotation. And the card that I feel like would be the most interesting that we sold this weekend had to be Ancient Mew, the old promo. Very, very nice. So I was really excited to get that one.
So there you have it, a ton of unique items being sold this weekend, and also, of course, tons of very competitive cards. What I'm really interested by is the fact that each of our 4 vendors had a different answer for which card they have sold the most of this weekend so far. The Goldango EX, Pheasantipity EX, Archaladon EX, and Badoo, all extremely powerful meta-relevant cards, and I'm sure we'll see each of them have their moment to shine this weekend at the Vancouver Regional Championships.
Sou Gabriel, eu nasci em São Paulo. Meu Pokémon inicial seria o Pikachu, um dos Pokémons favoritos meu. Eu jogo bastante com meu irmão, ele sempre me ajuda nos treinos. Competitivo, os 2 primeiros anos ali foi mais na brincadeira, aí depois umas pessoas vieram falar com a gente dos torneios maiores, e a gente foi acabando entrando nesse lado competitivo do Pokémon. Já fui em 3 campeonatos mundiais, em Londres, no Japão e no Havaí. Uma das memórias favoritas foi quando eu ganhei o Mundial do Japão, no Yokohama. Foi incrível, porque é o maior torneio que existe no Pokémon mundial, e no Japão, onde foi criado, é melhor ainda. A estratégia que eu usei para esse torneio não era ser muito agressivo, meu deck é mais calmo, passivo, e esperar meu oponente começar a ação para eu voltar e finalizar a partida. deck que eu escolhi era o Charizard Pidgeot, ganhei o original de Joinville anteriormente ao Like, então só mudei 2 cartas e vim com ele. A minha última final do Like, ano passado, foi um outro formato. Eu acho que foi uma partida bem parecida, era uma partida entre 2 decks pau a pau e veio pra quem comprou melhor. A parte da jogabilidade que eu tento melhorar sempre é o nervosismo, que minha meta é acalmar tudo, mas sempre tem aquele friozinho na barriga antes das partidas, que às vezes acaba também fazendo eu errar. Acho que é muito bom estar na final, a sensação de chegar longe.
You can hear the crowd chanting his name. They want him to take it home yet again.
No último turno da partida, não tinha mais o que ele fazer naquela situação do último turno, então dava pra ver que já tava o jogo na mão. Essa sensação foi incrível, sabe? E todo o nervosismo que eu passei durante o jogo acabou, foi um alívio.
And that's it! He extends the hand, back-to-back champions. Gabriel Fernandez does that and repeats his title as the international champion here in Latin America.
A sensação de ganhar o evento é uma sensação incrível. Sim, não tem muito o que falar porque eu tô sem palavras praticamente. Olha, não podia ser melhor, né? Significa muita coisa, que por ser minha última temporada de sênior, também meu último internacional no Brasil, gostaria muito de ganhar esse torneio e acabei ganhando. Eu vejo como mais um título que vai me dar confiança pra jogar aí os próximos e conseguir mais título por aí. O conselho que eu daria para os treinadores de Pokémon é treinar bastante, que não consegue chegar numa final e ganhar sem o treino, sem o preparo bom. E também, olha de inspiração o Thor de Recleve, que é um dos melhores jogadores aí, se não o melhor, do Pokémon CG, e o Azul GG. Ganhar o segundo Mundial significaria muita coisa para mim, que indo para Master, os torneios vão ser maiores, a dificuldade aumenta. Eu acho que os outros treinadores têm que me considerar como uma ameaça, porque já vim aí de muitos títulos, ganhei os 2 internacional no Brasil, o internacional no Londres e mundial do Japão. Eu fui bem no Havaí, então tomar cuidado.
Welcome back in, Pokemon fans, here to the Vancouver Regional Championships, our trading card game tournament well underway. We're getting to that halfway point of the day. Now at this point, 8 Swiss rounds to play today. We'll be playing a few more tomorrow until we get into our top cut. Now we only get to feature one single match every single round, but there's tons of other games happening out there on the floor. So let's get a quick little update on how some of the notable players in this event are doing. Nathan Beck, who is actually last season's Vancouver Regional Champion, he is actually starting off very hot this year at 4-0, and he's playing Golden Go. Quite a change from the Miraidon that he used to win last season's tournament. Azul Garcia Griego, of course, a fan favorite and one of the best players in the game. He started off 3-0, but did take a loss in the last round. He is now sitting at 3-1, running it back with Miraidon. Of course, he recently won the Merida Regional Championships with Miraidon. He made day 2 at EUIC with Miraidon, and he's continued to stick with that archetype for this weekend's event. 3-1 there for him. A few Canadian players we want to give an update on, since we are here, of course, in Vancouver. Callie White, 2-2.
Oh.
Off to a little bit of a rocky start. I'm sure would have loved to have started a little bit better, but still very, very much in it. Callie has had an incredible last couple of months here in the Pokemon TCG. Second place finish, top 4 finish at regional championships. We'll see how they continue to push forward. They actually played in round 3 up against Kieran Farah, another one of the top Canadian players. They played each other at 1-1. Callie got the better of Kieran in that game, and Kieran did lose down to 1-2, but did win the last round, so he is now sitting at 2-2, and I think, to no one's surprise, for one last ride, he is sticking with Lugia V-Star, which he's been playing now for quite a few months. 2-2 there for Kieran Farah. A few Canadian players that are 4-0 right now that we're keeping our eye on. No. Simon Trottier-Lacasse, someone who I love watching. He always brings a really unique build to whatever tournament he's playing in. He is playing Lost Zone Toolbox with of course, that Pikachu EX. Started off 4-0 at this point, an excellent start. And Christian Labella is also 4-0 with a pick that might seem a little spicy for this specific meta. Regidrago V-Star, something that's been very, very good, but has fallen off quite a bit in the recent weeks. So he's decided to run it back with the Regidrago. He played it a lot earlier in the season. He is now 4-0. And just a few more players to update on. Ross Coffin, one of the greats of the Pokemon TCG. He's qualified for every single World Championships ever in the history of the game. He is starting off 4-0 with the Miraidon, and then finally Henry Brand, 3-1 currently. He is the 2019 World Champion. He traveled all the way from Australia to compete at this event in Canada this weekend. He started off 3-1. He's playing the Gardevoir. We'll have to see how he continues to do moving forward through this event. It's going to be an exciting rest of the tournament here. We've got a few more Swiss rounds here for day number 1. We're going to throw it over to the casters and get into this next Swiss round number 5.
Że tam atakował Budro i dopiero później ten dobijał.
Thanks so much, Chip. As you mentioned, still plenty of action, including the next round here, round number 5 of Swiss. We have the choice. This is where things get exciting because you, the viewers on Twitch, get to choose out of our special matches who you want to see on stream. So if you're not watching already or you want to hit in on the action, make sure you guys go to twitch.tv/Pokemon TCG and get in and get ready to vote for who you want for the community choice match. We're still getting so much Pokemon action here. We just got a cuteness overload. Let's see if we get a, what's the opposite of a cuteness overload? A terror, little terror? I don't know, man. I'm at a loss for
Under
words.
terror?
Under terror?
No,
Okay.
but yes, you guys have the power to choose what we're gonna watch next. Ivisar, come on, please.
Hey, look, no commentary bias here, all right? I do not want to see well-played Dragapult. If you are a good playing Dragapult player, I do not want to see you win. I want to see you win, please. Don't win.
I'm sure whatever they pick, we're gonna have a blast to cast, that's for sure. I have 100% complete trust in our community.
No, Twitch chat has picked some good matches before. Twitch chat actually always picks good matches. I'm contractually forced to say that Twitch chat always picks good matches, so whatever you guys pick, I'm sure I would have picked the exact same thing. Go ahead and again vote on that. Twitch.tv/Pokemon TCG, or if you're watching on YouTube, look guys, you can't vote, but we still love you guys. Thanks for tuning into this stream.
I'm sure it's easy to just move on a little bit, just one time, click do your vote and you can move back over to YouTube, that's for sure.
When you watch the streams back, do you like to use Twitch to watch them back, or do you use YouTube to watch the VODs back?
I like watching it live on Twitch, just because I love getting that
I'm saying if you're commentating an event, right? Assuming you know you have the option of choosing either back and forth.
And then yeah, if I have to watch it back, I watch it back on YouTube.
Okay,
give both our systems some love.
You gotta share the views, right? You have to have what's the distribution chart, right? It has to be even between everything. Okay, yeah, I rock with that. It's about the same for me, right? You know, you get the live experience of a platform like Twitch, and then YouTube is great at, keeping all that content recorded. If you guys didn't know that, if you're missed a stream or you want to go back and watch, YouTube has all of the live streams as well as Twitch from essentially the last 3+ years, even more. So make sure you guys go check streams out if you missed them. If not, though, you're gonna want to be here live to watch the content.
Oh no, yeah, I feel like nothing beats it. Nothing beats watching it live right here, right now. So much Pokemon action. Well, maybe the only one thing that beats watching it live here on the stream is watching it out there on the field with the people.
It's like a pyramid, right? It's like watching the VOD back, watching it live on Twitch, watching it on the stream, and then like playing in the actual match is like number 1, right? It like builds its way up.
Yeah, playing the actual stream match. That has to be the top. That's for sure.
All right, well, enough antics here. Of course, we do have the Pokemon TCG action that concluded in Europe last week. As we mentioned, Ryuki Okada, now a 2-time event champion, did win the Dortmund Regional Championships, and now has won an international championship. As a player, though, that is historic for Japanese Pokemon TCG. In TPCI events, previously there had not been a Japanese champion outside of the last 2 years, right? Until, of course, we had Maku, or his name in Japanese, of course, won the regional championships in Australia in Brisbane, right? Of course, does work with Haru Nishikawa and that group out there. Kaito Arai is his name, of course. So we did have that this season. So this has kind of been the trend as we go into these decks. Japanese players now able to get their invite off of finishing not based off points, but their top placements. Yes. And they've been taking a lot of spots up here. We're going to be seeing them at Worlds one way or another.
No, I love to see it as well because, yes, we don't really get to see as much of the TPC circuit. They're really competing with their own region, but seeing all of these talented players really come out here to TPCI, steal some wins, steal some invites from us. It's I don't know. I love seeing it. I like rooting for the I wouldn't say underdog, but for someone who flew all the way.
He flew all the way and he won in style. Let's take a look at the deck list that Ryuki used to win the Europe International Championships. This is a deck that was on people's radar. It got a lot stronger thanks to Badu. We saw, what it's capable of the last round, but that was one of the most historic finals matches. One turn was all he needed to win both the first and third game. The second game went longer than a turn, and it was very clearly in Natalie's favor, but that was a rush of a feeling there. It was over before we even knew it, and he became an international champion. Just so much going on in this deck, and so many options a deck like Claw with Terrapagos and the Poison package has.
Yeah, I mean, just being able to build something like this, I personally would have so much anxiety just having so many of these Pokemon at that one count, right? The one Sneasler, one Latias, one Squawk, one Fez, one Oranguru, one Cloth. Your main attacker, yes, you bumped it up to 2, I guess, with the Badoo and the Terrapagos, but again, it's really finely tuned, especially with the Soon Heavy Ball, that we got to see it really come into play, really come together, and getting that turn 1 knockout to essentially win it all. That must be one amazing feeling. I'm sure for Ryuki anyway.
Yeah, Pecharunt is at times almost a broken card in this sense. It, of course, has that ability where Toxic Subjugation, where you can just put it in the active spot and Pokemon take 5 more damage counters. You know, the Pokemon TCG is designed in a way, right, so that the player going first can't attack, so that these aggro-aggressive decks can't knock out a single Pokemon. However, Pecharunt is the one exception where you're not attacking, but you still put enough damage counters that you can knock out a lot of these basic Pokemon that evolve into more powerful Stage 1 and Stage 2 EX Pokemon later on in the game. And that was how things ended in game number 3. Hisuian Sneasler, Brute Bonnet, Pecharunt, and on top of everything else, it just allows you to get that extra bump that maybe wasn't intended with some of these Pokemon's damage cap. Elevating the damage cap, we've seen be a super successful strategy for lots of decks over time, even with the thanks of cards like Electro Power to give certain Pokemon more boost in their attacks.
No, yeah, I have to agree, and I want to give it credit as well for there's not that many decks ever in the history of Pokemon really that really change how you technically play the game, but Claw forced us as a Gardevoir player, as a Dragapult player. If you're going first, you have to bench 2 of those 70 HP Pokemon. Does have to make that sort of change, but that was pretty big.
Big indeed. There were also some really cool inclusions in this list that weren't necessarily popular with the other Cloth variants. The one copy of Monkey Dory with that 1 Darkness energy not only gives you the protection against things like Dragapult's Phantom Dive to move counters back, but specifically, moving damage back is great with the Terrapagos, since the one piece it really struggles with is getting those big one-hit knockouts on Pokemon EX. There's a lot of math getting involved, but to cut things short, if you've got a Monkey Dory, a Dark Energy, and the whole Poison package with Mochi powered up, Unified Beatdown can knock out any Pokemon, essentially in the TCG, right? You've got all the damage plus the Poison, and then you go ahead and tick the Poison to 3. It's just huge damage out of nowhere for a single energy on a basic. That is unprecedented.
Might as well add the Kiernan in there as well. Yeah. What's our big damage cap at that point? With the 30 from the Monkey Dory, 350?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's too much damage. You know, there's just the power of all these different Pokemon, and it's also kind of cool to see Carmine and Kieran in the same deck. I don't really think we see that a lot, so, you know, some little bit of video game lore coming together, that's pretty cool to see. You know, sometimes you don't really have the privilege of the Pokemon TCG to play your favorite trainer cards in your deck just because they're your favorite trainers in the game. But when it does fall out this way, you know, it's a little bit of a nice, cute synergy with each other.
Yeah, it's very, very cool to see. And we talked about the big damage, but I still think the main star of this deck is going to have to be that Badoo for 10. Plus some, you know, go up to 80 or 70 and all that.
70, yeah.
But yeah, I 100% think that we should name this deck Poison Badoo, to be honest.
The Poison package?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's evolved so far past being just a Cloth deck at this point, right? To the point that there's only 1 Cloth in the deck.
Yeah, and this is also really just showcasing the power of double Turbo Energy as a card. You only play 4 energy cards in your deck. This feels like, you know, 2013, 2012, when you were only playing, you know, 4 double Colorless Energy sometimes in your deck. So this is no Night March that we're talking about, right? But this is just, you know, the flexibility of playing a deck that only has to play 4 energy cards, and the flexibility of using a main attacker that requires no energy, again, allows you to commit more deck slots to either playing consistency cards or cards like, you know, the Kieran and Monkey Dory package that give you damage cap options to surprise your opponent and take big knockouts. I can't tell you the amount of times I first tested against this deck, thought a Pokemon was safe, and then my opponent, you know, pulled a couple cards out of their pocket, played them down on the board, and all of a sudden, my main attacker was gone. That sort of surprise element and all the different modifications coming together can make it really hard for players to know when they're in danger and when they can afford to, you know, take a risk and attack with a Pokemon. That element of surprise is really valuable.
No, yeah, I 100% agree. I've lost to this deck because a surprise Iron Valiant took a knockout on me.
Oh yeah, Tachyon Bits, you know, a little bit of a throwback. That card, you know, saw a lot of play when it was first released. But yeah, just as you said, having, you know, all these surprise cards, especially when we're later into a format. We haven't really talked about rotation a lot, but this is the last regional championship in North America with these F regulation block. All cards from Sword and Shield after this regional championship, once we go to Atlanta in just a few weeks, will be rotated out. So when we're at the end of this card pool, like you said, Wancho, there's just so many cards and so many options that it's hard to know, you know, what tricks your opponent can have up their sleeves, because this is the most full they're ever going to get.
Yeah, these are possibly the strongest these decks are going to be. And we had to talk about rotation. Now I'm thinking about Lugia again. You're gonna make me tear up.
In the arms of an angel. One farewell to salute to Lugia, just in case, to get it out of the way. You know, if we don't see Lugia in top 8 or whatever, I can proudly say, you know, I gave a proper farewell. You may have to, you know, take some time to yourself. If, you know, say your goodbyes. I was not personally as connected. I won some tournaments with the deregulation Lugia, but after I lost the amazing rare Pokemon and Aurora Energy, we broke up. We were no longer together. It wasn't the same without those Pokemon.
No,
For me personally, I know you've been a true fan for a while now.
Yeah, I was through it thick and thin, highs and lows. Even before we even had Minccino, I was playing that deck and Chip was laughing at me.
It was the colorless version,
Yes,
right? It was just
version.
like the Snorlax unfazed fat. Okay, I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, I had Chip laughing at me. And think about like the history of the deck too. Do you remember like Stoutland V, pre-Iron Hand, powerful energy?
No, that's the wrong ability, yeah, but take an extra
prize.
So broken, man. That card was so good.
Yeah, so much history with the deck, and I hope we get to see one more time. Again, there's so many cards we're losing. And Regidrago V-Star too, right? We're losing that, and that I feel like really cemented its place in the history of the Pokemon trading card game, just being so absolutely dominant for so many formats.
Yeah, I think all things considered, Silver Tempest ended up being such an impactful set in the Pokemon TCG, right? It was really only looked at for the Lugia set for a while. Then it also had the Refinement Curlia that came out, right? Then it had the Regidrago package that came out.
That's true.
If there was no Capturing Aroma, Lugia would cease to exist as a deck. You're not telling me 4 Great Ball's gonna cut it, right?
Ooh, yeah. To this day, I still open the Silver Tempest packs.
Oh, right, okay.
There's so many great cards in it. But just getting the alt art Lugia, nothing beats that.
Right on.
No, but yeah, again, looking at the 70-30, I love seeing all our players. We saw the scramble earlier. Being a part of that is something in itself, like trying to find your seat and trying just being part of the scramble to get to your game. That's to be honest, it's its own rush.
Yeah, and as you see here, there is so much happening right in this event hall. You see all the way down, it's just Pokemon action. At these front tables here, the Pokemon Video Game Championships is happening. They're going to be crowning a regional champion. You see by the green area, we've got, you know, some TCG for the seniors division, the red for the TCG juniors, and then the big C all the way in the back. Like, you can kind of see the prize wall with the Iron Bundle back there. Masters TCG action is happening. And let's not forget, Pokemon Go will also be crowning a champion this weekend.
No, yeah, almost all the Pokemon games, that's for sure. And yeah, but look at TCG. Look how many we are. So dominating in this
We
field.
are strong in numbers. We have lots of competitors here this weekend. You know, this has been a weekend and a year, a season of records and breaking records and record-breaking attendance when it comes to prize money, champions. So much has grown within the Pokemon TCG. You know, I look back to some regional championships. I'm sure you look back to them too. The game has just grown so much.
Oh, yeah.
We can go on and on about stories. The fact is, thousands of players want to play the TCG. They want to win championships, and it's so great that the system supports for that.
No, I agree. I mean, I've seen regional championships with less than 100, and now we're what? Thousands upon thousands?
Yeah.
No, but yeah, speaking of the regional championship, I want to get back into the action right now. I believe our players have taken the stage. You know, I'm very, very curious to see what the opponents have been, or what you guys have chosen. Well, it looks like maybe not just yet, so let's talk about it a little bit more. But yeah, I'm curious to what the the community has chosen.
I think I got a little peek. You know, I approved Twitch chat on this one. I think Twitch chat, you know, you got my approval. You picked a good match, so we're going to see things, how they play down at this stage. And okay, here we go. These are some familiar faces. I recognize that person on the right anywhere I'd see him. That is, of course, two-time runner-up at the World Championships.
Mamy Rosa Cottona.
An experienced player playing Pokemon TCG. We keep reiterating it because it is just such a jaw-breaking statistic that he has qualified for Worlds every single year, that it has been a potential option for him to qualify. For those not familiar, the first official World Championships happened in 2004. So let's do the math here. So 2004 to the... So, you know, taking into part the seasons we didn't have, he's coming up on 20 World Championship invites. That is historic.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I mean, when we were just talking about the history of the game, this man is the history. He is the history of the competitive Pokemon TCG scene. I feel like literally, you throw a rock at any of the archives, you'll hit Roscotten. a deck Roscotten has played. But of course, he's up
Roscotten gra Miraidonem, no i mamy Christophera Silvera grającego Archaludonem z Dialgą.
While Roscotten's playing Miraidon EX and, well, Miraidon EX, Iron Hand EX, which is just the lightning package.
Yeah, and these players have been playing the TCG for almost the same time. Chris Silver actually has a lower player ID than Ross Coffin does.
No tutaj chyba w tym komentatorzy mówiąc mamy chyba bitwę jak
you know, while Chris doesn't necessarily have a lot of accomplishments in the recent time, he was a huge competitor in the Pokemon TCG. I know he's an organizer, he helps take care of some of the events out where I am in the San Francisco Bay. He is a player and a judge who has been involved in Pokemon for years and years. I'm happy he gets his spotlight up on the main stage. But if you gotta play against anyone, this is the face you probably want to see the least. It's an experienced player playing an experienced deck, a deck that he is very used to playing, these beat stick fast decks. He played Roaring Moon last year, you know, around this time in Vancouver. Now he's rocking it with Miraidon Iron Hands. We're gonna be going fast in Ross's.
This is definitely gonna be a fast-paced deck. And I'm just curious to see which one of them will he come out. Again, both have over 20 years of experience behind their backs. It's definitely going to be interesting. Again, looking at the matchup though, Archaladon has 300 HP. Could be tough for something like Miraidon to really deal with without, of course, except for the last attack when he can attack with the Raichu. It's going to be a matter of how Ross Coughlin is going to be able to take those first 4 prize cards, really. And you know, I'm very, very curious to see the mapping he chooses. And if you're a Miraidon player, this is definitely the one to watch. Personally, Dialga V-Star is another Pokemon I'm actually going to miss after the rotation.
Okay, yeah.
Very powerful V-Star power. I feel like in the history of the Pokemon Trading Card game, the most powerful attacks are the ones that break the rules, and nothing breaks the rule more than taking an extra prize. Taking an extra turn.
That's even better, right? Go ahead and do it all over again.
Snake był wtedy prześladowany?
Mainly, of course, since it is in that perfect range of being knocked out by something like Miraidon EX's Photon Blaster, right? That is an attack that is always scary for this deck. Both players will be setting up, getting things going. We'll take a look at the prize cards. That is
Archaladon, Greninja, Power Jamming, oja. 2 energie, 2 bossy, plus Rosa i... Arena Zero i Arena.
Ross's side, it's not as bad, but 2 of those bosses' orders being prized will leave him with just 1 way to gust in this matchup.
Ooh, that is tough. Again, it's a double-edged sword, really. Playing that Greninja, yes, allows you for more consistency, but at the end of the day, that's a Pokemon, maybe something like an Iron Hand can take an easy 2 prize card. So maybe I'm not too beat up that it's in the prize cards as long as Chris is able to set up. But we'll have to see. There's so many ways to get energy into the discard pile. Something like Ultra Ball, maybe even Squawkabilly, but that's also another Pokemon you probably don't want on the bench.
Yeah.
The name of the game is stand tall, be 300 HP, and hope Miraidon can knock you out. But right now, let's go ahead and start the action.
We'll get into things here. It looks like Nest Ball, Jamming Tower immediately coming down. That is super disruptive on the first turn. Miraidon has a lot of valuable tool cards it wants to use. A lot of times, you know, to get those first 2 prize cards on the first turn, we'll rely off the use of something like the Forest Seal Stone. You're going to have to find one of your counter stadiums, the Area 0, to be able to get that out of play. We did see one of those in the prize card, so Ross will only have 1 way to get rid of Jamming Tower. If he's unable to, could spell disaster.
Might be tough. It might be tough to even retreat, right? Sometimes you do use that Arven just to get the rescue board.
No i kolejny
so
Nest Ball.
Might have to find the Latias as again, Chris Silver here
Kolejnego.
is able to set up, finds the Squawkabilly, so we'll be able to discard the hand, draw 6, and barely enough, an army of Duraludon.
Yeah, and this is always the question when your opponent starts a generic Pokemon like Pheasantipity EX is, are you willing to put a liability like Squawkabilly in play when you don't know your opponent's deck? Usually that's the question, but I think looking at Christopher's hand here, he doesn't really have much else going on, and you know, whether he likes it or not, he's gonna have to rely off Squawkabilly to discard this hand and see 6 fresh new cards. Luminion gone, Night Stretcher gone, that Black Belt as well, not super relevant in this matchup. It can always be really good. We'll go ahead and draw into 6 new cards. Does find some Metal Energy. Nest Ball, however, not going to be as impactful without that Radiant Greninja. That would be a great card. I'm sure Chris would have loved to see on this first turn to draw some more cards.
Okay, definitely. This is the position you definitely want that Radiant Greninja. Especially, I didn't see a supporter in hand as well. Well, besides the boss's order.
Też
So we're going to pass it on to Ross.
czy już się wszystko?
I see double electric generator in hand plus that Arven to work with. So we could see an upcoming explosive turn. I want to talk about. Oh, well, looks like Ross is going to grab that ace back.
We got no time for comments here. This is going to be fast, fast, fast. I think as you were saying, though, that secret box, right? It's a super powerful ace spec. Talk to me a little bit about how that card has opened up Stellar Crown, and more importantly, with the release of a Terra Pokemon like Pikachu EX.
No, yeah, I mean, Arven, very, very powerful supporter that is able to find, like, what, one item plus a tool. But if that one item is able to find every type of trainer card, it opens up so many possibilities. Again, with the, you get the stadium bump, even if there's only one stadium in the deck, it's just that consistent and able to find tools as well. It literally gets Ross anything he needs, but more importantly as well, something of note is it thins the deck, right? You're taking out 3 trainers that in itself take out more cards from the deck, making electric generators even more powerful. That's definitely a card you want to see on the first turn of the game. As Ross here eyeing up what to grab. Again, you're able to grab an item card, a tool, a supporter card, and a stadium. There's only one choice for the stadium, which is the Area 0 Underdepths. I'm curious about the rest, though. I have to guess maybe Forest Sealstone and...
Yeah, Forest Sealstone could definitely be good. Right now, there's no Miraidon or Squawkabilly down, and that could be the big thing here for Ross, however, is you want to use the tandem unit to, of course, get those lightning Pokemon into play thanks to Miraidon EX, but at the same time, you kind of want to dig through the deck while you have the option to use Squawkabilly on that first turn. And the question for me here, though, is does Ross have the opportunity to do both of those things? If not, he may have to settle for, you know, taking a slower approach, maybe using instant charge and powering up some Pokemon on the bench. This is where things are going to be pretty interesting, and, you know, Ross's experience will sort of guide him which way he wants to go in this situation.
Yeah, and there is the capability to do both. I feel like Squawkabilly might be a little bit too tough in that because there's 2 electric generators. We definitely have to find that Miraidon EX. The nice thing about Miraidon EX, again, it finds more electric Pokemon, thins the deck even more, possibly makes the electric generators that much more powerful. Does have access to Forest Sealstone too, so Miraidon EX can find something like the Rotom V, the Raichu V, or the Raikou V, any V Pokemon to grab the Sealstone and still decide to Squawkabilly if he chooses to do so.
Yeah, and with this Miraidon EX and the Area 0, Ross is kind of free to just chain these tandem units together. We see this is why tandem unit is even stronger than what maybe people expected from it earlier. You're not limited to using one of those tandem units, so use the first to grab another, and now essentially this one Nest Ball has found Ross 4 lightning Pokemon to put onto the bench. Importantly, does now have that Pikachu EX. You're not attacking with it, it's just there to extend that bench, thanks to it being a Terra type in combination with that Area 0 Underdepths.
Yes, again. And this all started with one card. This was a one-card Arven to grab the ace spec. And suddenly, how many cards did we thin out of the deck?
Too many cards have been played.
But there it is, the Raikou V and the Iron Hands EX. And the ideal attackers. The unfortunate thing is Iron Hand EX does only do 120 damage. That might be tough, but maybe Ross here is thinking about if he could grab even more lightning Pokemon. Does play something like the Pokemon Go Zapdos to up the damage. If you can take the first 2 here, that's 2 on the Duraludon, potential 2 on the Squawkabilly, and then just the last 2 could be the Raichu. So the mapping is getting a little bit clearer. Can we put it together, though?
Yeah, the big question is it worth investing all these resources to go for this knockout? And if you don't have Zapdos, how do you want to split your energies up this turn? You know, if you're kind of passing your turns, a lot of the times Raikou would just be better just being a Rotom in this situation. So here comes the Forest Sealstone, and
you know, this could potentially signal Ross just trying to extend the turn even longer to maybe find something like Squawkabilly EX just to see 6 more cards this turn. You've already got the generator, you already have the pivot thanks to that rescue board. Ross could potentially be doing even more this turn. We may not even be halfway done here, Wancho.
Yeah, it looks like Nest Ball is going to be the grab, potentially. Yeah, it is going to be the Nest Ball, just even more thinning, right? Could have straight grabbed the Pokemon, but looks like it is just going to be a Nest Ball for that Zapdos. It's like Ross is eyeing up that Iron Hands play. It's in a matter of how much do we hit off the electric generators. I think Ross has done a great job thinning the deck. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we get a full 4 this turn.
Yeah, this was a situation where, you know, Ross could have gotten a little bit greedy and gone for the Squawkabilly, discarded the hand, saw 6 cards, but if he misses the Zapdos, then, you know, his capped potential this turn is a lot worse. Here we go. Big 5 cards of Generator. Does find 1. He needed to find at least 1 energy, but this is going to be a big second electric generator here, Wancho. If Ross can find 2 lightning energy here off the top 5 cards, he'll be able to use that attachment from hand and have 4 lightning energy in play on the first turn and respond essentially to Chris's normal start with pretty much exactly what you want as a Miraidon player. Turn 1 amp you very much to take the first 2 prize cards thanks to the lightning symbol on Zapdos, meaning it does exactly enough to knock out this Duraludon.
Yeah, speaking of how like important these 10 damages are, the extra 10 takes knock out on Duraludon. The nice thing is, Iron Hand EX actually has 230 HP. Wait, real quick, let's see. There's 1. Just 1. We're not going to see an Ampu very much this turn.
Just finds the 1, and now, Wancho, if you're in Ross's shoes, your plan kind of went array. It didn't go as you wanted. How do you go ahead and attach these energies? It looks like Iron Hands will potentially still get in the fray, but now it's just going to be taking only the 1 prize card. That being the case, you know, if Christopher is able to just go 2-2-2, there's really nothing this Miraidon deck can do to respond in kind, essentially.
Yes, and again, just to continue what I was talking about earlier, is Iron Hand at EX in itself is just the perfect attacker into this matchup. Is the 230 HP is something our Chaladon doesn't have the capability to reach, right? Because we did see the Black Belt hit the discard pile earlier, this Iron Hand should be able to at least survive another turn, as we do see an Ultra Ball for double metal. That's definitely a good sign here for Chris.
Yeah, really good top deck. Actually top deck the other metal energy. That means just with the pieces alone, Chris is going to be able to do exactly what I said. Take those first 2 prize cards, has our Chaladon and Boss's Orders already in the deck, and now is free to grab, you know, a different Pokemon in this spot. Something like Pheasantipity EX to just draw more cards with that Flip the Script ability and see what he can do to combo back. This is where understanding the pieces are really important. Ross is not playing a card that is very common in a lot of decks, but it's not common in Miraidon, and that is any form of hand disruption. Wancho, how is that going to affect how Chris potentially plays his turns out and plays the rest of these potentially only 2 or 3 remaining turns?
No, it definitely puts him in like a better position. He could plan ahead, so much farther ahead without having to worry about disruptions. Plus, Pheasantipity is just a continuous +3. This Boss's Orders to get rid of Ross's own Pheasantipity as well. Absolutely massive.
Pojedynek typu tank kontra...
Could potentially even put together a big Dialga play if something like a Thornton is in the deck. If not, still something that he could have a possibility to do, because there is no form of disruption, as Nestball is going to be another Duraludon. But yeah, it's looking good here for Chris. Takes the first 2, just has to worry about the next 4.
Yeah, and you know, this is a spot here where, you know, Chris could have grabbed a Dialga, but not having 2 Duraludon down means that, you know, Dialga's really not getting a lot of value. You got to kind of power it up in 1 turn to have a good shot in a matchup like this. Still very solid for Chris here. Takes the first 2 prize cards. Does also find the Iron Bundle. You know, could be a potential card down the line if there's only 2 prize Pokemon in play. In this case, though, we'll see how much impact it truly has. As now, if you're in Ross's shoes, things didn't go according to plan. Things went exactly how your opponent wanted to. How do you bounce back in this spot?
So a perfect way to come back is, yes, Ross only took 1 prize last turn, but he has the capability here to take 3, right? Amp you very much into something like the Squawkabilly. It means you take 3 prizes, and you're back to like an even prize race. You essentially took a 2-2-2, but with extra steps. But I believe he's missing a lightning energy. He's missing an attachment for turn here to really make use. His hand is not too much, to be honest. As
it's like tandem unit right now, right? So the Magneton or Magnemite will come down, and that is another card that has been a big inclusion from these recent sets. That Magneton's ability is just so strong. You give up the prize, but it's for so much value in this deck.
No, and sometimes that prize doesn't even matter since you've been giving up 2 prize Pokemon anyway. Putting your opponent down to 1 doesn't matter as much as if you're winning the game.
Exactly.
As Rotom V is the grab, you think there's a world where it's just an instant charge this turn?
Yeah, I think if you instant charge, there's really no coming back at this spot, especially if your opponent takes another 2. That's the big question, right? Lost Pheasantipity.
That's a nice coming.
Looks like, oh, there's nothing going on.
Yeah,
Latias EX and Boss's orders, and you know, Ross is maybe considering just to take the 2 prize cards out right here in this spot. Will bring up the Squawkabilly, excuse me, so many birds in play between, you know, both of these players, the Squawkabilly, the Pheasantipity. Ross Coffin goes to 3 prize cards, but is still going to now be 2 knockouts away because while Squawkabilly went down to Arm Press, it didn't get an extra prize card taken on it, thanks to Envy very much, and that's a big, crucial missing piece here.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Ross's chance here is he has to hope this Iron Hands EX eats up a hit, essentially buying him that 1 more turn to try and take strikes. Because if Christopher Silver does what he wants to do and just takes 2 and another 2 prizes, he should end up to win this game. As Stadium is bumped, that means we do have to discard 3 Pokemon.
The bump is there. Oh, this is a big choice here now for Chris, though. Does have the Luminion, but while you will be using the Night Stretcher to put Luminion into play to play another boss's orders, now another Amp You Very Much target has come into play.
Widzę, że tutaj jest
risky, if you're in Chris's spot,
a nie, zaraz, chodzi
so
tutaj
while you are
Black
putting
Belt's
Luminion to play,
training,
you're going to
który
be
podbija
removing this Iron Hands. It's a little bit better, but another door has now opened up for Ross to potentially find a way back into this game after it seems like doors keep shutting and opening and shutting over and over again.
It's just a matter of, did he draw his boss's orders from his deck? Does he have access to something like the Magneton? Yeah, there is a window of opportunity here for Ross.
And a little interesting choice of sequencing there. We did see Luminion grab the supporter first. You know, if Chris maybe was just a little bit more patient and used the Pheasantipity first, could have avoided potentially finding or having to bench the Luminion V, and meaning he would be in total control of winning this game. Now, you know, there's a slight creek open for Ross, and good players like him, they're going to pry that door open with all the tools they have in their bag.
Yeah, promoting the Raikou V means getting 1 extra card. Could be the world. Looking at the hand, I see the boss orders. There's a Lightning Energy as well. I believe it's missing the Magneton. Oh no, yeah, just the Magneton. There's an Ultra Ball.
That is the perfect top deck, I think. The question now here for Ross is there an Iron Hands in the deck, and is there a Magneton in the deck? And I think that's exactly what Ross wanted to find. Here we go. Tandem unit, gonna look through the deck. As long as there's an Iron Hands and the Magneton, Ross may have found the blessed Fleetfoot to get himself in this game. The big question now is, can he discard the cards from his hand with Ultra Ball? I think he's got this here, Wancho. As you said, it doesn't matter if you put your opponent to 1 prize card if you're winning the game, as Ultra Ball can grab the Magneton, power up this Iron Hands, and out of nowhere, Luminion V is a prime target for a feasting Pokemon like Iron Hands EX.
Ooh, just like that. Chris was thinking, just dealt with an Iron Hand, but here's another one again, thanks to that Magneton. Out of nowhere here, didn't have to use any generators. Just using the Magneton's ability to
No i Thank you very much za 3 prizy. No to pierwszy wygrał Reskoton mimo trudniejszych chwil. O ja, piękne. Free prize turn. To tak nie robił.
And you see that's where Magneton really shines, and that's where Raikou really shines. Just needed 1 card. You know, had potential options there, was thinking about, you know, whether to use the tandem unit first, whether to potentially use, you know, a different ability, but wanted to leave the bench space open because, you know, you never know what you're going to get off that 1 card. Do you find a Night Stretcher for Pheasantipity? Then you get to draw 3 more cards. What do those options look like? Ross deciding how to sequence everything through perfectly and gets rewarded with finding the perfect card, Ultra Ball, to help him close out this first game.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the quick replay here again. Iron Hands EX, just the MVP for Ross Coffin. Again, took knockouts, even if it wasn't Amp You Very Much knockouts. Those were very, very key indeed. And again, just taking the 2 prizes off the Squawkabilly, using a boss's orders. I believe that was the 1 boss's orders in the deck, but 1 boss finds another. And again, looking at this hand, Raikou for the game, absolutely huge.
Yeah, Iron Hands was a star of the show. It used, you never really see this card use Arm Press more than it used Ampu very much, but it did in that game. Arm Press was just exactly what it was needed to take these knockouts, close the game out, and it was really the combination of the Magneton, energy acceleration, plus the threat of Iron Hands to either just knock out these 2-prize or 1-prize Pokemon.
Ciężkości, no to dał radę. No. Granie znowu wokół parka Ludona jest dosyć istotne.
Instinctively just going to put the prizes to the left side, gotta put them on the right, see what these prizes look like for both of these players, and there is some bad news for both. We're gonna have some crucial cards unavailable. We'll see how these players navigate through the game. Chris, we'll be starting things again. First here will be the concealed cards to kick things off. Are there any benched Pokemon?
I believe there's an Ultra Ball at the very least, but that is one pricey Duraludon you're about to find, I'm sure. But at least we're living.
We could potentially be living, but let's not forget, of course, you know, Iron Bundle can switch a Pokemon to the active spot, and, you know, Ampu very much can take 2 prizes, but, you know, knocking out your opponent's only attacking threat is essentially taking 2 prizes at the same time. There are those prizes for Chris. 2 Duraludon in the prizes, so we'll only have access to 2, not playing any cards like the Hisuian Heavy Ball to fetch Pokemon out of the prize cards.
Yeah, luckily there are Night Stretchers. As long as we can establish 2, if when one gets knocked out, we can try and still grab 1. But at this point, I'd worry more about getting to that point. Finding your 2 Duraludon, which getting 2 prize definitely makes it tougher, as I believe there were some tough prizes for Ross's side as well. I believe I saw a pink card, so maybe not have as much thinning ability, but again here does get Chris does get the attachment for turn. Does have an okay next turn at the very least, but we just have to get to that next turn.
Does again find that turn 1 jamming tower. That is exactly what you want to find, because you see in the hand here for Ross, Forest Seal Stone is just not an option. You can't use that Forest Seal Stone unless something like the stadium can be found, and a little choice here from Ross is actually going to play the Arven before Nest Ball, and because of this, I'm sure wanted to grab Secret Box. We'll see that card is not in the prize cards, and now has invested his supporter, thinking that there was a Secret Box in play, and now has to potentially reroute his entire turn in his head to find a way to put himself in a winning position.
Yes, again, those stadium cards are a little bit tougher to find. There are not too many cards in the format can really find them in the deck, besides something like this Secret Box. So getting that card prize, again, means no access to Forest Seal Stone. We might not see such an explosive turn here from Ross, but I'm curious to see what can happen. It doesn't take too much, right? You mentioned it earlier, the Iron Bundle, and just any attack. Even if we don't take 2 prizes, if we take care of the only threat on the board, that may just be good enough.
It's getting to that point, like you said, Wancho, that is the most important. Ross is now going to take opportunity to just see what pieces are available, deciding what to take off of this Arven. You know, it's not just the Forest Seal Stone being shut off. Even something like the Rescue Board to allow the Pikachu to retreat to the bench can be an important unavailable piece. This could be a potential turn.
No kuźwa, muszę przyciąć. Tak, Disaster Pisa nie można uciąć.
Forest Seal Stone, excuse me, already in the hand, so Rescue Board plus the Electric Generator by the Nest Ball. And it looks like we'll be seeing a Miraidon come into play yet again, use that tandem unit, and fill the bench up.
I'm curious to see if he's going to choose to grab a second Miraidon as well, just because of how limited he is without that Area 0 Underdepths. That's always the tough choice for me, if you just grab the 2 good Pokemon you want in the deck, or a bank on expanding your field a little bit later.
So Miraidon is the choice, tandem unit now being used. And this is the big choice for Ross. Maybe potentially thinking in his head, how likely is it that I find not only the attack, but also the Iron Bundle? Do I just go for an energy-efficient attacker like Raikou in this spot? Do I try and get greedy for, you know, Iron Hand's Arm Press? It's going to be easy for me to use Ampu very much next turn. This is where he's got to really think about what probability looks like so he can make the most calculated risk in order to kind of get the best of both worlds in this spot.
And just like you said, looks like it is going to be an energy-efficient attack. I was wondering if he was going to bench a second Miraidon, but he doesn't even bench a second Pokemon at this point. Oh, looks like the second Miraidon was prized, but doesn't even choose to bench a second Pokemon.
Yeah, may have, you know, enough Pokemon in the hand. I do think we saw Squawkabilly is already there, so that could potentially, you know, draw some more cards, wants to have that as a space. And we're actually just going to see the Electric Generator for 5. Big hit there. The last 2 cards, 2 Lightning Energy. Raikou now fully powered up, and this means, you know, you can attach the Pikachu EX and just kind of solve your pivoting issue right here and right now by manually retreating and still being able to use that Lightning Rondo attack.
That means all we're looking for here potentially is grabs that Iron Bundle. Trying to do the math here. If 5 Pokemon on Ross's side plus that 1 means we're doing 140.
That's correct.
So after the Iron Bundle, you still need 1 more Pokemon to take that knockout potentially. As Raichu V does hit the board and that Force Seal Stone, which doesn't work at the moment, as well as that rescue board.
Yeah, it's actually going to go ahead and just attach the rescue board to Miraidon, accepting that, you know, there's a high probability I'm going to need to find something else in the stadium here. Does find the stadium, and the Nest Ball. What a huge cards to be found. The Nest Ball can grab Iron Bundle, and there's actually another Nest Ball in the hand. Those 2 are super important. That means the Hyper Blower gets used, and then a new Pokemon can fix the bench spot. Ross found almost the perfect 6 cards here on that spot.
Not too bad. Who needs to thin the deck? Who needs your A-Spec? Again, these Miraidon decks, they're big basics, so there are just so many consistency cards in the deck, so many ball searches as Nestball is going to find that Hyper Blower. And I don't like Chris's spot here if the lone Duraludon is about to go down.
Duraludon brought up to the active spot. The chill from Iron Bundle, meaning there's no escape. Duraludon comes into the active spot, and now for Ross, he's going to be able to grab that last Pokemon he wants, and even has the Area 0 in hand. Could play it down this turn, hold it for next turn, but it means either way, the bench can be extended at a future point.
I like the grab here of the Magnemite. You know, it is your stage 1 Pokemon, but it'll fly. Opting for the Latias instead. Maybe conserve the energy on that Pikachu for, you know, a later big Raichu attack potentially. I like that as well. So not too bad there. And again, still has the option potentially. Maybe a little bit later. Doesn't have to necessarily spend the bench right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think another point to note is, you know, you're not really in a rush to put Magnemite down this turn, and you've got a great way to search those lightning Pokemon with Tandem Unit.
Yes.
So grab the non-lightning Pokemon right now, next turn deal with that issue, and we'll see, you know, a little bit of a boost to end the turn off, that nice fleet-footed ability. Maybe not as clutch as that one at the end of game 1, but it will still be Ross taking the first knockout, and Chris is left with just the Greninja and has to play the Iono, hoping to find these Pokemon off these 6 cards. Otherwise, he's in deep trouble.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, there is only 1 Duraludon left in the deck. Could be harder to find, but luckily there are a lot of ball search options still.
Oh, does find the Night Stretcher, but we're sort of in the same predicament as turn 1. If you Night Stretcher for the Duraludon and it's the only Pokemon on your bench, Ross can play that 1 copy of the Night Stretcher to then just do the same thing all over again thanks to Area 0. Go ahead and bring the Pokemon up, see what else is there. And the big find, however, getting bailed out with concealed cards. It is the Nest Ball for another Duraludon. That problem, no longer a thing.
For a second there, I was thinking, Ethan, it might be even worth it to bench the Squawkabilly just to protect that Duraludon, but luckily, again, Nestball failing us out, but a little bit risky here, opting to grab the Pheasantipity EX. Yes, this does protect Chris from something like the Iron Bundle, but if he doesn't find a way to get a second Duraludon here, he is still susceptible to something like a boss's orders.
A little bit of a risk here. Gonna go ahead and hope to find the Duraludon plus some other cards. Here we go, big 3 cards. It's gonna have to be either the 1 copy left or another Nest Ball, and doesn't find that at all. He is in essentially a very similar spot in this situation. Has lots of powerful pieces, but those pieces mean nothing when you don't have an attacker to have go ahead and use them as a compliment.
Yeah, you still have access to something like the Scoop Up Cyclone to pick up Greninja and try and reuse that to try and draw more. Might have been worth it there just because we're a little bit in a desperate spot.
Wow, it's just going to be a pass over. Chris still left with just 1 Duraludon in play. The only thing you know that Ross has to be kind of conservative about or careful about is potentially something like a Thornton to change out that Pokemon. But that may not even be an option in this spot. We're going to see the Bravery Charm being put on Raikou. That now puts it out of range. And there's another boss's orders. Ross has taken the first 2, but in an even more dominating fashion since there's going to be no attack response from Chris on this following turn.
Absolutely massive here. Chris, unfortunately, getting punished for getting a little greedy with the 3 cards. Top decks, Metal Energy. Again, goal is to at least find a way to get 2.
Wow, we're just gonna go ahead and ditch the hand, getting rid of everything. You could, you know, if you wanted to, at least use the Greninja, then use the Scoop Up Cyclone, draw some more cards. But Chris is like, enough of this. I want to see a fresh 7. I don't want anything to do with this hand. And those are probably some of the best 7 cards you can find, all things considered. Nest Ball for the last Duraludon on the deck, and the Night Stretcher to get that back. This turn, Wancho, it's got to be getting you down, or this is not going to be a good spot.
Yes, I feel like an Archaludon will hit the board at the very least. But again, is it too little too late? Yes, Ross is taking 2 knockouts, 2 prize cards. There's a Pheasantipity in play, which is an easy 2. There's the Radiant Greninja that could potentially be a 2, and again, just so many energy already in board without even having to use something like the Magnemite. And only 1 electric generator as well.
Yeah, there's still so many resources. Hasn't even used that Forest Seal Stone star power. That's still a potential option. Night Stretcher being utilized. It's going to be that other Duraludon coming down into play. And does still have access to flip the script, so can still draw even more cards to fill the hand up, but draw as you may. If you're not taking prize cards at a even close to similar rate as Ross is with his fast lightning aggro deck, you're not going to be able to come back in this game. Chris has got to go in the tank. It's going to leave the Radiant Greninja active, and now there's several ways that Ross can go ahead and take another 2 prize cards this turn. You've got Amp and even a knockout on that Pheasantipity. Still a really poor spot, and Ross is still in the driver's seat.
Yeah, a lot of options. I wanted to see, again, from that earlier hand, before the research, there were a lot of options. There was the energy to try and draw a little bit more. Yes, you may lose it from the research. Maybe that's what Chris was thinking, but maybe even just using the Pheasantipity at the very least, draw 3 cards, and then picking it up, getting it out of harm's way and discarding it. Just because you really have to deny your opponent prize cards at this point of the game, especially when you're behind. And again, 2 liabilities right now may be maybe too much.
The big piece here missing, though, for Ross, I'm sure would love to establish something like Iron Hands, but with there being no Area 0 underdepths, there's no bench space for this Iron Hands to start receiving energy via attachments or electric generators. And while Ross can, go to 3 prizes in this spot, how much is he really going to be advancing his board this turn? Don't get me wrong, still in a comfortable spot, but this could be, one thing that, later down the line could come back to bite him a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, I believe the Area 0 underdepths was in hand, so if he wanted to, he could try and do that, but looks like it is going to be the electric generator. 2 cards anyway.
Does find those 2 energy. And the supporter card has already been used for turn, so there's no way for Miraidon EX to knock out something like Pheasantipity, but with it now, potentially being fully powered up, it means, come next turn, if Pheasantipity is still in play, Boss's Orders can secure another 2 prize cards for Ross to put him just 1 prize card away from winning the set.
Yes, I like this. Ross splitting up the energy just to make sure that 2 Pokemon are 1 energy attachment away from attacking. Definitely better placement there. But again, just so much energy in the field. This is very, very intimidating. The Raikou V, again, does have 250 HP, but thanks to the jamming tower still in play, that means still only has 200. So a knockout is lined up at the very least.
Attach.
Looks like attachment for turn onto potentially the Miraidon. I feel like there's really not a better place to put it. You could, put it on something like the Squawkabilly, or I guess on the Pikachu. Hold on, Ross. You don't want your energies there. That Pikachu can't attack. There's no grass or metal energy in this deck. But, the good thing about Pikachu with Resolute Heart, its energies are always going to be safe.
Yes, it's technically the safest place for this energy. Because of its ability, it's never going to get knocked out, unless we're going to 2-shot it. As we move back now to Chris with 2 Duraludon in play. At least a better board state.
Nice, yeah.
And a nice 3 cards there from Flip the Script. Does find Boss's Orders, has the Duraludon, or excuse me, the Archeludon in the hand, and one of those last couple of energy cards. So that Earthen Vessel. So while Chris can take 2 prize cards here and he's not in threat of losing, the question still remains, Wancho. For Chris, is this still too big of a hill to climb with the 3 prize deficit?
It's a very, very big hill to climb, but again, Duraludon is a very big Pokemon that can potentially climb that hill. Would love to see maybe something like a knockout on the Raichu, potentially, maybe, just to protect your Duraludon a little bit more. Nothing else on the field really threatens, the Duraludon.
Yeah, that could be a good potential. You could even potentially use a, Professor Turo this turn to pick up the Pheasantipity, so it limits, your opponent's options on the following turn. They've got to, use that big dynamic spark to take a knockout. Instead, it will be, like you said, Wancho, Boss's Orders on the Raichu, knocking it out. And now Ross has not only a bench space open, but also still plenty of energy in play, plenty of attackers in play. Now has to just decide what he wants to allocate this Pokemon to be on the last bench spot. And it looks like there's 2 great options, the Pheasantipity and the Lumineon, but it's not an easy choice.
That's for sure, maybe I was hoping Raikou maybe just bails him out there, finds the Boss's Orders. Again, it has to be the boss's orders here if he wants to take a prize at the very least. Could maybe target down something like the Duraludon instead. He is in the odd prize deficit, right? Take the knockout on the Duraludon and then take the 2 prizes later. Some way, somehow, maybe something like set up the Magnemite plus something like a Rescue Stretcher, excuse me. There's a lot of ways to take 2 prizes, but yeah, we need to find some prize right here, right now.
And you see the lack of Area Zero being in play is really just limiting Ross on his total options, not just for attackers, but also for support. Would love to also put this Pheasantipity in play, maybe start to get the Magnemite down as well, but all those options are just not going to be online because without the secret box, there's just no way to search the stadium out. You've got to just naturally draw into it, which this deck plays no real draw supporters, and that's a tough task.
That's for sure.
Tak na
That's why
Rajku
we
jest
have to depend on Pokemon
wydany,
like
tak
these
tak
Leminion to
tego.
find some key cards like this boss's orders. So Ross definitely going to take a prize this turn. Again, would love to see the knockout Duraludon. From there, I'd like to see Chris maybe just have the lone bridge, right? Try and find a way to use the Professor's Churro, remove any more liabilities. If Ross takes 1 more knockout, he wins the game after this. So maybe just the lone bridge to win it all, really. We are going to see the boss's orders. It is going to be on the Duraludon.
Yep, so it is going to be on the Duraludon. So, you know, we'll force Ross to 2 prize cards. He'll have, as you mentioned, the Archaludon as an option. And if the Pheasantipity is not removed out of play, that will be another option. We'll see if Chris, you know, sees this line to maybe just play the Professor Turo, pick up this Pheasantipity, say, look, if you got the Night Stretcher plus the Electric Generator, I have no way to stop you. Or will he go for maybe a disruptive route with Iono to put Ross down to a low hand size, especially since he doesn't have pieces? It looks like it's going to be the first one. Okay, Chris, picking up this Pheasantipity. It's just a bridge and a dream right here. Archaludon against the world. Raikou will be knocked out. Chris will go down to 2 prize cards, and you know, it's not all said and done here for Ross. He's still going to need a few pieces. Let's see if he can put it together.
I'm trying to think of how he can take a knockout here. He's going to need to find that Raichu again with that Night Stretcher, but this... Instead of depending on something consistent like the Magneton, he's going to need to use Electric Generator once again to at least hit 1 card. Does find the Electric Generator. Do we have the Night Stretcher?
No Night Stretcher in hand, and the big thing is you can play Pheasantipity down here to draw 3 cards, but if you don't find Area Zero, you're not going to have space for that Raichu. Ross now has to think about how he wants to proceed with his turn to maximize his outs. It's either, you know, you can't even Fleet Foot for 1. The Raikou is gone. I think there is no choice other than benching this Pheasantipity. I think he's just debating, do I play Ultra Ball first? Do I just play the Pheasantipity? Here we go, big 3 cards. Does he find a Stadium? No Stadium card here. That means without any space for another Pokemon in play, it's just the Miraidon and 5 other Pokemon that can do nothing but sit around and cheer on Miraidon to knock it out. But no matter how much they cheer, this Pokemon is not going to be doing enough. And in fact, it will just be knocked out from another attack from Metal Defender.
Yeah, Ross's best play here is to do nothing. Hide behind that Pikachu. Pikachu can eat at least 1 hit, maybe 1 more turn.
And it's just going to be a pass over and top deck. That's going to seal things out.
No I taki top deck potem,
totally
no to Christopher C, no to mamy 1-1.
Chris Silver comes back and forces a game 3.
Huge props to Chris Silver finding that way to bring him back into the game. He was so far behind. Ross Cotton took 3 prize cards before we even saw a single Archaludon. But again, Chris finding that way. Lone Archaludon for the win.
What a game. This is, you know, how you draw things up for comebacks in the Pokemon TCG. Did everything he could, took a knockout on the Raichu, and then just combined that with the Professor Turo. Who knows here, you know, naturally having those 2 Duraludon prized could have been the key to victory there for Chris, just to give him easy access into that route of leaving just a single Pokemon. But like you mentioned, Wancho, all domination for Ross. There was no safe play for these Duraludons to come down.
Yeah, I feel like things could have been different if instead of the Raikou attacking, Ross was taking 2 prize cards with the Iron Hands, which is the most ideal board state. But you can't have it all. I mean, he did what he wanted to do. Took knockouts on the only threat. But Chris Silver, again, it's not that hard to set up the Archaludon, and all it takes is 1. All it takes is 1, 300 HP. How do you deal with me?
Yeah, and again, it really just have to go out and highlight not having Area Zero was really the one piece Ross was missing. You know, just having even 1 turn to extend the bench means, you know, if your opponent does ever play another Stadium card to remove yours, you get to discard all the liabilities and keep the important Pokemon in play. Just having that secret box unavailable as an option really could cause a big fixture here. But we don't have a lot of time left in this game. Ross is going to be going first in game 3, and you're going to see him put on the Jets. He understands with 15 minutes left, going first against our Chaladon, he's in a dominating spot if he draws what he needs to be able to win this set.
I respect the option to go first, just because our Talon is an evolving deck. It does need a turn to at least set up. Maybe Ross here is trying to get like that one little extra energy attachment, that one extra turn to set things up a little bit better. And with Ultra Ball able to go through the deck, I believe nothing too important prize. Maybe the Zapdos here for Ross. Actually, Zapdos, Latias, and the Magneton. These are actually all really tough prize cards.
Yeah, you can use the Heavy Ball to grab out both the basic Pokemon, but the Magneton being prized, you got no access other than taking knockouts to find that out of the prizes. We saw how crucial that was for Ross to close out game 1. I'm sure we'll be hoping that he doesn't need that backup net to close the game out. As he starts this first turn off, looks like immediately thinking about grabbing Squawkabilly. That means he may not have a lot of other resources. It's just going to be the Miraidon, so not bad, can fill the bench up, but there's nothing like Electric Generator or maybe some other important, you know, tools or items or even stadiums to put into play. It's just going to go ahead and use the Squawk and Seize, see what these 6 cards are, and also decide what basics he wants to put into play with this tandem unit.
I mean, there's not that much Ross really needs this turn. Really, an energy attachment and a fresh hand of cards. I don't think you can ask for more. But Miraidon being able to find something like the Rotom V. I think Rotom V is such a great addition to these Miraidon decks. It makes going first, blind going first anyway, hurt a little less. Sure. And really, again, Ross is going to find, what, 9 fresh cards here?
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of options. We'll end the turn off with, you know, at most a 9-card hand. You know, he can maybe plays down a few more cards. It's just a little bit more boost of a consistency. You know, Chris does have Iono in his deck. It may not be his ideal supporter card, so having that as an option, always solid. You'll see the Bravery Charm come down onto the Iron Hands. That means it puts it out of range from, you know, a Black Belt's training to potentially take the knockout. Of course, with having the 280 HP instead. Now the choice here after using Restart is, does he want to get rid of these resources? Those actually would have been pretty solid cards to find off of the Squawk and Seize. Is essentially just going to have to discard all 3 to see 6 more cards. And that's not bad at all. A couple of Generator, the Stadium for next turn, and of course, let's not forget Instant Charge can boost the hand up to give him more options the following turn.
Question is, do we use the Generators now? Looks like Ross is going to choose to do that. So possibly protect from an Iono. Finds 2 off the Generator, attaches both to the Iron Hands EX.
Double Lightning Energy. Iron Hands becoming a threat immediately, threatening Ampu very much on the following turn. We still have to point out, though, he's missing that Zapdos in the prize cards means, as it stands, Ampu very much will not be able to knock out Duraludon, so that is still something Ross has got to keep in the back of his mind as he plays his turn out. We're firing another one off. Do we see another 2 energy? No, it is just the 1, and you see him full committing to Iron Hands, knows how valuable this Pokemon is in this matchup, and for good reason.
Yeah, that's for sure, and not gonna lie, this is a pretty ideal going second board at the moment.
Sure, yeah, this is something that you usually would be able to do with a supporter card. I mean, Ross wasn't even able to do that with a supporter in game number 1. He's done it without in game number 3 with turn 1, and can even just draw more cards, so he has plenty of options to work with on the following turn.
A lot of pressure here from Chris's side of the field. Looking at the hand, it does have the Stadium, but I don't see any Duraludons just yet.
It does have the energy in hand. I'm wondering maybe if he wants to use something like the concealed cards now. It's always a risk, you know, if you hold off on using the ability, not using it now and not drawing into Metal Energy could be a risk. Chris is willing to go ahead and take that risk, playing the Iono, seeing 6 cards, and hoping he's not in a Duraludon shortage again. Game number 3, looking to get 2 of those down so he can at minimum attack next turn.
Very, very tough. Talk about the disparage in like the board state and card scene. There is a Duraludon, there's the Nest Ball. Chris is going to be able to stabilize, hasn't even used concealed cards yet, but things got scary there for a second.
Hasn't used concealed cards, but there's now kind of a big reliance off of Greninja here, or even the question of, do you use Greninja? What do you think, Wancho, about using Greninja to maybe not have a way to retreat? That way you avoid Amp? Or do you think you just have to draw the cards here to keep yourself in this game?
Because Iono was played the last turn instead of something like a Research. There's no Metal Energy yet in the discard pile. I don't think I saw an Ultra Ball, but in any case, I think we still need Metal Energy in the discard pile. Seeing 2 fresh cards as well could be good. We may lose 2 prizes here with a Radiant Greninja, but that may just have to be the risk we take.
So here it goes, concealed cards. What do we see? 2 fresh cards. This is going to be the last actions of Chris's turn. Does find another Nest Ball. There's now a trio of Ultra Ball in the hand. Could we be seeing Duraludon number 3 come down? You know, it is nice to get those into play, but I always wonder, you know, how valuable is something like Pheasantipity versus that card on the following turn? And you see him, you know, now kind of thinking, do I even go for this? Even, you know, potentially thinking about preemptively grabbing the Pheasantipity. It will be the choice, making sure that Flip the Script is on and available next turn. Does seem a little bit unnecessary, though, knowing your opponent doesn't have hand disruption in their deck.
That's for sure. Maybe would have loved seeing, if we're going to put liability into play, maybe something like, I'm sorry, Chris doesn't play Dialga. So
it's a lie. No Dialga.
That's for sure. So I would have loved maybe seeing just a second Duraludon, but maybe Chris hedging there, played the nest ball already. 2 Duraludon should be enough.
And finds the heavy ball, the big find we were talking about last turn. Zapdos is now available. Won't be needed for the Screaming Greninja, but you never know if your opponent's going to leave one of those Duraludon in play and give you an opportunity to take 2 prizes with Ampy very much.
Yeah, and Chris is going to need a lot to deal with the Iron Hands. Again, Iron Hands by itself has 230 HP, which is already out of range from Duraludon. Adding the Bravery Charm, 280, now puts it out of range of something, even if he had something like the Black Belt. So, again, luckily the Jamming Tower is still in play. I believe Ross does have a Stadium Bump in any case. No, there's no Area 0.
So it looks like just thinking through the options, plenty of cards to work with, has not committed an energy attachment for turn. Now with the Pheasantipity being in play, may just be worth putting energy on Miraidon to threaten that Photon Blaster later on. There is Iron Hands EX and an Ampu very much. Ross Coffin yet again taking the first 2 prize cards, putting himself in a spot where he is just 2 knockouts away from closing this game out. If you're Chris here, you're staring down a huge Pokemon, you're unable to knock it out in 1 hit, and you're still lacking a lot of resources. Flip the Script, it does find the boss's orders, but I'm not sure there's 2 Metal Energy available, so that boss can be played in combination with an Archaludon attack.
Yeah, that's the tough thing here. There's no way to discard energy in this hand. You have 3 Ultra Balls in hand. You use this research. You draw 7. How are you getting that Metal Energy into the discard pile at this point? You need to depend on your last Ultra Ball, maybe something like an Earthen Vessel, hopefully. Very, very tough. Again, Pheasantipity was used there before something like the research to try and draw into energy. Very, very tough spot here for Chris.
Does find the Archaludon, but you know, that Assembly Alloy is just, you know, not going to cut it at this point. You're going to have to use, I guess, 1 Duraludon now and then hope you draw into energy later and then accelerate again with your other one, but then you're going to leave only 1 Duraludon fully powered up, and if you don't put another Dura in play, things can spiral out of control. Essentially, this is dire in this spot. We're just going to see 1 energy accelerated and not even going to play the other Ultra Ball, just playing Professor's Research, you know, could have thinned the Squawkabilly out of the deck just to not draw into that piece if it wasn't already discarded. Here we go, big 7 cards. Finds the Earthen Vessel and the energy to discard, but is missing the Archaludon to go along with it. And now not only is Chris left at 2 prizer in the active spot, not only is he not responding with damage, but he's also not responding with an attack whatsoever in this spot as things continue to spiral out of control. Just an attachment and passing things back over to Ross.
This is possibly the worst spot Chris can find himself in. Again, maybe he should have left the Archaludon in the deck. I mean, getting 1 energy doesn't help out as much, and you're going to have to find another Archaludon anyway. Very, very tough position. Ross, however, top decking the secret box, will be able to find an Area 0 underdepth at the very least. Could we see a knockout here on something like the Duraludon?
Yeah, is maybe debating if it's worth, you know, going for this secret box now. You know, you may only get 1 Stadium Bump consistently in this game. So is this the opportunity to fill your bench up? And I mean, you maybe agree or disagree with me, Wancho, but I think now is best.
Yeah.
You know, get those Magneton into play, or rather the Magnemite, and if you draw into the Magneton, you're going to have a really easy way to close this game out. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to get those pieces into play if you get Iono'd later on.
Yes, grabbing a supporter as well, an item. These are all great things to do literally right now, and honestly, Ross is just in such a comfortable position. He has boss's orders in hand. He can take 2 prizes on something like the Duraludon if he has the bench space open. Very, very good spot.
Yeah, and that's another question here. You know, the Duraludon, thanks to the Zapdos being found with the prizes, that's Ampu very much for 2. Or there's the Pheasantipity in play, which can be knocked out by Photon Blaster. You know, assuming all energy is where you want them, Wancho, what do you go for in this spot?
I like taking the knockout on the Duraludon just because that is the Pokemon that can evolve and then turn into a bigger pain later, while Pheasantipity sits there and is 2 prizes for you to take, unless, of course, Chris picks it up, just like he did the previous game. But this time, the difference is this Magnemite. Magnemite was missing from Ross's second game, and this is a way to really power up something like the Raichu out of nowhere. Electric Generator, cherry on top, 1 energy attached at the very least.
Yeah, and that 1 energy is big because, like I mentioned, it now opens the door for Ross. He's got to decide, do you go for the knockout on Pheasantipity? We remember last turn he held off on knocking out Pheasantipity, and then not having access to those 2 prizes at the end of the game because of that Professor Turo ended up costing him. So I have to wonder if he's maybe thinking back to that, or if he's going to trust his gut again in game number 3 and hope it proves him right.
Yes, seeing the Zapdos put into play there makes me feel like he's going for that play. Even has the Pheasantipity of his own. Now, essentially Iono-proofing him, because he is very, very, very close to winning this set. Attachment for turn. He hasn't even attached for turn yet. He hasn't even used a V-Star power yet. Still has access to something like the Seal Stone he can attach now.
Boss.
It's going to be the boss's orders on that Duraludon.
Duraludon comes up, so we're seeing almost a repeat here so far of what has happened in the second game. Don't count Chris out. He still has one shot. The big issue, though, and the reason I think this play is really great from Ross, is he can't play boss's orders and play the Turo the same turn here for Chris. And we didn't even mention the Scoop Up Cyclone is in the prize cards here for Chris Silver. He does not even have access to that card. Understands he needs to take prizes. We'll see the knockout get played, but Ross is going to have access to so many cards this turn. Let's see if we can close things out.
Getting the knockout there on the Miraidon, I feel like might have been just the best case scenario at the very least. That does remove a way to get the Raichu. Never mind, it's in the head anyway. And the Magneton.
He's got it all. Magneton plus Raichu, and the boss's orders means Raichu will pump out more than enough damage with
I to jeszcze przed turą terminacji.
Ross Coffin putting on